Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Geek First podcast. A very special episode. Special Geek First episode as we are about to review Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I am the number one Kylo Ren fanboy, Travis Snell.
I'm Adam Hartcaster, Dylan Musk.
I am the Dark Lord of the Sith, Kirklin.
I am all the Jedi, Taylor Field.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't guessed by the title or our nicknames, everything like that, like I said, we're reviewing Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker. Just go back and we've reviewed a bunch of things this month. If you're into Star Wars, we got the Clone Wars retrospective. Me and Taylor reviewing every single episode before the February revival. We got The Mandalorian. Next week's the finale, but we reviewed all 7 episodes beforehand, so lots of good discussion there. And check out everything else we've done as far as movies, reviews, stuff like that. We still got some great content coming in the next few months. We got lots of best ofs and some wrap-ups and some 2020 previews. It's going to be a really good time. We got some reviews. I'm probably going to review The Witcher, and then I'm going to review you. Somebody will join me in those. If not, you'll see just this nice little face. But lots of stuff coming on in the near future. But today it's all about Star Wars. So if you've not joined us for a review before, we do a non-spoilers portion. Just do we recommend it? Do we like it? Dislike it? And then we will give you the 3, 2, 1. And you know, I'm going to say it because it's Kylo Ren. And it's I
just say it.
I want to say it.
You get to say
so someone's getting it through to it. I'm saying it, and then yeah, we'll get into spoilers. So that's your chance to come back later if you haven't seen it and whatnot. So
Easy.
Who wants to start off with? I think we should start with Taylor. Let's switch it up a little bit. I want to start with Taylor. Yeah.
We should go Taylor, Dylan, me, then you.
I think starting with Taylor's risky.
No, yeah, I like what Kirklin said. Let's bounce back and forth. You know, that's some good chemistry going on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll end it.
Yeah.
I won't make this risky, Dylan.
In this man's career.
And to preference this in a rarity, I don't think we've talked about it that much, this movie. You two
Not at
saw it
all.
together. I saw
checked
it with
your
I had to
Twitter.
leave immediately because Briggs was. I was putting on my jacket. Briggs was out of the theater. He was fucking gone.
He was gone.
I walked down to the lobby. He was like right at the door. He like looked mad at me that I was still in the theater. I'm like, dude, I just want to sit and just
Soaking
take
it a
this
bit,
in.
yeah.
He's fucking gone.
He
so.
was gone like the wind.
Yeah, I saw it with Emily, and then you saw it with Madison. So we all saw it different showings and whatnot. So we haven't talked much. Yeah, Kirk wants to on my Twitter.
I checked your Twitter like 3 times this morning, so I wanted to hear your quick
Everybody. I got 6 texts right after the movie last night.
Oh,
What'd you
Mr.
think?
Popular.
Oh,
I'm so
no.
cool.
100%.
Look at all these people.
Six
wanting to know
texts.
my opinion.
People value my
No.
opinion. I got 6 texts because, like Kirkland says, I usually got my classic Twitter review.
Oh, yeah, I know. I
Not
was
this
looking for it.
time.
You
Not this
caved
time.
with me earlier. You and me talked
Wow.
but you
Whoa.
held out last night.
Whoa.
But
What is
earlier you
DMs?
talked.
But would you
The
say,
secret
do you know if I
council.
like or dislike this movie?
What's that?
Would you say if you know if I like or dislike this movie?
I think I could probably gauge where you are
Okay,
on it.
we'll see. Where are you on it,
You
Taylor?
can feel it in the force.
I definitely really enjoyed this movie. And I don't want people to just think, oh, it's Taylor. He loves everything.
I do think that.
I think that in my mind
You-
every time.
You did fail Scary Stories this year, and you did fail something else.
You've
I
already
can't
started
remember.
off
That's a
differently.
big
Normally, it's
year.
like this movie is fantastic, and then you go into other things. You didn't start with the fantastic,
No, he
so it
didn't.
makes me
Yeah.
think that you're feeling differently than normal.
Well, I'm gonna approach this with a very biased and unbiased you know view at the same
That's
time.
fair. That's fair. Yeah.
And
Can that truly be done? You're
Oh,
gonna,
I'm gonna
so.
do
you're
it.
gonna share both a biased and an unbiased. opinion?
100%.
I think
I
so.
can't wait to hear it.
I see where he's coming
I
from. I
cannot
see where
wait
he's
to hear
coming
it.
from.
So this movie now, obviously, you have the story set up in Force Awakens, and then we had a story carry on in Last Jedi. And I feel like, to me, this movie should have been what our Episode 8 should have been. And that being said, it doesn't mean I have any hatred towards Last Jedi. I think it is a good film. I do enjoy it, but I do feel like this is more of a setting up point to what an Episode 9 could have been had this have been our Episode 8, and it would have done really, really well. I think it could have led to a very, very awesome climactic cinematic finale. Now, what they did have to deal with, I think they did a great job and the best that they could have done with what they had. And with what they did, I really liked, and I'm happy with it. I enjoyed. I understand where many people say like, oh, it was rushed, and there's certain things that were just really just like here and then here really quickly, and you know, it's unfortunate, but it's definitely not the end of the world. Yeah, I could definitely feel it in a couple moments where it took me out of it, but I'm not like honing in on those moments and like hating on it for whatever reason. I still really enjoyed overall the performance and everything that they delivered. I think they made some good choices, and I have a lot of mostly positive notes. I don't think I have anything really like a con. There's a few things I wish that they tackled in another sense, but other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I can honestly say now it is my favorite of the new trilogy.
Say now. I would hope so.
I definitely wasn't sure
When
before.
else could you said before?
Well, it was there with Force Awakens for this trilogy, and I wasn't sure which one I really like more. But then just thinking back, and I'm gonna see it again tomorrow. But I realize now, like, no, just everything about this. Listen to the score a bazillion times over.
Bazillion.
Just the moments in this movie and everything. I had, Last Jedi had a moment where I cried with Yoda. And
Yoda.
Force Awakens never had any moments where I seriously felt super emotionally torn or invested. But this time around, I felt like, okay, I was smiling. I was, I could feel tears like almost like piling up. I could feel so many different things in the theater watching this movie, and I think that's a success. That's good in my books.
I'd say that's a success.
Clean.
Groovy.
Am I up next? I'm
Apparently.
up next.
I have spoken.
Star Wars is such an interesting thing because these episode movies feel like more than just a movie, right? Like they feel like it's like a full experience, right? Like before we go see these movies, we like rewatch all the previous movies in anticipation. Even like now, just having all this Mandalorian and Fallen Jedi, Fallen Order, whatever the fuck it's called, all these things. Like I've really been in the Star Wars space for the last few weeks, and I don't always rewatch all the episodes, but I did going into this one. Which is, that's a lot of movies to get into. And then even, leading into the movie just like days before, like the anticipation's building. Even in our group chat, like we were just popping off all day doing the countdown. Travis is dropping all sorts of Reylo fanfic pictures from all sorts of artists online that were
not safe for work.
Really fun. And then, even like, I don't know, that's why I wanted to just soak in those credits at the very end. Didn't get that experience. But that just breaks for you. But and the thing is, like, that experience is still valid for me, even though I'm not a massive Star Wars fan. Like, I still enjoy getting really into it, especially for the episode films. They feel like more special than Rogue One or whatever that other movie is called. And so I've been thinking about, like, after the movie, I just, sat there for like an hour just taking all sorts of notes and stuff and thinking all day, like, hey, what do I say about this movie? Because it was such a wild experience in the theater. And I don't know, I was thinking, I thought I had like a good analogy, and I was thinking, here's some things I could say, here's some things I can't. And overall, it's just gotten so messy, so much of like a disaster on my mind, like how to put it together. And I think that's kind of the best way I can describe this movie is it is a complete and total mess, if you ask me. The plot is held together by like the finest of string, just ready to break at any moment. There's like even just like plot points, things that like choices are just really wild and incredibly stupid. I just found myself like the last like hour of this movie, I was probably laughing through the whole thing, which is it like reminded me of like Tomb Raider or like Predator, where it's just like how like this movie is so absurd and so dumb that I'm just like having such a good time just laughing at how dumb it is. Which, if you're a big Star Wars fan and that was your experience, and that would be awful, right? You probably wouldn't be laughing like I did. You'd probably be like grimacing in pain at this is what you're getting. But for me, like, I don't have a whole lot of stakes on the line. If this is a garbage movie, it doesn't really change my life. Like, I'm fine with that. So I enjoyed it for what it was, but this movie is not without, like, its many, many problems. It is trying to be so many things, right? It's, like, the end of a trilogy. It's JJ, like, going back to the movie he made. It's, like, retconning what happens in episode 8 in ways, or, like, patching, not really retconning, but, like, patching over it with other things. And then it's like kind of the end of this whole saga of like not like the Skywalker saga, if you will. So it's so many things, but it's just like so messy between that. And then even just like on a technical level, I feel like the writing in a lot of places is just super whack. There really isn't any consequences to like anything that happens. It's just like there's fun set pieces. It's like an amusement park where there's just like all these like fun attractions that you can go to, but the only thing guiding you from place to place is just like, oh yeah, you get off this ride. Oh, that's kind of fun. I'm gonna go over there next, and that's about as interesting as the plot gets. So I don't know. I mean, if you're a Star Wars fan, like you don't need my recommendation. You're gonna go see this because you just got to know for yourself. Yeah. And I think it is a really like I had fun time at the theater, even though I would say on paper I have like all these problems with it. So that's about it. Those are my overall thoughts. It's just a wild, messy movie, and I don't know. I was just laughing my way through it, and that's where I got my enjoyment from. Whatever that means to you, I don't know. Take that and interpret it how you will. But that's kind of my overall spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, this one was interesting because when it ended, I really had to just sit and like think about it because I like the beginning of the movie, it felt very rushed and like convoluted, and I 100% agree with what Taylor said, how this felt like JJ's sequel to The Force Awakens for like a big chunk of the movie. And I would like basically for a huge chunk of from the beginning to I'd say like to 2/3 into the movie, I just kept thinking to myself, like, this should have been just episode 8, honestly. Like he's basically bringing back things that he introduced into episode 7, and then obviously even Rian Johnson's movie Last Jedi, which I am actually a big fan of that one, so I don't want to like bring that movie down, but it just felt very like like it didn't sync together like these last 3 movies properly, in my opinion. You could definitely see that they had like different visions on I don't know what they wanted to do with the movies, and unfortunately when you're switching directors, it doesn't really like work that, I don't know, cohesively. But like honestly, like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like that big Star Wars fan that anytime I can just go to a movie and like see lightsabers and like the Force being used on screen, I'm just like cheerful and like excited to see it. But definitely, like what Dylan said, this movie does not go like without its problems. There's definitely some big issues that I had with it that I'll probably talk about in like the spoiler section. It just, I don't know. I already mentioned like the pacing issues in the beginning. There's certain things that I just didn't think needed to be there. Yeah, but I don't know. Like the last third of the movie, I really, really enjoyed though. I think it really picked up for me. I don't know. I don't want to say why. We'll go into that in the spoiler section. But yeah, overall, it like Dylan said, if you're a Star Wars fan, you really don't need to hear like our sales pitch on why you should go see this movie, because you've probably either seen it already or you have your ticket just because.
Or it was sold out.
Yeah, or it's sold out. Yeah, but like this is the end of like this 42-year saga that we've been going on. So it is cool, and I don't know about everyone else, but I was actually really satisfied with the ending on how they, I don't know. Again, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say too much. I'm walking on thin ice here, but yeah, I like non-spoiler review. I think right now I'd give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10. So.
Ooh, dropping the score at the beginning.
Yeah, but that's
7 or 8 at the end.
7 or 8. Yeah, exactly. So
you gotta wait.
Maybe
it'll change.
Yeah, but like I said, like when I left the theater, I felt like I wasn't as hyped at the end of it like I was on Last Jedi. The Last Jedi, I felt like there was just some really like big intense moments that I was just like, holy shit, that movie was so hype. And obviously I feel like I'm in the minority, or maybe just like the 50% people that liked it.
Yeah.
But this one, I really was just sitting there, and maybe just because it's the final movie like in the saga, that I was just like, oh wow, like we're probably not gonna, I don't know, touch upon these characters or like the Skywalker stuff again. So it was just like kind of a weird feeling. But the more I thought about it, the more I just talked about it with coworkers and stuff. It's just, yeah, like I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm really in that 7 or 8 out of 10 mark.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to go into detail. So
sure.
I'll pass it over to Travis.
All right.
Here we go.
So
Cleared his throat.
If you don't, this is behind the scenes in the podcast. I'm somebody, now we review Fridays, but I was always somebody that was always down to review right after the movie. I don't care how late, because I could always fire off all these fresh thoughts. This is a movie that I wish I had like a month to really sit on. I wish I could see it again. So let's start in 2 places. One, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've always said my 3 loves are Marvel and DC, wrestling, and Star Wars. And Star Wars to me has this magic feel that even more so than those two, even last night when I was worried going in the movie, you just feel like Dylan's talking about, you just feel this air like, oh, it's a Star Wars movie, and like what Dylan's saying about when we watch all these movies before we see them, and it's because Star Wars was the first ever big franchise. It was the first thing to have these sequels and be huge pulp culture and all this stuff. So it's been in my life a lot. I love it. I love many things about it. There's things I don't like about it, but that's kind of fandom. If you just love everything, well, Taylor's the most positive person, so that's good for him. But even there's some things he may not like. But it's just so Star Wars in general for me, it just is all about wonder and hope and just the sense of adventure and mystery. So I love Star Wars. And J.J. Abrams, I'm a huge fan of. I'm probably like top 3 fans in the world. I could honestly say that his Mission Impossible is my favorite. I love The Force Awakens. I love everything he produces. I don't like Star Trek, and he made me like those 2 movies. So I'm a big J.J. fan. And I think J.J. Abrams is the best at in the world currently of making me feel like I'm in Star Wars. Last Jedi was like a 50%. Rogue One and Solo many times just felt like a movie about Star Wars. I think J.J., especially in the very first 45 minutes of this movie, really makes me feel like, oh, we're in the world of Star Wars. It feels very similar to the OG trilogy, so I love that. So I think he is the best at creating that world. I just think this go around, even though he does a lot of bold things in this movie, I don't think him, the team, or Disney, whoever it was, had the best foot forward in this one. I think they made a lot of disappointing and frustrating moves. A lot of things that I was really scared they would do, they did. There's great moments in this, and this is why the 3 films I'd compare it to, and it's going to sound cheesy because I'm a Batman guy, and I'll make points for them all, is Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, and The Dark Knight Rises. Batman vs. Superman is a movie that, when you ask me, is that a good movie? I say no, it's not a good movie, but I watch it 3 times a year probably because there's so many moments in it and performances. That's why I still gleam onto it because I love seeing Ben Affleck do this thing. I love this certain scene. And that's kind of similar to this movie where it is a mess. It is all over the place. It is rushed. There's so many moments that are glossed over. There's so much stuff that is just, it's just, they tell you this is what it is and you go, do we get any more? No. Okay, we're just moving forward. So like I said, in the BVS route, it's kind of like that where a bunch of great moments and some great performances, but the substance there, I don't know if I could say this is a good movie, but then I enjoy it more than The Last Jedi because Last Jedi has stuff like Canto Bight or The Holdo where it's just like, this is boring and I don't like it, where there's stuff here where even though maybe it's karaoke and bad karaoke at times, it's not country music, which I despise, where Last Jedi has country music. This is like someone doing bad karaoke sometimes, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Justice League, and Kirklin was talking about this, the way Justice League ended, that movie is a mess. It has nothing to say, and it's super safe, kind of like this movie. But when the movie ended, it was like, oh, Clark Kent's back, and he's happy, so he's Superman. And like Cyborg is looking like the Teen Titans one. Oh, Wonder Woman's a public. So it's like, oh, I didn't like a lot of how we got to these destinations, but the endpoints, I liked where we ended up. I didn't like the journey, but I like where our destination was. And then the other one is Dark Knight Rises. That's a kind of a running joke in this cast. We talk all the time. We talk about in predictions how Dark Knight Rises is a plan B. They set up this movie. Heath Ledger unfortunately passes away, so Nolan and the team comes back. What do we got to do? This is that, but this isn't plan B. This isn't plan C. This feels like plan D because you think of all the changes. There's supposed to be a different director. He's gone. Carrie Fisher passed away. She's gone. You have JJ who didn't get to make 8, so he wants to do that. And then you have the divisiveness of The Last Jedi. There's 4 massive things, and that's why I don't look at this as like JJ really failed. He failed me in some aspects big time, and we'll get into that, but I just don't know if that was him or that was a Disney thing of, hey, a lot of people didn't like The Last Jedi, and kind of like Force Awakens, we need you to fix this. And I think this time it's not that it was unfixable. I just think they went about it in the wrong way. Force Awakens to me is a cover song of New Hope, but there's so many differences. But I think that was a good way to reintroduce people to Star Wars. But lightning can't always strike twice, and I think that's what they tried here again, was like, we'll run that play back in, and we'll do a lot of things that people have loved before and a lot of fan service. And I think some works, some doesn't. But I think this time you kind of see through the facade. And as far as the rating, I have no idea. Today I've woken up and been like, this is a movie that I would fail. This is a movie that's a 7 out of 10. This is a right 50%. This is 6. And at the end, I don't even know if I probably won't give I don't know as far as a rating. Maybe once we talk through it, I'll see, just because I have the whole time since I saw this movie, I don't know. Because there's moments where I just think, oh, they did that so well. And then there's some moments that are just awful. I mean, that's what I mean. For everything I love, there's something I hate in this movie, and it's really unfortunate. But at the end, like Taylor said, it's just a movie. People, if they're getting really mad, guess what? We got Mandalorian next week. You got an Obi-Wan show. You're going to get a Kevin Feige Star Wars movie, hopefully. It's not the end of the day. The prequels weren't the end of the day. You know, like even look, and talking about the BVS and Justice League, look at what they're doing now. So it's just like, to me, it's disappointing that we didn't, for myself, have a stronger ending. And I do understand a lot of the criticisms as far as rushing, and I do feel bad for people that do really like The Last Jedi, because I think there's some stuff that's handled well, but I do think it is sometimes a little, and even though I don't like that movie, it is just a little kind of talking down to the people of like, yeah, if you didn't like this movie, you weren't supposed to, or if you like this movie, you shouldn't have liked this movie. And I think sometimes in the movie it's not like that, but other times it feels very heavy-handed of they clearly wanted to, not like Dylan said, not fix and retcon, but really kind of put a new shade of Kona on things. And you're
they
like,
just put something over top of it.
Yeah, essentially. It's like if Dylan came and said, I want this house to be green. And okay, and he goes for a vacation, he comes back, and there's like green lines, but then the whole rest of the room is red. And you're like, well, I want the whole room to be green. And they're like, oh, but there's some green lines right there. Yeah. But it's like, but I want it to be green, but it's red and green. Oh, okay, I guess that's the way it is. And that's the thing with JJ getting it last, right? There's no response, there's nothing. And that's what I mean, it's not his fault, because people have said this before as far as like, oh, if JJ had the whole trilogy, it'd be better. I'd feel the same thing with Rian Johnson. If all 3 movies were his, it'd be better. So that to me is like a unfair criticism because I do wish that. But then there's also things in this movie that I don't know if I can full on say that about JJ because I think there's some things that feel very samey and I was kind of disappointed with and that's what I mean. I don't know. I'm very ready for in 20 years when we get the story of this trilogy because I don't know if this was a JJ move or a Disney move. So we'll talk about in spoilers, but it is a movie that it very much disappointed me. It's like I said, it's tough as a movie. I don't think it's as good as The Last Jedi, but I would watch this again over it. I don't know. Last thing I'll say because I sound really negative is the positives is Kylo Ren and Rey continue to be very interesting characters. I think Adam Driver is, I say this right now all the time, but he is legitimately the best actor currently in the world right now. And I think Daisy Ridley, this is her best performance as Rey. I think they give her a lot to do. And I've always said this before, like every Star Wars movie is a showcase. Last Jedi was Kylo's. This is Rey's showcase. And before I never had her in my top 10 Star Wars character, I did now. And I think that is because Daisy Ridley, but she's somebody that really delivered. I loved some of the worlds and planets we went to. I thought there was a lot of great visuals as well. I think it's a beautiful looking movie. There's some planets and just some imagery that JJ does really well on the team. I think the chemistry was great of Finn, Poe, and Rey together finally doing adventures. I wish we did get more of that in other movies, but still, this movie we got a lot of that, and I really enjoyed it. And I think JJ understands those 3 the best. I think if you look at Last Jedi versus this, I was really into Finn and really into Poe again, where Last Jedi I didn't care about them at all. So I think the chemistry is great, and finally I think John Williams' score is the best out of this trilogy. I think the last 2 I've always liked it, but it was a lot of the same stuff. There's always 1 or 2 tracks. This score, especially the back half, is very phenomenal. The stuff he does with Rey's themes, Kylo's themes, stuff he does with other stuff. So there is good stuff about this movie. It's not a movie I hate. It's not the worst movie of all time. It's not, in my opinion, the worst Star Wars movie of all time. The prequel still exists for me, but it was. I'll just say
the memes elevate the prequels.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
Enjoyment-wise,
I agree. But on a film, yeah, exactly, enjoyment. But film-wise, I still put this. But it's definitely one of the more disappointing movies we've been doing since the podcast. So.
Yeah,
and like they've all said, I can't if you're not a Star Wars fan, don't jump on now. There's no recommendation. I just think, and honestly, everybody's had such a different reaction to this movie. It's very much like Last Jedi, I think times 10. Because I can't say if you're gonna like this or not. I don't know because there's people that do like it. I thought, oh, I'm surprised, and vice versa. So, and I thought I was gonna like it a lot more, and I didn't.
Yeah,
so
it's not even like love it or hate it. Seems like there's a lot of people just kind of chilling in the middle. Like,
I
like some parts, but overall,
There's the only 2 people that are the people that hate Last Jedi love this movie, and the people that love Last Jedi hate this movie. So that's those 2 camps, and they're gonna be fighting for the end of time. It's just gonna be like it's gonna be like the orcs and Gondor and everything, just gonna keep going, or vampires and werewolves. Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker people are gonna be fighting the whole time. So, do we have anything else to say non-spoiler before we get into this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. If you like what we do just now or what we're about to, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you. The past few, we've gotten a couple 5-star ones, so thank you very much. So this is your literally last chance because someone's going to drop that number.
I got nothing.
Well,
what
It's a
number?
number.
Okay,
What
I'll
number?
I'll start with 3, and then you should go.
Were you leading up to like the spoilers?
Fucking guy.
You just said drop a number. I'm like, what?
It's funny.
Were you sleeping for the last 5
Things
minutes?
like
listening to our predictions
things like this
episode.
happen in the movie where you think something's gonna happen and then it just drops. Geek first assemble. So,
That's crazy. I do have a particular starting point, unless you guys have something.
No, go
Take it away.
Because we don't really talk about Kylo, but I have just a question with like the ending of his character. So at the very end, he like fades away into dust or whatever it is, kind of like how Obi-Wan, I guess.
Yeah, Yoda did too. Luke. Yeah.
So it's happened a few times. So tell me, is that the exact same as those cases, or was he like some sort of projection or like hologram? Like what's happening there exactly?
I think it's exactly like Obi and
Yeah.
Yoda. He's dead and he's going into the Force.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I asked that is because like one thing that really bothered me throughout this movie is that there's no logic in how Kylo gets anywhere. He just ends up places like all the time.
Fast travel, baby.
It's super weird. Like think about it. He goes at the start of the movie he's like, getting the fucking, what is that thing called? The Wayfinder?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wayfinder. And then, we see the scene later of him on the desert planet. He's like chasing Rey, which is all fine and dandy. She destroys his ship, which we have to assume, I guess, is not the one that had the Wayfinder in it. Or maybe it did.
It did. Yeah, at one point there was a broken one, yeah.
But it can't. Well, unless and then he must have taken that Wayfinder and put it in another ship because the ship that Rey, like the Wayfinder's in that ship that Rey took of his later in the movie. Don't know what happened.
I don't
there.
have those answers.
I don't think he has an answer. I think it's just an oversight.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that his ship gets destroyed, and then like his next scene is him just back on the like main ship. So I guess someone picked him up or something. Not really any reason to that. Then he ends up like on the water planet, has a new ship. I thought he had like his own ship, but I guess there's just like a fleet of them he just takes from there. Makes sense.
He's got a garage.
Yeah, and then Rey takes his ship and then leaves. And then the next scene, he's like back. He's on that planet where she is again at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know the names of the planet. Sorry, but like I don't. It never
Eldor
really
or
explains how
whatever.
he gets off that
On
planet.
Exegol.
Exegol.
He
Yeah.
had that time
he had a
didn't
TIE
have-
fighter.
He had a regular TIE fighter, so
I'm assuming he got it from the Death Star, right?
that was my
No, but she took
thought,
his
yeah.
ship.
He
No,
took
but
his ship, but he had a regular TIE fighter.
yeah, he had a regular TIE fighter. Yeah.
That was just sitting in the Death Star.
I don't know about that.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
see.
gonna. Yeah, it does. There's lots of messy things.
Yeah, I just found it really strange how he got around. And I was kind of curious about that Wayfinder. Like,
Yeah.
because did he not have it in his one ship, or does he have like multiple ships?
That's a good question. I wasn't really
don't
thinking
know.
about it till you brought it up because she definitely destroyed the first ship, and then obviously when she destroys it when they go to
Yeah.
Ashito or
Because
Octu.
it's like fine. Like I can
Octu.
imagine how he would just get picked up from the sand planet by someone
Yeah.
and brought back home. But I don't know. I just found it weird
Yeah.
that every scene he was like just in a new place, and I didn't
Mhm.
really feel like there was much of a reason for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I was curious about him at the end, because if he was
Yeah.
like a hologram or something like that, like for various parts of the movie, it would make sense that he could just end up anywhere.
Yeah.
But-
I just wanted to bring up another thing that's
Sure.
kind of like, I don't know, just a logical thing that I don't know, it didn't sit the most well with me was the fact that they're able to just like basically like physically teleport things like through the Force, like when she tasks them the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Because like most of the time when I'm watching Star Wars, they have ships exploding in space. That's just not possible. And there's just like a lot of logical things. It's just like, I don't know, it's Star Wars, so they just ignore physics.
I
But like
had
the
a-
whole like teleporting thing, I didn't fully grasp onto. I don't know.
I had a massive problem with the Force in this movie because the Force is always just like this interesting thing because it's like magic, but they don't really call it magic. And it's like what the boundaries of it are not really clear. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I just watched the movies and like I play a couple games or something, so I don't know if the shows like make it more clear exactly where the boundaries are. But it always is just like this thing where it's like, well, we can kind of make it whatever we want because it's
Mhm.
the Force. But this movie, more than any other ones, it felt like it was just like a plot device. Like there's all sorts of weird shit happening with it that, to me, didn't really fit in with what my previous concept of the Force is after all these movies I've watched.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was super crazy. I don't. Did you guys find that
I wouldn't
as
say
a canon junkie?
I wouldn't say anyone has a clear definition of the Force
Yeah.
and what its limit is. I think it's definitely, up to interpretation, whatever you want, but there is
Mhm.
no limit or no set. No person can come to me and be like, I know exactly
I know,
what
but
the
that
Force is.
to me
Yeah.
that
I
becomes.
don't
So-
think George Lucas
But
even
the
knows
thing is
that.
that's where it becomes uninteresting because then any problem ever could be like, okay, well they could have solved that with the Force
Yeah.
because there is no boundary. So you need to have like some sort of consistency to it, right? So things like that, like Kirklin's saying,
Yeah.
how he grabs the beads off of her and then even she sends him like the lightsaber at the
Mhm.
final battle. Like those things seem super weird to me. I didn't like that at all.
I would say under the helm of George Lucas, I would say the Force probably had more of what you were wanting or kind of like looking for in the Force.
Like
I
a
would
limit
say
to it, is that what you're saying?
not a limit,
just
but
want
it would have
consistency,
probably
yeah.
more of like a consistency or maybe a little bit of a direction, but still an unclear of what its limit
Yeah.
is in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think it
On-
would, to be honest.
You don't think it would?
No, because he introduces midichlorians and like there's so much stuff, especially when you hear what he wanted to do with these 3 movies. I think he would have got pretty wild.
True, but then he
I believe
I
that
mean
statement.
he would have
Yeah.
it's his creation, right? He
Mhm.
created it, so he would have a clear idea of what its power is, I would say. Maybe not a full idea, but he would have a close bit of a sense of what the Force
Yeah.
is essentially. But with Disney doing it and JJ running it, I think, okay, they probably look at it as like, okay, yeah, the Force can do tons of things. I didn't really have a problem with that sense because to me,
Well,
the
let me
Force
let me
is
give you my list of things that like just seemed a little wild to me. So one, I mean, Force ghosts, like what they can do with the Force, I feel like they don't really do much. Like they normally just stand around, right? Is that kind of normally the case?
I feel until Last Jedi, yeah.
Yeah.
What happens in Last Jedi?
Yoda creates a fucking thunder lightning
Right.
storm.
Yeah, and so yeah, I guess that's definitely a big example.
I
but
was
that's kinda
alone on the
wild.
commentary track, but all 3 there's like, oh, it's fine. But no, now like they've established that I don't like it, but they've established Force
Yeah.
Ghosts can do all this stuff. And
Yeah,
I,
that didn't bother me, but it was kind of weird to me when Luke just like brings that ship out of the water because That seemed like it is a pretty fucking
On-
heavy thing.
On that same note, though, I don't know. I was giving it some leeway just to the fact that like that's kind of like where they are, that planet, Octo.
First Jedi Temple.
Yeah, the first Jedi Temple. I don't know. I just kind of like took it as like, well, maybe that's just because we're like the Jedi, we're kind of formed, so it's just like the Force is so powerful there. So because when Yoda calls down the lightning,
fair
he's
enough.
on that planet,
That's
and
true.
then when he lifts the ship, that's just I don't know.
Okay.
I'm kind of
No, that's
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Very
That
good
could make
point.
sense.
that was my headcanon.
The same
for
way
it,
as
yeah.
like Palpatine's planet is like really fucking dark and
Yeah.
weird, and like I imagine he could do a bunch of. There is a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah.
There's thousands of chambers of Snoke, which
Tons
we'll
of
get into.
petri dishes. On
Yeah,
there.
exactly. So like same thing, right? So
yeah.
And I know we've seen like Force heal before, but has there been Force revive? Because Rey straight up just revives a dead Kylo.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was dead. He was
he
dying.
was definitely dead.
But no, to me, dead is like he's no longer
mean,
breathing.
maybe-
He's still alive. He's still going. I still think it's you can bring that person back in that sort of state. So, and even when the Rey thing happens later, we'll get into that later. But I think that's why Kylo dies is because in order to bring someone that is actually dead, you gotta give up your own life. We'll get into that very much later.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
those didn't bother me, and honestly, the Force sharing didn't bother me because. To me, the Force hasn't really bugged me that much. I know people had a problem with the Leia thing. People had a problem a lot of people hated the Luke thing in Last Jedi. It is a kind of a cop out. It can do anything, but it's just that's the same way in Marvel. That's the same way in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
If they need something, the plot they've like. I always bring up Endgame. Tony just how are we gonna do these stones? I've created the gauntlet that can fit anybody's size. You have no schematics, no okay. So that's why it's just like. I never get caught with logistics. The reason why I liked the sharing, at first I was uneasy on it, but I just like the way that they said these people's bond is so strong that they can literally share each other's powers, they can share each other's wants, desires, and just literally share each other's things. So that's why it worked for me. And if it was not introduced as in Last Jedi, which that's why I think this movie does retcon Last Jedi some parts, but I think it does build upon it. I think if we didn't have that foundation, I wouldn't buy it. But from Force Awakens to Last Jedi, you can see their bond getting stronger and stronger. One thing that it did have in Force Awakens when Kylo said, "What girl?" He had already, JJ said, had a previous knowledge of her and stuff like that. So that's where, for me, it does work as far as I don't think it's the clearest. I can think it's messy, but I think there is a progression of it's getting bonder and obviously I cannot wait to get to like what really happened because no matter what happened in this movie, it gave me one moment that I didn't think we'd get, and it was fantastic. So it'll never be taken away from me. But I bought that because the bond was so strong, and it's a new Force power. It's the same way no one could shoot lightning out of their fingers until Emperor did that, So it's just like for me, I was fine with all of it.
Yeah, the other one that kind of bothered me, like, I mean, I've seen this before, and I think it was in Rogue One, right, where Truett, like, he's one with the Force, whatever it is. Finn kind of just like Force senses where to go on like what are those ships called? Are they Star Destroyers?
Star Destroyers.
Those are Star Destroyers. So he just kind of like senses where to go. Wasn't really too clear about that. It seemed kind of strange to me. And then, I mean, Palpatine's powers in this are obviously just fucking wild and like crazy to the times 1 million of any sort of power I've ever seen before. Like I don't know what he was doing, whether he was stealing their energy or just like.
Yeah, he was stealing their Force essence.
I mean, it wasn't really. He wasn't really stealing it because they still were powerful after.
He was sharing. He was like borrowing it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think I've seen that before. It's fine. But then he, just creates like this entire weather system, this massive biome that like destroys thousands of ships.
Well, he wasn't destroying them; he was just disabling them, right? With
Same difference.
because they were just like their interference and they were dropping. But like again, this is like an ancient Sith temple that is pure dark side. This is like his element where it like expands his power tenfold. So to me, it was basically exactly what you said about the Jedi, basically.
And that's totally fair if those things didn't bother you, but to me, I was just like, what the fuck is the Force anymore? To me, it was just like, okay, it's just a plot device. That's what it is. Let's just call it what it is. So.
Yeah, and the Finn thing didn't bug me because in the prequels, we see Anakin use it when he's pod racing. We see Luke use it when he destroys the Death Star. So it's always like these Force-sensitive people. They always get these hints of either do this, go this, will help guide a shot. So for me, they've kind of done that before. So that's why it didn't bother me as far as Finn feeling that whatnot. I can't wait to talk about that. But
I'd say in response to your Force scenario, like even when Obi-Wan is basically talking about it in like A New Hope, it binds us, and even Yoda saying like it holds the universe together. Like it's such a mysterious and powerful thing that I think I liked how they explained it, how they had the connection between these two characters that had a very deep and strong bond and connection in the Force that were, even though Snoke talked about bridging their minds, but we know like the source of that and just the power behind bridging their connection together and how powerful that could be.
And I think it's also like, not to get in this, but I think it's because they felt a different way about each other that strengthened that bond. If they were just purely enemies, they'd have a bond, but what ended up happening in this movie shows that's why it's growing, because there's an affection there. So, which we haven't seen in, like, we've seen in Legends, we've seen in Canon, but we've never seen two Jedis in movies like get it on or like have anything, right? We haven't, right? The prequel, like, we haven't. That's a new thing for the movies.
Jedi,
so it is kind of that play. Yeah, it is that play of like what would happen if these two super powerful beings fell in love and became this big thing, and that's how I also bought as well.
Just another question, like, regarding Force. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in The Last Jedi, was it not Snoke that was the one that, like,
I bridged
Skype
your
calling them?
minds. Yes.
He bridged their minds.
So then how are they able to just do that now that Snoke's...
Well,
just because, like...
he bridged their minds, but it didn't ever, like, cease to be
also,
connected,
Snoke
right?
was never like a thing, right? He was
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Palpatine,
just
if
a
he
pack
did
of
it,
meat.
you know, Snoke died, but Palpatine is still pulling the strings, keeping their minds connected.
I think it's the
right?
same way, because I was listening to that because he says, because people said like, oh, he didn't know their minds were bridged. He did know that, but I think he was saying in the way that he didn't think it was going to get this far. Same thing as I was talking about, like he didn't think it would turn into being able to share lightsabers with power. So I think he classic, Palpatine underestimated his opponents. But yeah, so and we'll get in Snoke and Palpatine.
Well, it's the same way that
technically-
like a Force Ghost, like if a Force Ghost shows up and is giving advice to someone, like that Force Ghost isn't seen by everyone, right? It's just seen by the Force people, like
yeah.
the relevant people. So that's like because those people had a bond of some sort.
Okay.
And sometimes there's like maybe some jumps there, but
Mm-hmm.
still, I think that, I don't know, that like that idea of like two people connecting kind of makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I thought it was a bit much for her to force teleport a lightsaber into his hand,
Yeah.
but whatever. Whatever. That's
Take it
probably
with a
the
grain of
least-
salt.
There's a lot of things that bothered me more than that. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to just go to head honcho. I want to talk about Kylo because
Sure.
obviously, like, I'm biased. It's my favorite character. I still think he's great Star Wars character. What did you guys think about his kind of journey in this movie? Because we went on a wild ride.
Yeah.
So.
Kylo. So the first thing only because I'm looking at his picture on the back of this Force Awakens CD disc or fucking case, whatever the hell it is.
Blu-ray special
So
edition.
it's not really a Force Ghost, but he like sees a memory of Han Solo.
Yeah, I've took that as like it was basically all in his mind. Like,
Well, Han Solo says it too. Like, I'm a memory. I'm
okay,
your memory.
yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I thought it was really cheesy and just
Oh,
like,
wow.
let's just put Han Solo in this movie because people love Harrison Ford. But I feel like they did close out that character.
See, I don't think that's what it
yeah.
was for. Real, like, there's tons of fan service, but that moment to me played differently. Eagle.
I was gonna say also took that because they weren't able to throw Carrie Fisher.
Yeah,
in that position. That was like, I don't know. That's just what I had going in
He
my
was
mind.
the proxy.
Yeah.
She would have, if it was always, and there was no big plan, but in JJ's mind, if it was always to turn him, it would have been Leia. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. Because some people have already debated, is that in his mind, or is it like Leia projecting that also in his mind as well? Because she passes away from using this Force, right? I don't fully buy that just her saying Ben that would make her pass away. So that's why it makes sense. It's this conjuring of it. And that's what the reason I love the scene is, one, I gasped. When you hear that, hey kid, I was just surprised
fuck
I got
yeah.
him back, because Harrison Ford has always not been the kindest to Star Wars. So he's great in this for this small little thing. But I love, because that's my favorite scene of Force Awakens, is that back and forth. But I love the repeating, and I love that they're playing this memory. And the thing is, because when in Force Awakens, they kind of showed after, when I saw it the first time, I didn't think this, that he regretted doing that, or he felt bad after he did that. Like, he wasn't sure. He thought killing Han Solo would make it all go away, and it made it worse. So I like that. It was a replaying of that. He threw the lightsaber away, and oh man, like I ugly cried the second I heard Harrison Ford. I was crying. I couldn't recover. But that line when Adam Driver's the best actor in the world, when he's balling up and he says "Dad," and Han Solo just says "I know," because he couldn't say "I love you," and he gave him you don't gotta say it because I know you're like having a really difficult time right now.
Yeah.
But like your mom just died. But I liked the turn, and I liked also that it happened with Rey killing him, but her bringing him back to life to show that, like, I could have killed you, and that was the full on kind of him seeing that she's not giving up on me. I did not, though, enjoy the very beginning of the movie. I felt they doubled down, making him too evil a little bit at the beginning. I think they I think that was the problem with the first 40 minutes. The stuff I didn't like was JJ trying to do episode 8. And if you look at Force Awakens, he's really angry at the end of it, right? So it would make sense in 8 he's still angry, and then in 9 we get to the redemption. But the problem is in this movie is I love all the redemption stuff, but we literally see him cut that little alien man's head off and throw it on the table, and then an hour from now he's going to be making out with Rey. So it's like the things in Return of the Jedi, Vader doesn't kill anybody in Return of the Jedi. He's very quiet. He's very stoic. He's kind of redeeming himself. That's the problem with JJ kind of doing episode 8. I felt that. I didn't like how evil Kyle was at the beginning. That's the only negative I have because it was just the rushing.
I think maybe that's my problem with that scene with Harrison Ford is it feels like his switch happens like all in kind of one moment, and I don't know. It didn't have the same effect for me like for you guys.
I definitely agree with what Travis was saying, how like the beginning it just felt like a completely different Kylo, it felt like the Kylo at the end of episode 7, and that's where I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, man, this should have been episode 8, but at the same time I was like, well, let me just rephrase that. Like in my head canon, I just wanted like basically this episode to be the bad guys kind of winning, which would have just been a repeat of Empire Strikes Back the more I thought about it. But like, and then episode 9, that's where they're actually facing like the fleet of the Empire, and like obviously you get the big conclusion. So in those moments I just kept like thinking to myself, I'm like, man, this is kind of sucky that JJ wasn't able to do like the full trilogy since he's doing the 2 out of the 3 movies. I just felt like he should have done it.
Well, and especially because I feel like you're talking about the end point. I feel like the end of, and it would have been very Empire. And that's my problem of like, I would have liked JJ to do the whole trilogy, but we'll get into it. He copied Return of the Jedi way too much and Empire, because I feel like the ending of the 8th one would have been that Palpatine reveal of Kylo saying, just like Vader saying, no, I am your father. It would have been Kylo saying, you're a Palpatine. And that's the problem where it's just like, well, he would have done Empire and then he would have done Return of the Jedi. So that's the problem where Kylo at the beginning just felt like he was evil and a lot of exposition. The second they kind of get to the Death Star and he has the Ford thing, it was back to, and I didn't like the mask being back on because when he actually says you're a Palpatine, you don't see his face. There's so many conversations they have. Take that fucking thing off. I was for the action scenes fine, but I was actually really disappointed. He got it on for a lot longer than I thought. There was a solid half an hour, and I was like, get this off, especially that one moment when he's like, why didn't you take my hand? Let's see those doe eyes. Like, let's see his face. And that was frustrating.
That exact same scene too, when he explains that she's a Palpatine. Like I swear to God, he takes it off after. Yeah,
just take it off the whole time.
No, totally, and I totally agree with what you're saying. How like he should have it on basically like when he needs it in space or when he's fighting.
Yeah,
and
you might get shot in the head. Put on your cool helmet.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely agree with you on that point. Just going back to the Harrison Ford scene though, I feel like. Was it right before that when Leia passes away, or is it?
Yeah, it was right because he's about to kill. Which that's one thing I love. JJ totally apologized for Rey kicking Kylo's ass in Force Awakens because Kylo kicked the shit out of her on the
when
Death
she's
Star.
like getting weak, basically, and he's just like,
and that's why I want to ask you. When she's on the ground, he's about to go. Was it Leia saying Ben that made him stop, or was he already stopping and then the Ben thing happened on top? Because I don't know. I can't remember in my mind. Like
I can't remember either.
It was the Ben first. I'm pretty
no,
sure
but I mean, no, but because he paused. But I'm saying the way you took it, was he gonna kill Rey and Leia stopped him, or was he struggling and then Leia was the tipping point? Because I don't know. I need to see it again. Which
the way I took it, I don't think he would have killed her because I still am thinking like it's that Vader Luke thing where he doesn't actually want to kill her. He wants her to be his apprentice, right? Yeah. Or like be with him on the throne. Than that, yeah. Oh, he definitely wants more than that. But apprenticeships with benefits or whatever it's called. But I definitely was like ugly crying in that scene just from like seeing Leia like basically passing away again. Carrie Fisher's actually gone, so that's sad too. But then like R2 being with her, and it's just such a callback to like the original and the relationship there. And then obviously when you hear
starts with her putting the message on R2.
No,
right?
and then you hear I'm getting chills now. But just like and then you hear the hey kid and he turns around and it's Han Solo. Oh man, I was so shook. And then like you said, when he was kind of breaking up and being like he couldn't finish his sentence. I don't know, in my mind I didn't take it he was gonna say like I love you. It was just like I'm sorry basically for like killing you, like I regret that. And then he's like I know you did it. Oh,
the reason I thought he said I would say I love you because in Empire Leia says I love you and he goes I know, so that's why I think
that totally makes sense.
That's why I think he's thinking it and then he just goes I know.
That's
and man, Harrison Ford's still such a charming motherfucker at the age of 7. Just those smiles he gives, and Kylo just long bonds that lightsaber, and that was great.
That was definitely I think my favorite scene of the entire movie, just because it was so emotional, and I was not expecting Han. Like in our predictions episode, I was very much expecting like Mark Hamill to be there, especially since he said "Hey kid." I don't know. I'm not the most like like I could hear Harrison's voice.
I think they
when
did it
he
on
said
purpose
It
because
just
you're like,
said,
who's
"Hey,
it gonna,
kid." Yeah.
who's it gonna be?
Yeah, exactly. It's totally that. And then when I didn't see like the Force Ghost, I was actually like really relieved because I was kind of worried that they're just gonna have Han Solo as a Force Ghost, which didn't really make sense because he's not a Jedi, obviously.
Yeah.
But I really liked the fact that it was actually just in his mind, and they actually addressed that. How, like you mentioned, Harrison Ford actually said that, like, "Oh, I'm just in your mind," and it's just. I just thought overall it was such a good scene, and like the whole battle between him and Leia, I think that was one of the best.
You mean Rey?
Leia.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for correcting
I
me.
thought the
Him
fight
and
scene
Rey.
went on a bit too long.
I thought that was one of the best Jedi battles that we've had in the entire saga, honestly.
I'm on the fence about that because and maybe it's because they went off and they were saying like, oh, this movie's gonna have one of the best battles like of all time, and I was waiting for it to happen, and yeah, I thought it was cool. We got the Jedi jumps, and it was great an action sequence, but I thought, okay, it's still nowhere near an Anakin Obi-Wan and Mustafar.
Yes.
Oh, see, yeah, that one is not number one for me. That is like, that's just so gymnastic for me. It's like the Maul one, and it's like Vader and Luke are in Return. But the reason I did like this is it was a strange thing for Star Wars. There was no score for the fight, which I really liked because it was really personal. And I think the reason I did like is, one, the visuals, just they're fighting, there's water, there's big tidal waves, but I just liked it was emotional stakes. It wasn't fully like we're trying to kill each other, because we debated this in the trailers. I still think even in that fight when I was watching it, he's not really going for any kill shots. He's just kind of outsmarting her and outpowering her. So that's what I like, that there was this subtext of they're trying to fight, and it feels like Rey is trying to kill him, not because she wants to, just because she thinks it's what's right, and he's trying to decide what's going on. So that's why I like that it wasn't just a, we got to kill each other, let's go. There was so much, to me, subtext in that. That's where it's like, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's like top 3 for sure for me. It's up there. I think it topped the Force Awakens one for me. I loved it visually. I loved when Finn tried to make this save, and she just fucking force pushed him out of there. Like, you're not helping. And it's a good thing, because in Force Awakens, he helps her a lot. And this shows like she's above that. She doesn't need his help anymore. And Finn, he has the Force, but he's pretty useless again in this situation. Like, let the big kids talk. So I liked everything about that.
They showed like new ways of like using the Force, like in a in a light.
Yeah,
when they're like holding the lights there. I don't know if we've ever seen that before. have we?
It's been in games and stuff
Yeah,
like
not
that,
the
but it was
movies,
very
right?
cool to see them actually apply it.
It was really sick.
Yeah.
Overall, I just absolutely love that whole scene, and then just the whole planet in general. Just this huge storm going on, and it's very just symbolic between the two of them, because they're both just so torn. Like, obviously, Rey thinks that she's just gonna be a bad person now after having that little confrontation with
She's
Dark
really
Rey.
worried,
Yeah. So I just absolutely love that scene, and then like I said, like with the Harrison Ford stuff, that was just so powerful for me, and it was definitely my favorite scene of the entire movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful set. I mostly liked that sequence. The only thing I thought was a little weird was the people who are there, I don't know what you'd call them, that clan of people.
The ex-stormtroopers.
The ex-stormtroopers.
Oh,
sure.
right.
We'll go with
yeah.
that.
Jana and
They're
all
like,
them,
oh, you, it's way too dangerous in this storm. You can't get over to that Death Star right now. And then Rey goes and does it, which is fine because she's crazy powerful, as we've seen. There's a reason for that. But then, like, also Finn and her do
Jana was her name, yeah.
Jana, and like, I don't know, I just felt like that was kind of strange. Why would you have that line of dialogue if, like, I guess the point is that Rey pieces out to go do it herself.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it was kind of weird because you like set up these consequences and then don't actually use them, and then it doesn't actually matter that Finn and Jana get there because Finn, she just kind of tosses him around. Maybe it's emotional, he's going after her, but it didn't really feel necessary. So I just thought that was a little bit strange.
I agree with you. I think the only thing it served was just, like I said, in Force Awakens, how it's that fight is those two versus Ren, and it's kind of, to me, the evolution to show where they all are. Kylo's a lot stronger.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of callback shots. Like, even her, when she first gets in that Death Star and there's just, like, panned out shots of her climbing stuff, it's very reminiscent of her scavenging at the beginning of Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Which I thought was nice.
And then we'll transition to Rey after. Let's talk about the ending point of Kylo. Oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna, with Kylo and Harrison Ford in that scene, I think it was very well done. I really, really enjoyed it. And I am glad it was a memory. I'm very happy it wasn't Force Ghost, because I don't want everyone just to be turning the Force Ghost.
Kind of C-3PO's in there.
Yeah,
I would have been so mad if Han Solo was a Force Ghost.
Yeah,
I would have been
so mad.
It doesn't serve like a grand purpose, I think. But anyways, I was very happy with how that turned out, and for me, like, I had to think on that scene a lot, because at first I thought, okay, well, his turn happened really, really quick, and then I realized after the fact that, okay, well, at least for Darth Vader, yeah, he was probably contemplating it, and we see signs of Kylo Ren contemplating it throughout this movie, and
the whole series too, right?
throughout the whole series, yeah. And then even Darth Vader's turn was very quick and abrupt.
Oh,
he
yeah,
threw the Emperor down.
You're
and
not
he was
killing my
like,
son.
Yeah, and he'd take the helmet off, like he was all good and everything. And for Kylo Ren, I'm glad that it seemed to be very much similar to Vader in that sense. And I loved it when he threw his lightsaber away, and just that whole scene was very emotional. And I love seeing his redemption from that point on. And another thing too with the him being very dark at the beginning, I like that. I thought it was very fitting because he was just, if you kill like the president of your country and you can just you qualify to go in there and be the new president, and you guys are all around bad guys, you're just gonna pop off. You're gonna be evil.
See, the way I would have preferred it is him watching all this stuff happening, but having the Knights of Ren do it, and it kind of being like, oh, he's not doing this because he's the leader, but really he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And it's just that because at the beginning it didn't feel like he was putting on, in Force Awakens and Last Jedi, he's sometimes putting on a bad guy. The first half an hour he's full on Vader. He's like force choking people. He's not that Kylo Ren in Force Awakens where he's like a little wimpy. He's like,
no, not in Force Awakens, but in Last Jedi, I mean, he's riding off of like the steam of having killed Snoke. He thought Snoke was the biggest and baddest guy, and he took him out. So he's feeling very confident in his power. He's choking now with the Force. So
oh yeah, and that's the problem though with the year jump and with it being JJ to Ryan. I feel like we're missing some stuff because is this the first time now that Kylo and Rey see each other in that Force vision? Why can they Force Skype now and not? That's maybe the only other problem I have, and this is why it's a plan B or D, whatever. That's the problem with Leia. I'd like the answer of why does she call him now? If I feel like the time, if she could have called him at any time, was right before he was about to kill his fucking dad. But like that's why I wish they even had a line saying like, "Oh, with Rey being close, I can connect to her and connect to him." I get it; she's passed away, so they just have to find some way. That's all.
Yeah.
So that's that's the unfortunate
super tricky.
thing.
Like I don't know. That's super rough, right? I have sympathy for them because like how do you end up that character in a meaningful way and then like have it tie into the rest of the characters? It's incredibly difficult. I was not satisfied with what they did, but like it's super hard. Unfortunately, that's not how I look at it. I just look at it like, well, what did they end up putting on the screen, and wasn't that satisfactory for me personally?
Yeah. And then we got, so obviously one problem is he disappears for quite a while. I didn't like, but then when he ends up on Exegol, he's pretty much Han Solo, which I honestly got a big kick out of. He has like a Han Solo like shirt, but it's black. I love when he jumps on the chain and he says, ow, but so that's the problem where I've said this for a while. I didn't really want the Ben-demption, but I was fine with it, how they were doing it. How they actually turned it was good, but I think that, and I was liking all this, I love the moment when she is about to strike down the Emperor and she's kind of giving up all hope and she sees him and they're seeing each other and they give that head nod, which I told you in the trailer prediction that's what it was going to be. But that was just such a great moment. I loved seeing him that way, and like I said, I think it was rushed, which sucks, and I loved everything. And obviously we're going to get into, like, I think we'll talk about this more with Rey, but the fucking kiss happened. I couldn't believe it. I grabbed my chair. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah. We fist bumped. We fist bumped for sure.
It was so good. And like I said, that's more on the Rey side because we always knew he liked her. But I just think the cardinal sin is that's what I hate is I always said, if you got to keep him all the way bad, and that's what I thought with him being so evil at the beginning maybe was, or you got to keep him good or turn him good and do something else. They didn't. They turn him good and they just fucking kill him like Vader. And it's so, that's the things I hate with JJ is I thought after Force Awakens, and that's why who knows if the Disney thing, he wouldn't want to be exactly like Return of the Jedi. It is Vader turning good, they fight the Emperor, and then he dies. That's what this movie is. Kylo turns good, they fight the Emperor, he dies. And it's just, why?
Does it help at all for you the fact that he actually like just wasted all of his like force to like bring her back, or no, not really?
So here's the thing: if they didn't kiss and that whole thing didn't happen, I would ream this movie a lot more. But I liked it was kind of a Romeo Juliet. He's sacrificing himself, so I get that. I just think that what is the difference? Because me and Taylor, this is the only thing we really talked about is. Okay, Rey gets a new lightsaber, Finn's force sensitive, Lando drops like, we're going to go on an adventure. They, to me, clearly set up there's going to be an episode 10 or a follow-up. So if this was the finale, they're like, we're never doing these characters again, then fine, kill Kylo. They're clearly setting up more adventures. Why can't Kylo just go to prison? And like you said, oh, they want to force ghost. They can force Skype. If he was on an island or on a prison, I've talked about this before, they could still have those scenes. So why kill off to me what everyone says is the most interesting thing? And even if that, just why would you repeat the Vader thing verbatim pretty much, other than it was a love interest instead of a father-son, which I like that. That's a spin on the dynamic, but the result's the same. So it's like you have this really interesting thing of like, what are the because we always talk about the what if, and I didn't think it would happen, but what is the implications if Rey comes back and she has to tell Finn and Poe that even if he's going to prison that she like loves this guy or has feelings for him? What are the implications of her literally falling in love with a former terrorist? But that's why they kill him, because it's like, we don't want, that's too deep for us. And it's just like, that's what I hate is Rey had a one-night stand with the asshole, but he got hit by a car on the way out of the apartment, so no one at work knows. That's my analogy. It's like, everyone's like, don't sleep with him. She's like, yeah, I wouldn't. And then she does, but no one finds out because he died. And that's the thing. So in the viewer's eyes, we see her, she has a little darker side. She did like fall in love or kiss this guy who is a terrible person, but in the next movies or stuff, they probably won't even acknowledge it. You know why? Because no one knows. She's never going to tell him when they kiss. And that's, I hate that there's so much juicy stuff where you could put a new spin on Star Wars and still keep with that classic stuff. And they just, whether it's Disney or JJ, whoever it was, they copped out. And that was so disappointing. I couldn't believe it.
I completely agree.
Especially if you're going to take a big, bold thing like the Reylo kiss. To me, if you do that, like, that's a big direction. But that's why it's like eating or baking your cake and eating it too. And that's what I hated it. Hated it.
Then they win you over if you really did do a Force baby in her, you know.
Well, that's a theory, yeah. We'll talk about it another time. I think, oh, no, I said
I make babies.
I think she will. I think there's a good chance that they do more, she'll be pregnant or have a kid. Because he touched her stomach and he put his entire life essence into her. And I think that's a way that they can carry him on. He could appear as a Force ghost.
Don't they make that argument for Anakin? Because
Force,
Anakin never had a father, but
exactly.
Palpatine and Plagueis were kind of making him, right?
Go back and forth. Palpatine created a Skywalker, and you got a Skywalker creating a Palpatine.
And technically, I've said this because Game of Thrones, incest is the biggest thing. Because technically, there's a chance that he's like her uncle or something, or she's her auntie, something like that. So there might be some incest in there. Game of Thrones made it completely right. You look at all porn's websites; it's always mom sleeps with stepdad.
I wouldn't say it's
with stepdad.
It's always something like that. And I was like, I don't want go away. I don't want this on my site.
It's not literally
Recommended
biologically
I know, but
incest.
in a way,
but
they're a family tree. You know.
Well, not genetically or biologically, but in a way.
But we don't know that. You
mentally.
could argue that Palpatine creating Anakin. What if there was some of his DNA? Then they're linked.
Right.
They're family.
Who wrote it on with Palpatine? That's what I want to know. Was it his crinkly old man Force penis, or was it like?
It must have been young.
I think it was before when he was like just a younger
the
gentleman.
Well, you have to think when Rey was born, his parents or her parents are probably maybe in their like 30s or
30s,
something
40s.
like that.
Yeah.
So then that puts
that would put him in prequel era, right before he gets roasted.
Era. So yeah, you have to think like, why is he going around making little Sheevians? You know,
maybe it was a mistake. But that's where well, let's save the Palpatine. Let's talk about Rey next. But how did you guys feel about obviously? Like I heard you some like agreement, but the Kylo kind of resolution. You got the Reylo kiss. You got the death. What all that talking about? You got the Han Solo-esque moments. He had a blaster, which I actually appreciated.
I really liked.
So,
The whole Bendention thing. Like we were doing, like we were talking about in our predictions episode. I was saying like the best way for that to have happened was to have that moment with Carrie Fisher, Leia. But then I was like, well, I feel like they didn't get that. Or I think you were actually, Dylan, the one that brought that up of like, I feel like you can't really have that if you haven't had those shots, what probably didn't happen.
They clearly didn't.
Now we know that clearly didn't happen. So in my mind, it's like, I don't see that happening. Like retrospective looking at it now, I am really okay with it for like the Han Solo aspect. I really was not expecting that whatsoever because I knew that he wasn't a Force user, so there's no way that he could be a Force ghost. But I don't know, and then I don't know, it's not very clear in the movie, but maybe you can make the argument that Leia was the one that kind of showed him Han Solo in that moment. So I don't know, it kind of works for me. I loved seeing him with the blue lightsaber, honestly, with the all black suit. I thought I thought it looked so sick. Just like his mannerisms of seeing like the Ben Solo, not Kylo Ren, I really liked. Even though I loved him as Kylo Ren because he's just such a broken character and so interesting.
And to me, he fought differently when he was Ben Solo.
Yeah.
There's that one cool movie where he jumped in the air and he like force grabbed somebody. And he did like a backflip over them, but he was like
he was sick.
As Kylo Ren. I always say he's a scarecrow, but when he was Ben Solo, he was fighting like the way Luke did in Last Jedi, which I appreciate. Like he does a dodge that is almost identical to the way Luke Skywalker does. It's like because that's his. He
actually
fucking
reminded
master.
me of Aragon at some
a
point.
little with that hair and everything,
and, like, having the inverted sword and like stabbing people backwards and whatnot.
That's a good call.
So
and like the way,
So all that was awesome, but I definitely agree with you, Travis. It's very unfortunate, and maybe it's like you said, whether it's a Disney executive decision or JJ or just a mix of everything that they actually just like carbon copied like the end of Vader. It definitely does bring that down, but I don't even want to say but because I just want to see him like another movie of actually like Ben Solo with the blue lightsaber with like I don't know just the mannerisms of a light side user and like seeing like a different side of a character that we haven't really seen before. Because if you watch the prequels, you've seen Anakin as a good guy, but you don't see Vader
name is
turn
Anakin.
You don't see Vader. You don't see Vader go Anakin and then like just like him, I don't know, having night terrors of like the things that he's gone through or stuff like that. We've not really seen that in movies before.
Like we've never had the what does a guy do if he's trying to rehab and redeem himself, right? And that's why I thought they could done this Kylo, but they don't. I just feel like they don't want to tackle that depthness. They don't want to get there, so they cheat it and they make him. Oh, what would he do? What would happen? Well, he dies, so he can just die peacefully. It's like that. And even as someone that likes Kylo Ren, he's still a guy that killed many people, so it's like he gets off pretty scot free. Like. I don't just put him in a fucking cell. I don't get it.
Yeah, and like even like when we were talking about in our predictions episode of just he goes in like I don't know solitude or something like kind of like what Luke did on Ahch-To. I'll just keep saying both because I don't want to go on one camp or the other. But
we'll get 1,500 dislikes.
Obviously this didn't happen, but like even if Rey just like secretly gets him out of there, and then someone's like, "Oh, what happened to Kylo? Oh, he perished. He perished."
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then she kind of has that secret. And then when they revive the series, which we know we're gonna do because Disney just want to be milking that Star Wars cow for years.
They set it up at the end of this movie.
No, totally. And then it's be like, "Oh, what's troubling you, Rey?" or something. It's just like, "Oh, I have a secret. I don't know what it is. I'm no writer, so I don't want to say it."
Imagine they find out that she fucking lied to them and kept him alive. I'd feel like everyone would be like, "Why did you keep this guy alive? And you made out with him too?" Like it's super. Or I always pitch the way of like, what happened if Rey was in danger, something like that, and they really need somebody, and they go to Ben Solo, and he's like, "I really don't want to do this," but it's like we need you but it's just all pissed away, and I don't get why. Because you know you're gonna get the Vader comparisons. I don't understand. It's just such a.
I think it would be more powerful too if like his death was accompanied by like anything other than just Rey experiencing Rey, because we just like Leia and Han Solo are gone now too, so you don't even get like some moment where they realize that, or
good job, son,
or like Leia can like feel that or something. Obviously, they didn't have the opportunity for that necessarily, but. I don't know. It just feels like it's also kind of without consequence because there's not even any bad guys anymore, so none of them care that Kylo's gone.
Yeah.
So.
No, very true.
Yeah.
Taylor, where you stand?
Yeah, I wish that Kylo was alive.
Whoa.
I do
Hot
feel.
Take, no.
Yeah.
I'm on a weird position because I like the idea of Rey and him being alive, but I'm also on the same page of maybe if she did die in this movie, I would have been okay with it, and it was just him, because I feel like it would have fueled his redemption. And like, the consequences of my actions led to this, and if only I was stronger, I'm gonna go in exile, and then they pull him later on, whatever reason. But then again, like it's either that or both of them alive, because the more we talked about it, I kind of like agree with you more. Like, I would have enjoyed them to be alive in the sense of like they're obviously going to tackle this in the future movies and such.
Because if they bring him back as a Force ghost in 10, 11, 12, same things, like then why didn't you just keep him alive? Like he could do that. So it's just it's weird.
I mean, it seems like it's kind of like, okay, well, Adam Driver's done with this role.
Yeah,
and that's what feels unfortunate is because it's not good for the story. It's like, okay, well, the actor probably does not want to do this anymore. So.
Yeah. With his redemption though, the whole thing about it, like I really enjoyed it. I loved when that lightsaber transferred over to him, and he like curtsied or whatever. Like,
oh, that was such a Han Solo moment.
Funny.
That was so Harrison Ford. It was so good.
Just a quick question on like the basically teleporting of the lightsaber. Has that ever been like in anywhere of the Star Wars, whether it's Clone Wars, the Legends that are obviously not canon?
I don't think so, right?
No, the closest thing that I could even like remotely compare it to is like Star Wars Rebels, like the world between worlds.
Oh, the only
pulling characters from one force in time to another point of
time. What I would compare it to is Revan and Bastila, because remember in Night KOTOR they have this big bond. They never do that, and the thing is, Palpatine did say this is a bond he hasn't seen in centuries. So they did set up someone else has had this, but that's just.
I mean, the way it's set up in this movie, they like. Kind of have the foreshadow where he steals the beads off of her, right? So it's like it seems like JJ was like, oh, I think I kind of want to do this later, and then let's just have a moment where it happens earlier.
Well, that they foreshadowed in Last Jedi with the rain or the water right on Kylo. So I like that they even started.
It enhanced, right? It was like
it did. It was getting stronger. Yeah. And what you said about that, the KOTOR, there's a lot of, well, not a lot, but there are elements of KOTOR that I felt like were pulled into this.
100%.
I 100%.
And I think that's
too.
good. Yeah. And I feel like this movie definitely. it tackles and kind of like throws a spotlight on
It got
know,
weird.
the old Republic,
Yeah.
I would say, and stuff like that, which is in my books very good because it's fan
Oh, I
service.
fucking love that too. Oh yeah.
And
I was eating that shit up.
I've got like when I get on my notes later, I got a couple cool things.
I'm so excited too.
that I'm gonna throw out towards you guys. That has just got me super stoked. But yeah, like that, and I like too how it even focused on the Dark Empire legacy kind of
yeah.
comics a little bit. Which
They should have just made him fucking Thrawn.
I know,
Richard
I
E. Pride
know.
or Richard Grant.
God damn,
the,
but like
the older Empire guy who was General
okay,
Pride.
I honestly completely thought he was the client from The Mandalorian. Just the way they were talking.
Werner Herzog?
Yeah, I was like, they're so similar.
Show me the baby.
show me the baby.
I want to see the baby.
Yeah, I think I was never a huge, massive fan of that kind of storyline with Palpatine, and the Dark legacy kind of comics, him coming back, like cloning and doing that whole thing and jumping from his essence to body.
The Matt Damon bodies.
Yeah, Matt Damon.
Yeah, no Matt Smith. Thank
But
God.
that being said, I did enjoy how they portrayed it in this movie and kind of dived into that. And that when Kylo Ren, like when he was still evil at the beginning, and when he went to Exegol, and the voice was in, and I was like, okay, this is it. Matt Smith or Ian McDiarmid. And the whole temple was just, I was shriveling in my chair. I thought, this is just terrifying. I love every second of this. And when Kylo Ren got there and the lightning was flashing, and you just see this old decrepit body, I was like, oh, yeah, he's like blind or whatever. I'm like, this is just perfect. I love this.
That's definitely one of my favorite planets we've ever been to
I
in
agree.
the entire Star Wars.
Yeah, visually.
Visually
just a buffet
astounding.
of stuff, yeah.
When he gets to the planet, I know that it was like, I think it was in trailers prior to the movie, but like when I actually saw like on the big screen of him like activating his lightsaber and just like the lightning in the background kind of with the fog, I was just like, this is so fucking sick. I was so hyped. And then like the reveal of the Emperor, I was so satisfied with. I'm glad it wasn't just a shredded young guy or something. He just like, he looked so like he had lived like 170 years old, like totally blind. He had like black muck all around him. He was eating some like double bubble or something. Grape
bubble.
or big league chew, whatever the hell it's called.
If you don't chew Big Red, then fuck you.
But I don't know. It's probably just because I'm pretty biased. I'm just such a fan of like the ancient Sith, and like I just want to. Seeing this planet, I want a Disney Plus of just all like the old Sith, like 100%. I want that. It'll probably happen sooner or later, but I
before we
100%
dead.
Yeah, just seeing like the statues of like the old whatever the hell you'd call them, just like Sith lords, and then like when it like lights up and you see the crowd, just like unknown
Those
characters,
Sith acolytes,
so
I think
like
is their title
so
right now.
sinister and just so creepy, and I just loved. I loved everything about that planet.
Yeah.
And I was just, that's why I said like my favorite was definitely like the last third of this movie, because obviously that's like the end finale is on that planet. I just loved everything about it. So
Before
So
like
hyped.
we transition further away, one more thing on Kylo
sorry.
Ren.
Oh,
or
I
Ben
still have
Solo.
one more question to ask you, too.
Okay. And yeah, with Ben Solo and that kind of like end sequence, like when they confront Palpatine, like I liked seeing Rey and Ben both ignite their lightsabers, because like their relationship together. Yes, they kissed and they have that romance and stuff, but for me, throughout this, I just got complete, Han Solo and Leia Solo like twins vibes going on, and that's something that I love from the Legend stories, and that's what I felt. And like the kiss doesn't ruin it for me. Like,
well, yeah. What did you think
anything
about
like
that? Because
that,
ever
but-
since Last Jedi, you've been telling me we've done so many cantinas. No, that's not what it is. That's never gonna happen. How did you feel seeing that moment? Because I
just
couldn't
started
believe it.
laughing. I'm like, oh, Travis is just fucking. He's gonna die happy now. He's lived.
Yeah,
And,
I'll always have this.
there was also a moment too, because like when she kind of wakes up and then she's like Ben, and like before she says Ben, I was expecting them to kiss, and then when they didn't and she just said Ben, I'm like, they're not gonna fucking kiss. I'm like, what the fuck is
It was
this?
so well done.
And then they
because-
did it, and I was
yeah,
like, okay, that's
Because when
awesome.
he force revived her with the stomach, and then her hands comes on the stomach, and then that goes up, and then they kiss. They kiss because I've watched the clip. I saved it on my phone. I found it on Twitter. It is a long kiss. It's like 10 seconds. I couldn't believe it. But then like, it's so good to see him actually smile. Like to see this guy who is so full of hatred, he actually smiles and then he dies. But one, that's the thing where I like Kylo Ren. I didn't want him to die, but it's like he feels at least at peace. But it was such a good, like I think that scene could have been really bad, but I think just because those two are really great actors, they pulled it off really well. Them both feeling awkward, not knowing what's happening, and then him just being so happy and then passing away and her emotion. I wish we stayed on her a little bit longer because I felt we cut away right away, and then she was reuniting with everybody. I wish we stayed with her. Kind of like how we got that scene with Luke burning Vader. I didn't want that verbatim, but just a little bit more of those, like her dealing with it. But that's
even just like wrapping up his cloak or something. I don't know, doing some sort
for
of
a
service.
future baby. But no, that that's a gripe I have against the whole movie is we move past stuff way too quick.
He was smiling because he probably thought he was getting laid, and then he just died.
No,
probably
I
wasn't
think
expecting
I
it.
think he.
Is this what sex feels like?
I think he was just, and that's why I loved it too. I think he was it. It's Star Wars. It's a massive fairy tale, but that is the equivalent of you liking somebody and then it being confirmed, and that's what it was. And I loved the line was so heartbreaking. I think Daisy Ridley sold so well when she does go to kill him, and she goes, "I did want to take your hand, but I want to take Ben's hand."
Oh yeah,
and that's where it's this realization of, because I think he thought she just rejected him entirely, but it was that side, and I think she sold it perfectly, and that's where I love that they actually had this character confirm that she's like falling for this dark side user, and it's just like that's canon and legend stuff that doesn't happen in movies. That's why it's something so unique and cool. But shout out to those two that they really pulled that scene off.
Yeah,
spicy scene. I was drenched.
I definitely didn't emphasize enough of just like Rey's performance in this movie.
Yeah.
You already mentioned it, but definitely her standout performance. How Last Jedi was definitely Kylo's show. This is Rey's show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with what you guys said, but just that whole scene again where Rey and Ben were confronting Sidious and they had their lightsabers. I love that. The only downside for me is that Ben just kind of got shafted. He
Right
just
away.
got force pushed away, and
You will fall like I fell.
Yeah.
He's still mad about getting thrown down that tunnel.
It
Oh,
looked
yeah.
identical too, like the blue smoke or whatever.
Yeah.
that's just one thing that I found a little bit unfortunate. Like I liked when he sucked, like their force essence
yeah.
out of them, and he dropped, and he had like this pristine,
Oh.
nice robes,
He just
like
like no
crimson
shirt.
robes.
It's just like abs or something.
Oh yeah, like
I
he was
thought-
looking good.
I thought that's when Matt Smith was going to come, and I'm like, oh, he's going to get really young here, which I was fine with then. But I liked his, I'm going to talk about Palpatine later, but I liked his look. He had decrepity and less fingers. I
the
liked
glowing
it.
eyes.
It was something
I am
different.
all the Sith.
Yeah, the glowing eyes
Ooh.
definitely. Oh.
So good.
Let's talk about Rey, because obviously that's the big one. I've already said I loved her performance. I think I loved pretty much everything they did with her character. Like I said, they cemented her as a top 10 character for me. She's somebody now. Before I always liked her. I liked her Law Enforcement Awakens. I always liked her, but this was, if we do another trilogy, another movie, and she's the lead, I'm very excited. I'd already be excited, but now I'm like, I feel I'm more invested in her, whether it's her stuff with Kylo, because I think they give her cool shades of, like I said, kind of falling for the dark bad boy. And that's, to me, like her doing that is a character choice. That's something kind of bad. Obviously, it's dead, so it'll go away. And I liked her interactions with Finn and Poe. I liked how she handled all her scenes with Palpatine. I think her being a Palpatine is going to be a controversial thing, because that depends if you liked Last Jedi or not. I liked that she was. I think the delivery of it was really rushed. Just Kylo, just exposition, you're a Palpatine, and just these quick flashbacks of this is Palpatine's son. They were murdered. They sent them away. Kylo wasn't lying, but then he got the truth. It was all very convoluted, but I liked that explained how powerful she was, because this guy's like pretty much a Sith god, right?
Do we know that it was Palpatine's son? I wasn't sure if it was, because they emphasized the mum more than
I
they
think-
did the father.
'cause I
because she
swear-
was talking, saying,
I can't
it's going to be okay.
remember.
Oh.
And then she even talked again when they showed that flashback with the Jedi Hunter having them.
But either father, daughter, whatever it is, she's related to
Yeah.
them somehow. And I think, like we've talked about, who is this parent, who is this, blah blah
Mhm.
blah. But whatever.
I wanted to
They
actually.
did it. I think you might not like it. If you don't, I can't say you can't not like it, because I understand.
We were discussing on the predictions episode about Dark Ray. How did you feel about that?
I wasn't surprised at all, because you guys done the prediction. Everyone's like, it's not a vision. I just felt that's one thing in negative for this movie. The marketing was not good for this movie, because it was completely, they were afraid people would not show it from Last Jedi. And the box office right now, it's coming lower than Last Jedi, but like by 10 million. It's going to be fun. It's projected to be the 5th biggest movie of all time. And people will be like, oh, that's a massive failure. It's going to make like billions of dollars. But I think that was them trying to cover for people are really not hyped. Let's show them Dark Ray. I didn't like it.
No.
If we didn't see it, I would like. But then again, that's the same as Luke fighting Vader in the cave, and then he strikes it down. And he sees his face. So another like ripping from Empire,
Totally.
which I didn't like. So I
totally.
didn't like it. It's fun visually, but
Yeah, I thought like the confrontation was good, but 100%. If it wasn't an actual person, I didn't want to see it in the trailer, and that's exactly what we got. So I was a little let down by that.
Yeah, I agree. I was let down. I don't think they should have shown that in the trailer because
No.
I was really hoping it would be an
Told
actual
ya.
fight because I thought the whole character and that lightsaber was just super cool. I thought they could have played up that really, but
She was
that's a
fucking
different
creepy, too.
storyline all the way. She
Just,
was
like,
creepy. She
Her
had the
facial
vampire
tones.
teeth.
She had the vampire teeth. Reminded me of Bilbo Baggins when he was trying to get the fucking ring back from Frodo. Yeah, 100%. That's all I was
That's
thinking.
that's the noise. Yeah.
How'd you feel about it, Dylan?
I'd like to hold it again.
You know, I was
time.
I was hoping after she busted out of that little side hatch, I was hoping that it was a clone, that it would follow her out there, and then that would be
Yeah.
like a fight scene. Didn't happen.
It was very much just like the Force
Didn't happen.
cave on.
Yeah.
It
on
is.
on
Yeah.
Dagobah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you guys. Nothing to add there. Yeah, I think Rey, honestly, before this movie is probably like my favorite Star Wars character. I'm not as attached to the original films as other people are, so I really like Han Solo from those. But I don't know, like even just watching them again last week, like I don't think that Mark Hamill's that great of an actor, and it shows through. Like it's really clear to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just the character of Luke that doesn't do it for me. I don't know. Anyway, I think Rey probably was my favorite character, and this kind of just cemented that even more. Even though
Oh, I thought there was gonna be a bad turn.
I
there.
thought for
you
sure,
were,
too,
You were
yeah.
building her up to bring her
well, it's
down.
like even if she wasn't great in this movie, like who, like it's not like it would be bad enough for anyone to top her,
Baba
I
Freak.
guess.
That little alien
I
guy
actually
was
really
great.
like Baba Freak, but no, I think Rey is fun in this movie, even though like there's all sorts of messy plot stuff as we discussed. I really like that we get another training sequence because you don't really need that after we kind of had like her doing stuff in Last Jedi. I feel like you didn't just show another one, but I like that they had that. It's just a simple thing. I mean, it's a good way to like start the movie or like have your first scene with her where she's just doing something simple by herself, but. Yeah, I liked that aspect of it.
I love the wrinkle that Leia was training her and her master, and obviously they show that she was almost a Jedi, whatnot. But I think they did need it just because I think some people were like, "Why is she so powerful?" So I think it helped those people to show that she spent a whole year training, so she is more powerful. But I love the choice of Leia being the master. I
Yeah.
think that was really well
I
done.
really like that too. Also just kind of a parallel of how like in episode 6 Luke's in all black and this one she's in all white. I just loved her outfit. I thought it was so
yeah.
It's
sick.
great. Yeah.
And when they revealed like Leia's saber, part of me was kind of hoping it was green, not gonna lie. So when it was blue, I don't know. I wasn't let down. It was just like,
More
oh, that kind
blue.
of sucks.
It's always blue.
It's always blue,
always
yeah.
blue.
And then
So tired
Like,
of
what
those
happened to
blue
green?
sabers.
What happened to Luke's green lightsaber?
I know that's a
Some
never-ending
fucking comics
debate.
He
gonna
threw
tell
it
me.
like Ben did on the Death Star.
Great.
He saw his dad in like a dream sequence, basically through his saber.
Don't
Um,
disrespect that weapon
And
of
then
a
just
Jedi.
like there was a little flashback between Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher when they're like younger. I absolutely love that. Like it's
That was
really
so
quick.
good.
I thought it was so good. And then like obviously she like kind of takes down Luke and then he's just like looking up. I don't know. It was just it reminded me obviously of like the originals because that's what they
Yeah.
looked like in the original. And I loved it because I don't know. I
It
never
was,
really
It was
pictured-
Uncanny Valley for me, the CGI on it.
Yeah.
But I like
agree.
the idea of the scene. It just,
Yeah.
I just think maybe you could have cut it. Didn't look good to me. But
Okay. Yeah.
maybe I'm like.
I like
sounds
the
you
idea
guys
of
liked
it, yeah.
So
I think Hamill looked good. I think Fisher didn't look good.
No.
I think she looked very CG. But I
Yeah.
think for me, because it was so quick, I was fine with it. But I agree. It
oh
didn't
yeah, it's
look the
really
greatest.
weird lighting. Plus, it's like I mean, just the nature of like that dream sequence or
Yeah.
flashback sort of thing.
I think they're trying to
They have
hide.
a weird coloration on it.
I think they were smart for the majority of the 30-second fight that they were wearing masks. I think that was smart of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So I think if it was a longer, like let's say if it was a 5-minute flashback of them, I would have been like, I don't know. But with it just
Yeah.
being a quick scene, I was fine. Like, all
Yeah.
right, it doesn't look the greatest, but Carrie's not here and Mark's 60 years old, so let's do this.
It
I
is.
definitely didn't think it was like the most polished like
No.
de-aging I've ever seen, but just for like what they were doing, I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100%
And seeing
agree.
that green
It was-
lightsaber back.
oh,
Come on, man.
Oh yeah, it was just super awesome to have that sequence. I really I like how they not foreshadow, but they explain how Leia had this vision that as she continued her Jedi training, you know, the Sith would return or whatever. And I like
no,
how
it was that her son would
her
die.
son, her
She
son
should
would
have just
die.
fucking kept going because her son died. That's
True,
right.
but
Doesn't
that's
make sense.
No,
He
no,
should've
no,
been-
no. But hear me out. That's something that's kind of it's kind of been done before with like Star Wars in that sense. You have Luke who is told he has a vision about his friends dying or being in jeopardy on Cloud City, and what does he do? He rushes there anyways, and it doesn't end up changing anything. His
Yeah,
friends
they
still
took
get
it the
hurt.
wrong way.
And then
yeah.
even Anakin has visions of Padme dying. So what does he do? He tries to save her, and she ends up dying anyway. So it's just that it's that typical kind of like Star Wars thing. You have
Yeah.
these visions of what is to be, and you try to fix it or change it.
Egg or
and
the
it-
chicken, right? That's
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. Well, it ends up still turning for the worst as it is, and
yeah.
yeah, that's okay. It's Star Wars. On Rey though, I think this definitely was just fantastic. I definitely am like a full on like just Rey's supporter, with her performance in this movie. I was able to connect more with her in this than I was in Last Jedi, and I like that because I feel like, okay, I was rooting for her and what she was doing in this movie. I was really on board with, like, okay, like you could really feel like the struggle of her character and everything, and I really like that. I like her development and her just not like showing like a lot of anger towards her friends, but just her trying to figure her place in all of this, kind of like a nod towards what she said in Last Jedi. And it's really awesome how they grew her character. And the training that she did on the training course at the beginning was awesome. Her having Leia as a master, so many things, her following up with the Jedi texts, so many cool things. The one thing I have a little bit of a problem with is that they just throw Luke and Leia and like, oh yeah, me and Leia, we both knew you were Palpatine. It's like, well, okay.
I need to watch Leia. I can buy because they didn't have much screen time together. I really need to watch Last Jedi again and see how Luke reacts with her, because I don't think that works at all with Luke knowing she's a Palpatine, like
pushing her away.
Like I think there's ways you can make it work, and that's why I will see when I watch it all. But that was initially, at first, I'm fine with Leia knowing, because like I said, very little screen time. But that one is it's a tough pill to swallow. But that's some of the more egregious, I think, FU's The Last Jedi is like that's a big one.
One thing that really bothered me, and this isn't solely on Rey, but if you've been listening to these Star Wars casts the last few weeks, you know that I'm a massive Chewbacca hater. I just really don't like this character at all.
He was so good in this
movie.
there's like
there's this potentially great moment, it's cheesy moment, but like Chewie gets like kidnapped and he's like flying away, and then Rey, once again, this Force thing to me was a little crazy, but whatever. She's like, using her Force powers to like try to pull him back down so they can keep Chewie, and then Kylo also throws his hand in there, and they're like kind of doing this weird balancing act where they're trying to pull the ship down. He's trying to push the ship down. She ends up like shooting out some Palpatine lightning, destroying the ship, which is like a big thing where she's like kind of connecting with that dark side, using that dark Force energy, and showing that connection with Palpatine. And so that's like a big thing, and the implications are huge. Like the consequences are massive. Like you lose Chewbacca, this massive character, and then a bunch of other random dudes that we don't care about. But then like it's revealed, oh no, there was actually there's just another ship that we just didn't see. It's like incredibly lazy. I hate that they're like, that was a huge moment, or it should have been a huge moment for the character with big consequences, and like her turning dark like immediately shows how this is like a bad thing. But then it just like, oh, just kidding, Chewbacca wasn't on that ship. Who was on the ship? I don't know, just a bunch of random bad guys. Doesn't matter.
All innocent
so that
people,
really bothered me that they one, obviously I know I have some bias, I have some skin in the game because I hate Chewbacca, and when he died I was like, I actually pumped my fist because I was like, yes, he's done.
My God.
Get rid of Chewbacca.
I was sitting next to this guy during this whole
I'm
movie.
like, he's finally done. But then he's just not, and there's no reason for any of that to occur. It's really silly. It really bothers me.
I wouldn't say there's no reason. I would say, like, to me, I felt like that was a Star Wars kind of thing to do, where he was on another ship, and granted, she did kill innocent people in that sense.
Yeah, but who cares?
Innocent, were they?
Well, there were
just
a couple pilots on there. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't like. There's no consequences. We don't know who those people are. We don't care about them. No one cares about them.
Okay, well, that aside, then the fact that she still conjured that Force lightning and tapped into the dark side there, I think is huge, because that's the first time we've seen her really tap into it.
Yeah, but it doesn't have
on that
consequences,
level.
so I don't think it does matter.
Well, the consequences are that she's tapped into something that is
but nothing
scared
bad happened
for her.
Nothing bad happened.
Nothing bad at the end, now that we know. But I mean,
but
through
she
this
was
journey,
close to it happening.
She was close, and we could see that struggle for her.
Oh
and
no, they play it for like 5 minutes. Oh, Chewbacca's not actually dead. Don't worry, guys. You see him on the
no,
show.
but
it
wasn't
in her perspective as a character, it's when she finds out Chew's alive. I'm with Dylan that I don't think the scene is good. I think it was very kind of cheap pop, make you think Chewie's dead. And I think Chewie could have died, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I really like a scene he gets later, so it's that give and pull. So I don't think the scene is that good, but I do think that it shows that when Chewie comes back, it's like she has to be careful now, because we could have lost Chewie. I think it is kind of a cop-out cheap moment, but I think that's what it's supposed to be, is one, it signals she has dark powers, and then two, it's like, I have to learn to use this or put it away, or I could kill him next time or kill somebody, right? So that's the only thing I could get out of it. And it's kind of like what Kirklin said in Last Jedi with the Leia thing. You don't like the Leia thing, but you like the Luke and Leia like the meeting, so you wouldn't want her to die there.
Exactly.
That's the same thing with Chewie, that I wouldn't have minded him dying there, but then we didn't get him reacting to Leia, which I thought that was very well done. I think the score was great. The way like Finn's like Chewie and he's like pushing away. I thought that was really well done to give Chewie this huge moment, which he hasn't in this trilogy. He's been on the side. That was a big moment, and that made me choke up. So that's the thing where it's like I would have liked him to die there, but then we lose that moment. So
I agree with you. Just to weigh in on that scene, I do see your point of view where it's just like it's very much a cop out. It's just like, oh, it's just lucky that there was an identical ship that looked exactly the same one
Same
that like
place,
Chewie
same
got.
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it's like, but I feel like we've gotten those moments in Star Wars like in the past, and also I'm just a huge Star Wars fan, so I kind of just brush that off. But as the scene in general, I actually really like the scene. I don't know, just seeing like the usage of like very mighty force powers.
Yeah, I
there
like
to like
that.
actually like pull that.
Bringing the
Force
Star
Unleashed.
Destroyer
Yeah, I
down.
liked the
very
use of
much
it,
Force
yeah.
Unleashed. I was getting those vibes, and like just like Daisy Ridley's acting, like when she thought that she killed Chewie, and she just like kind of like squeals, like I
Yeah.
just. It hit me hard, and like in that moment, I actually thought he was like gone, like for sure.
I just thought
and
of
I
the
was like,
trailers. I'm like, no, he pops up in later scenes.
Well,
so.
okay, well,
Force Ghost Chewie.
Well, it doesn't even make sense. Like, why wouldn't Kylo just knock Rey over? Why did he like
because he's
battle
well,
this
he
ship?
explained like later on, didn't he, that he was trying to like actually bring out the dark side, like when she was real. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
I would
a
have to
dark
see the movie again,
it's a
but
head game
I'm pretty
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that he mentions
It's
that.
a-
Like
it-
I was
it
I was
is.
pushing you to that limit.
It's a
Weird,
dark side
It was
thing.
just a super weird tug of war to me. That seemed, I don't know,
Yeah.
it just looked stupid.
I don't know. I liked it.
Well, like the dark side, they play on it. Like even in Fallen Order with like certain characters near the end, you could see how like they play that head game and they want to they want to make you frustrated, they want to make you angry, and they want you to be emotionally compromised to draw you out. So you
wouldn't
tap into
wouldn't
those
that
things.
be the same if like he pushed her and then like Chewie was kidnapped and taken away?
I was like, oh,
No,
Wouldn't that be
because
like a
then it's
thing
a
that
quick
would
and done.
frustrate
He
her?
pushes her, the ship flies away, and then she has to just retreat back or figure out a different alternative. She's not gonna, he hasn't died.
But then the other stupid thing is then what happens? Like he just lets her go. He doesn't follow her at all. She just walks
yeah,
away.
I think that's where I didn't have
like
a
that
problem.
whole scene is just stupid because like none of it really makes sense.
I think that's where like you brought at the beginning. I think that's some of the problems with this movie because they do rush so quick that they for everything it's just like video game cutscenes. You hit X on one and you
Yeah.
skip to the other thing. So I don't think you're wrong, and I think that hurts the film because it is just she just goes and Kylo just watches her leave, and it's like all right, and then we're on to the next set piece. So yeah, I agree. It's not done well. That's why I hate. That's why there's stuff in like that scene where there's 50% of it I like, and there's 50% like this really lazy and choppy but.
I know it's a weird thing because like what should be like a scary moment for the viewer where Rey's like channeling her dark side in like a terrifying way, to me it was like an overwhelmingly good thing because I was like glad Chewie was gone. But
Yeah,
I think
very
that's a
sinister.
you thing.
oh,
That's
it
a you
definitely
thing.
is because you're talking about this moment later where Chewie like screams and you're like, oh, that's a great emotional moment for him. To me, it's like this is Chewie. He's never changed. He's a very, very one-dimensional, boring-ass character.
Oh yeah,
just
but we've never
annoying as
seen
fuck.
that. We've never seen him like.
Oh
lose
no,
over
he's
someone
he's
dying.
done that
that
100
was like-
times.
No, he hasn't.
I don't know those
100
those
times.
those moments.
We've seen him do
Like,
that 100 times.
There's
He's
a few,
never changed.
There's a few Chewbacca moments, especially in this trilogy, like in Force Awakens when he gets shot in the shoulder, and for me that set the pace. Like, okay, these characters that we fell in love with are older now, and there's like consequences. They're getting hurt, and there's tons of things. And then Han Solo dying and Chewbacca literally just popping a shot that right at Kylo Ren, and just seeing that anger that he's willing to like try to kill his Han Solo's son because he was just so enraged. That was crazy. Maybe. And then after that fact, and we see like it was just so sad, and that's something that really brought me like to almost tears in my eyes when he was like freaking out.
This way too, where it's like, okay, that moment, sure, maybe you guys like that, where he finds out about Leia, he's like sad about it, but like at this point, what else are we gonna do with Chewie? Why are we keeping him around? Why wouldn't you do that moment where you take him out and have this big moment for Rey, who's like your post child of this trilogy? She's still alive. It's Rise of the Skywalker. She says she's a Skywalker. She's going to be in future movies in the future. Like, why not have this big moment for her instead of just like pulling away for no reason to keep a character who doesn't matter anymore? Like, now that Leia's gone, now that Han's gone, now that Luke is gone. Like, what is Chewie gonna do? He's just gonna hang out with the new cast.
But maybe
He's never
Lando,
gonna
but
change. He's gonna be the same character he's been for like 40 years at this point. Like, I don't see the point of keeping him around.
For me, I've seen the relationship develop between Chewie and Rey. Like, even when she was back on the first mission again on the Falcon with Chewie there, I always felt like, okay, she kind of isn't replacing Han Solo, but is filling a nice kind of space where Han Solo left in Chewie's life, and I like their
Chewie's
relationship
like the same
together.
with everyone. He just like does his stupid ass.
No, he
No,
doesn't
I
like
definitely
Finn.
wouldn't
He
say
doesn't like
that.
Finn because up until this movie, he's always pushing him and like side brushing him. So
Mhm.
they give him little personality moments where he show he likes everyone, but for some reason, Chewie's a fucking racist.
So you're gonna give him
apparently.
another hour's worth of screen time in the next movie, and like,
But
what's the point of keeping him around at this point?
the point?
What do you want to see from Chewie?
Because the point is, it's just purely business. It's a touchstone of the original trilogy. It's not an actor, so you can put anyone in that suit.
Yeah.
People sell toys. That's it. I think from a
I
story.
don't like that reason.
No,
like,
I
that
know,
to me
but
isn't
that's-
like doesn't make a good story.
I know that's what you asked me. Story wise, I think you needed him there for that. You need him if they want the fan service to show him and Lando back together in the Falcon at the end.
Mhm.
It's fan service, you like it or not, but that's why it's there. I think in the next movies, I think you have a solid case as if they do another trilogy or whatnot. That first movie you could cut him down and be done. But I think there was a little bit to do. Maybe you could have switched the Leia dying and Chewie going, but there's lots of things I would have switched in this movie. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really worth talking about anymore. But
the only thing I
I'm a
want to
big
talk
Chewie
about because Chewie I forget about, the only thing I was not the only thing. One thing I was really disappointed is I thought they were for sure going to give Kylo and Chewie a scene when he was on the ship, but Kylo doesn't even acknowledge him at all. This is his fucking pretty much his family dog. He grew up with Chewie. Chewie was around, and he doesn't even acknowledge like this is my father's like best friend, buddy. So
Yeah.
I wish they could have done that, and that would have been another slowly turning him to the good side. Like maybe something happens, he sees Chewie, and he's just like thinking about like. Right there, they did flashbacks. You could have easily found some young 5-year-old actor and had him with Chewie and just have him that quick flash and like he go, no, I don't want to see that. So I am disappointed. This whole trilogy didn't get a single scene of Kylo Ren and Chewbacca. People that he grew up with this thing. So that I don't get.
So you want a scene of him just in the torture room with Chewie strung up and Kylo Ren's
Well,
like,
but maybe
oh,
he-
you missed your shot.
No.
I'm stronger.
No, but maybe
Stronger
he
than I
hears Chewie. Maybe he hears Chewie being tortured, and he's like, "Oh, I'll do this." But then he gets him just to stop, and and like that's. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much. If you were gonna turn him good in this movie, there's so much more. And I know
There's
we'll get
some
into
wasted potential
Palpatine.
there.
Same thing. They barely talked about that whole him being in his head. I was so hyped because that was that trailer moment, and maybe we can transition into Palpatine that we lost our mind. They didn't do anything with it. He was Snoke. They're assuming that Force Awakens moment where he's talking to the helmet. Now that was Palpatine talking to him, but then nothing else. We don't know how Kylo feels about being his strings pulled from Palpatine. We don't know exactly why Palpatine. We didn't see them interact that much. I was really disappointed with everything with Palpatine, other than like aesthetically he looked cool and was a badass. But like there's so much there. Kylo is the reason he's alive is because of Palpatine. He created his grandfather, so it's just like the depths there. And even then, you could have made it so much easier for Kylo to turn good if he finally realizes like, oh, since I've been a child, this guy's been like messing with my life. I killed my dad for all the wrong reasons, but not really. He's just like, I'm gonna work with Palpatine and then kill him, and it's just like there's so much depth there, and I feel they chose action over character stuff. And Palpatine was just, oh, Rian Johnson killed Snoke, so we need a big bad, and that's what it felt like. And another disappointing run for me.
A thing on that with Palpatine is, I don't understand why he commissioned Kylo Ren to go out and kill Rey, and then his plan was for Rey to come there alive. I don't get what the whole point of that was.
No, I Palpatine for me is, other than I like Ian McDiarmid's acting, like I said, the look, I think that was one of the weakest things. It was Fata incomplete when I saw the credits and how we find out Palpatine is back. The first line, Palpatine sent a call to the universe and he's back. How? Why? What's this call? What's going on? And that's where I knew that I might enjoy this movie, but I knew, they don't give a fuck about the details. They don't give a shit about this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I said, the how and the why. Like you revealed it in the crawl, and it's just that was super disappointing. It was just this just feels like it was supposed to be Snoke. Snoke was supposed to be there with the cult, with everybody. It makes sense too, because if you think of Force Awakens, Snoke had black robes and he was looking like those Sith people, but he got killed. So this feels like JJ was stuck, and what do? Well, everyone loves Palpatine. Let's bring him back. And if you do that,
I don't love Palpatine.
Yeah, I
except for
don't love
Dylan. But that's what I mean. If you bring him back, there's so much rich history there with him and Skywalkers, other than a few lines of, oh, Skywalker, the blood, nothing. And it's just like, I just don't. I don't understand again
Well,
too.
it's very interesting because I was looking.
Is it?
It is in the sense like I was looking more into like Snoke as a character and such, and how he talks about how he witnesses like the rise and fall of the Empire and all this stuff. And I'm wondering, in the sense now, I'm trying to change my perspective on it so it blends more with this movie. Okay, like is he saying those things to Kylo Ren to make Kylo Ren believe that he was alive during that time, or even though he wasn't apparently, or was he someone? Is he an independent person who's thinking for himself, who is controlled by Palpatine, but he thinks he's the ultimate
And that's the
bad
problem.
guy?
It's all your headcanon. If this was 8, we could be asking those questions
Yeah.
like we got one more, but we don't. And that's the same thing with my headcanon. I can go, yeah, Kylo feels like he's been messed around his whole life since he's a child, but they don't really acknowledge that. They throw a line here or there, but they don't even do that barely. So that's why I hate. They shouldn't leave headcanon stuff in the finale, which I don't think is the finale, but yeah.
I agree with that. Just something I wanted to touch upon that you mentioned, how Palpatine was saying he wants Kylo Ren to go get Rey and then kill her, basically, right? And then the whole time he wanted Rey to come to him because she's a Palpatine. I took that as, I want you to go get Rey and kill her, which in my mind, I know that Rey is going to kill you because she's a Palpatine and she has my blood, so she's obviously superior to you. So I know she's going to kill you, and then she's going to come to me. By killing you, she's going to have to use like her anger to kill you and like tap into that dark force. So that's the way I took it.
Right, fair enough.
And then for the Snoke thing, I do agree with that, how it was just like, well, we lost him in Rian Johnson, so now we're going to just bring in Palpatine for this whole thing. And there's definitely some wasted potential around that because this is probably like the biggest villain that's in Star Wars.
It is. He's the puppeteer of every trilogy.
No, every trilogy, 100%. So there's definitely some wasted potential stuff that I kind of just let like go by me. I don't know why. I'm just simple like that, I guess. And then when you bring it to light, it's just like, oh yeah, that kind of takes it down some notches. And then just like the whole like logistics of him like controlling Snoke or not necessarily controlling Snoke,
Well, we don't
literally
know.
making Snoke.
Yeah,
and then it goes to that
Snoke
headcanon thing, right?
Does he have free will? Is he controlled the whole
Yeah.
time? I don't know.
It's all for interpretation, and I 100% agree with you that they shouldn't have that in like I'm not gonna say I want to say standalone film, even though it isn't a trilogy, because you're introducing these concepts in one film, and you're not gonna see them again other than this one film, unless I guess they reintroduce.
But even then, I counter with like, we have Endgame, and that is the same thing where, to me, it closed everything we needed to, but it still left some doors open for some other adventures. But I felt after Endgame, like, we could never get another Marvel movie, and we're completed. I feel like after this, I don't feel we're completed. I feel there's so much more stuff that I do like that we could go on adventures, but there's so much more that we haven't tackled, we don't know, and it's just, that shouldn't be your finale closer.
A lot of the stuff that we haven't tackled, like, how, like, does Snoke have free will? How did he make him in the first place? All these things. I feel like that kind of, like, you can't really tackle anymore because the guy behind that, he's just disappeared now. Like, he got
and
literally
Kylo's
exploded.
dead too.
Kylo's dead.
Yeah.
We don't really know who the new villains are, like,
Yeah.
even if they are out there.
And they should be dead too, right? Because they kind of exploded, right? So
well, yeah, exactly. But like, if you follow Star Wars, there always has to be balance in the Force. So even if all the dark side are dead, they will rise one day because there always has to. No, there has to be balance, and then
you need to have a plot for a movie.
I always disagree. You and Taylor are the same. I always take
100%.
I always take balance of the Force. It's just the good guys are winning, and there's nothing.
No,
else.
but that's
hard
not
to
yin and
disagree.
yang.
It's up to interpretation. I'm not going to get in this argument in the review, but it's
Glorians.
It's that's to me how it is. Bring balance to the
Okay.
Force. The same way Vader's like, bring balance to the Force, like I did. Anakin said that to Rey, and to me, when he's talking about that, that's him just killing the Emperor and having all good
What do you,
guys.
what do you, when you have a
No.
when you have a
100%.
battery,
And the
you have a
chosen one?
positive end and a negative end.
The Chosen One is fake. It's not real prophecy. There's so
I'm
many
gonna-
loopholes.
I'm just
It's
gonna
not
put
a
my
real
hand up.
thing. It's trash. It's
I'm
just
ready
like
to
Jesus
rebuttal.
coming back.
I'm ready to rebuttal.
I'm tapping
So
Kirklin in.
I didn't understand that part because I was kind of just laughing as soon as I heard Hayden Christensen's voice.
Why
it
do you
just,
guys laugh? I actually liked it because I didn't want
It
to see
just-
him, but I liked
Because
his
it's
voice.
his fucking
It's
voice.
his
He's
voice,
the meme lord.
and I'm
We
thinking
saw
of
Qui-Gon's
of
voice
every
too. Let's
meme.
go.
I'm thinking of Qui-Gon was awesome, but like Hayden Christensen for some reason it was just like at a higher decibel
He's a fucking
level.
meme
I like
lord.
heard
He's
it
more
so much
important.
clearer, and it was big memes. For
I'm
sure.
a
He's
person.
he's the president of memes. That
My
is like
name
the
is
most
Anakin.
single
So-
memed character
so
of all time.
I was
Are you an
chuckling as
angel?
soon as I heard him. Yeah. I was I was big time chuckling.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't even know that he said like me, like bring balance to the Force like I did.
Yeah.
But someone, good friend of mine, he mentioned that like what that was actually like meaning was basically when he brought down the Jedi, the only Jedis that were left, there was 2 evil Jedi, right? Or I guess they wouldn't be Jedi. There's 2 Sith and then 2 remaining Jedi, correct? There'd be Obi-Wan and Yoda?
No,
Well,
there's
no,
because
there were-
if you want to go to the movies, yeah, but then with that's why I hate canon.
But
there's
no,
a
no, no,
bunch
no.
of Jedis around.
But like
In
let's just talk
Rebels-
about movies though.
Okay, yeah,
No,
just movies.
but I can counter with that
Okay.
now because
Yeah.
this movie confirmed
With Leia.
other Jedi now too.
With Leia.
And there's Leia, yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
but-
Oh
Fair
yeah,
enough.
they confirmed Ahsoka as well because Ahsoka
And
was one of those
Kanan
voices.
Jarrus
Did they
as
confirm
well.
Cal
Who's Cal again?
from fucking?
Oh no,
No.
they didn't.
Fallen
No,
Order?
No, but they confirmed, like, for example, Kanan Jarrus, who's a Jedi from Star Wars Rebels.
Canine
and then
Jar?
Ahsoka from the
Kanan,
Clone Wars.
just Kanan.
So.
Okay, so
Yeah.
my weak
Nine
my
jars.
weak counter to that, because I don't really have like a lot of research with me right now. But couldn't you just argue that like the reason why Palpatine is so much fucking stronger than all these other Jedi is because there has to be balance in the Force. So, even if it goes to like the rule of 2, why the Sith are constantly trying to have only 2 people that are Sith is because
That's a broken thing too.
because the lower amount of people that you have using like the Force, if you have 1,000 Jedi and only 2 Sith, the 2 Sith are going to be the same power of those 1,000 Jedi.
I would say yes, but then at the same time for the Sith, though, it was, with Darth Bane realizing the sense that, okay, the Sith's ultimate, destruction is that we fight amongst ourselves, and that's going to be the result of us never being able to progress and
Correct.
succeed.
Yes, I
and
agree
I
with
think that was probably, I definitely see what you're saying, and I definitely can get on board with that because,
Mhm.
it does make sense, and it's kind of like you have two or a smaller amount of people that specialize in a skill instead of like liquidating the market and having
Yeah.
tons of people doing it at a lower quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'm kind of seeing it. So, that
It's an
All
interesting
wrong.
analogy,
All
but
wrong.
I agree with it.
all wrong.
but I like this guy. I definitely can get on board with what you're saying, but I still think that Palpatine, with the Sith kind of reducing their numbers to this rule of 2, it definitely means okay that sure there's not going to be as many of them, but I don't know if it full on means that okay just because there's a lesser amount their power is going to be like tripled or
Okay.
like doubled or anything
Yeah.
like that. But I do think that because there's a lesser amount of them, the training is much more on point and more stronger what they're diving into and experimenting with, and that more in-depth training is being passed along further and further down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's much more intensive instead of the Jedi where you have thousands of them that are just going through basic sparring and basic teachings. Because if you look at all the throughout the prequels and all the thousands of Jedi, they only had a certain limit of what their capabilities were. And now that you have this smaller amount of Jedi specializing in like
Yeah.
the sacred texts and stuff, they're practicing and learning more powerful things that taking care in
Yeah.
what they're learning.
And, like,
It's
But
not
I can also counter you
diluted.
them just saying Rey's a Palpatine. If Rey wasn't a Palpatine, then your balancing works. But she's also just.
But-
or you can just chalk it up to she's powerful because she has the blood of another powerful person.
My thing with Rey that's kind of interesting is, and obviously we don't like fully dive into this, but like she's shown that she's able to use both dark side of the Force and light side of the Force.
Luke
which
did the same thing.
does
Force
he use
choke,
Force light?
remember?
Oh yeah, I
Yep.
did forget about that. Okay.
Yeah, but this is much more. I would say Rey does it on a much more grander scale. How
I didn't say that. He just looking for example. I
And
gave him one.
This
Fair
is also just a weak. This is very weak, so don't attack me. for
Stop
this.
saying that. Your arguments are great, Kirkland. Just own
Oh,
it.
thank
Own
you.
it, baby.
This is
Own
a
it.
very strong argument. I have a lot of facts back. Like, again, we've never seen it in movies, so I don't know how far this goes. And I hate bringing up like something that's not related to the movies, but like in certain like Star Wars video games, they always relate like basically you like whether you're healing someone or you're absorbing their life, which we saw Rey heal people in this movie. So she healed Kylo Ren, which again, this might just be my headcanon thing, but I feel like that has to be like a dark side thing.
No, that's a
Healing?
light side.
I would
That's a
say
Jedi
that's
thing.
definitely
What
light.
Palpatine was doing, the stealing essence, that's a dark side thing. But I believe that
Who-
only Jedi can do the Force heal. Correct?
Well, Kylo Ren did it.
But he was a Jedi at that point. That's that's your stick around, right? He's the light.
Fuck,
side.
this
I
movie is
don't-
so like.
But no, but that's where that's even Star Wars though too, because I've always said Darth Vader should not get to be a fucking Force ghost at the end of Return of the Jedi.
To-
but
to my
he was good
counter,
side
though-
for 5 minutes of the rest of his end of his life, and he gets to go to Jedi heaven.
And he gets to be
my-
young again
my
and get all his hair back.
Anakin again. That's such bullshit.
So my counter to that is basically Rey is a Jedi, but she conjured Force lightning, and you can say sure, maybe she tapped in the dark side, but she's still a Jedi at that state of mind.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's a matter of only Jedi can do this. I think Force users can access these abilities any
True.
point in time.
It's just
it
more
is
common
what state
knowledge,
of mind
because
are
I
you
feel like
having?
the Force heal for a Sith, they wouldn't be able to use it because they are all selfish and like they don't share.
Yeah,
and
that's
they're-
right.
they're
It's a state of mind.
all
right?
about themselves.
Or you
right?
can hold my belief and see that the Force is just a plot device,
That
and then you
too.
can do whatever you want with
That
it,
too.
and it doesn't matter because they don't care. So why should I care?
See,
That
this is why I
hurts.
didn't want to bring up
It
the
hurts.
balance.
It hurts, but they
Hurts to
don't
hear
fucking
that.
care. They can do whatever they
Yeah.
want.
Check
There's no answers to these things.
No,
You guys are just
100%.
spitballing back and forth. How many movies, books, video games, ancient texts? There's all this shit, and there's no answers because no one fucking knows.
It's all perspective.
It doesn't. Yeah, but that's just it. They're like we don't need to have all the answers and everything. But the point though that we can kind of come to similar conclusions, or we can think and we can wonder about these things. That's the thing that I
Yeah,
love.
You guys came to a similar wrong conclusion, but check out Cantina Conversations because we do this debate all the time. Dylan, I want to get us back on track with Palpatine. You're a big hater. I'm sure you weren't a fan of him being back. Or how do
No,
you
I'm
feel?
not really. I don't like him in the other movies. I just think he's not that cool. I think he's pretty lame. I think Star Wars in general has a big kind of this thing all about like balance, right? Whether or not you just had this whole conversation about what the balance really means, whatever. I've always took it as like there's got to be some dark side, some good side, whatever. I don't know. I don't really analyze it. Anyway. I feel like Star Wars has always kind of had like a villain problem where you have like a Darth Maul or like Grievous who I think look really cool and I just like watch them on screen. Darth Maul I'm sure gets really expanded on in the Clone Wars. I haven't seen that, but even just off the movies is kind of cool. But other than that, like I feel like there isn't really a ton of great villains. Like I think Kylo was really good, but he's like half this movie he's not.
Yeah.
He's not a villain. And then what else do you have in this movie? You have Palpatine, who I think is just kind of lame. I'm not really a big fan of him. And then
You
like
have
what else do you
Pride.
have? You have like this really lame general dude who's just as generic as all the other generals, and then you have Hux who they for some reason make a good guy for absolutely no reason. I didn't like him anyway, but the fact that they're just like, oh, let's just turn him into a good guy just takes away even more prowess from like the
I
bad
didn't
guy.
take it
No,
like
I
that.
didn't take that. I
yeah,
really,
disagree with
I
that.
enjoyed his turn and what he was kind of doing. I thought I would have
Well, I
liked
know
it if
you
they
did.
built up on it.
But I just disagree. He wasn't a good guy because he says, I don't want you to win. I want Kylo to lose. I
he
think
just
that
hates Kylo
yeah,
so
I think
much.
he just wants him to lose so he can take over. That's the thing I dislike. That I like that. I knew he was a spy. Taylor, you kind of said that too, that he could be a spy for years. But then I hated that they just killed him right away.
Yeah,
and it led
exactly.
to
Like
nothing.
it's super lame.
Yeah.
No consequences
Yeah.
to his choices.
This movie has balance. It presents you one good idea and then gets the bad idea. That's this entire movie. That's that's JJ's meta. He's like, oh, it's all about balance. You know, I wanted to make George proud.
Just give my quick take on the Hux thing. I really enjoyed the turn. I thought it was pretty like comedic too when he's just like, I'm the spy. So
Shoot me
it
in the
worked.
leg.
Yeah, like that was pretty good. And like at first I was kind of confused. I'm like, well, if he's the spy, why wouldn't he just go with them? But like he even said, it's just like I don't really want the rebels to win. It's just
Yeah.
I want to be the guy pulling the strings, right? So
And we got
it
that
would
Last Jedi when he went to shoot Kylo. Remember?
yeah, exactly. So I like the whole him being the mole and the
Mhm.
spy.
Shout out to Domhnall Gleeson, who was completely wasted in this trilogy, who is a phenomenal actor outside
Yeah,
of
he
this.
was,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Taylor, you have any on the Hux thing? Just because I know we're
He-
not going to talk about him ever
Yeah,
again.
he just
ever again.
he just really to me he reminded me a lot of not on the same level of like a Star Wars Rebels Agent Callus, but a very similar kind of like turn of events and scenario for that character. If you've watched Rebels, then you know what I'm talking about. But it was just that's why I was hoping that they would have built more off of with what Hux was doing, but they like I don't like that they killed him. That's the only downside to his story because I like the turn, but then that happened and it was like okay, well that's what's the point?
They
Because
just
General
wrote
He
it
sure
off.
fucking
Yeah.
They just
slid
wrote it
on that.
off.
on
Oh,
they
that
yeah.
did, and I
entire
I
floor.
like the fact that
That was Max Power.
Roomba's been working
Kylo
overtime
Ren
on that one.
basically demoted him and bumped another guy
Oh,
up
yeah,
above him.
yeah.
I thought that was amazing. And
I wanted more
hilarious,
scenes with them
and
because they hate each other so much, and we got none
Well,
of
that's
that.
the thing I thought could have been interesting. Like that guy clearly was like maybe he was just mad at him, but I feel like he was sus of him. Like thought that he was the spy.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get that, I guess. But then he still like let him go and take those 3 prisoners and like. Or
Yeah.
maybe he didn't know that Hux was going with those stormtroopers to go
It's still
ensure that was
messy.
killed, but it still like
Yeah.
just felt like kind of strange because if he did catch on, then why would he let him go? In there?
Maybe he was having suspicions, and he's like, if they let them go, then
This
I know
is
he's
the
the
test.
spy.
Yeah. And I
don't
think
know.
that's
kind of a weak assumption.
Oh,
but
yeah. And I think that's the
Yeah.
problem. We'll say it again.
well, that's
if,
like a big deal too because Chewie had the dagger still, right?
Mhm.
At that point,
Yeah, he
so
did.
it's
Right.
like You should have at least taken that dagger from him.
Yeah. Here, put this in a log save. I think that's the same thing. That's something that would have been fleshed out if JJ did both movies. But it's just like, I like the storyline, but let's just do it really quickly. But I don't think they need it. Like, it's just tough because I like the guy who did play the General Pride, but it was very quick and it was just kind of like, oh, it's Tarkin again. And they had him have a shout to the Old Republic. So
Yeah, that's the thing. It always just feels the same to
Yep.
me.
that's why I like
you
Hux,
said-
to be honest, because he was different. I think Spielberg
Yeah.
didn't like him because of the comedy, but I like that he was this little weasel who was trying to pretend he was tough, but he really wasn't. But
Yeah.
that's, I think JJ was like, I like the old stuff, so let's
Yeah,
kill him.
I can agree with that in concept. It just
Yeah.
wasn't the execution or the dialogue that did it for me previously.
You said nod to the Old Republic. What do you mean? When he was talking to Palpatine?
Yeah, because he says,
Because I took that as the Empire era that he served.
but he did say
in.
the words Old Republic, right?
Did he say the words Old Republic?
I thought he did.
I'll have to,
I'm not gonna
I'll
say
have
you're
to
right or wrong.
reconfirm
Check the
because
script.
I can't remember either. I just assumed, yeah.
The reason I thought he, like, to touch on him, why he should have been thrown, one, to give Taylor, like, the same boner I had during the Raylo kiss, but
Boner.
two, was him.
Same boner.
They made such a big deal of him being like, I'll work with you like I have in the past, whatever he said. And I thought a reveal was about to come, that I thought his skin was going to turn blue or something. But then, no, it's just like, okay, you used to work with him. Cool. Like
Well,
that led to
my
nothing.
old
It was
boss-
just, it was a fake reveal.
Well, a question about that is like, I wouldn't know who Thrawn is if I didn't know Taylor.
Yeah.
And would it, like, I don't know, the diehard or the people that aren't the diehard Star Wars fans, if he turned blue, it'd be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like,
But
what is
that's the
this
thing.
species?
Don't
Like,
make him turn blue. Like none of us knew General Pride was, but they just introduced this new character in there, so they could have done that with Thrawn. Even
Well,
I'm glad they didn't because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
this
was
isn't his
gonna
story.
say, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
So
he was in
thank
it very
fuck.
light. Yeah.
well,
Is Thrawn still alive out there somewhere?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know that for sure. He's
In
just
Legends.
he's missing.
Wait,
right?
He's missing. No, but
Yeah.
is the new books like canon?
Yeah,
no,
but
he's in Rebels basically.
Well, no,
Oh,
but the
wait.
new
Well,
books
is
are
Rebels
canon.
New books are
And
canon.
Yeah.
Rebels is canon as well? Okay.
But all those books are prequels right now, so it's
Of
never
course.
so.
Yeah,
Um,
but
prequels.
he is confirmed to be alive with Ezra.
And I will say, well, no, it's not confirmed. It's confirmed that they're missing. The thing that is confirmed, though, that Ahsoka's probably 100% dead.
Most likely.
Because
Does
she
this
was a
matter?
voice.
Let's be real.
It
with
does for the
ourselves.
It
hardcore
matters,
fans. One of
yeah.
the voices Ray heard was a Clone Wars character that they left on a cliffhanger,
Okay.
and she hasn't appeared in new canon, anything like that. She'll be in the Clone Wars revival, and she was one of the voices to Ray. So clearly that shows
That's cool.
she was. It's been 30 years since we saw her last, so she could have just died of old age. But it shows that she is dead, and it's a little canon nod, not a big one. I'm still gonna say canon doesn't matter, but I'm happy for you Ahsoka fans out there because she's a fan favorite. So.
I got a list of all the voices for you guys that they
I'm
threw
excited.
in. It's
I'm excited to hear
wild.
that.
that nice Mace too. I couldn't believe that.
Oh,
Sam
yeah.
I
Jackson.
didn't catch that. Actually.
I can.
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing.
He said
probably.
motherfucker.
Was it after?
Was it after Hayden Christensen?
I think so.
Yeah,
Oh,
we were-
yeah, we
me,
were
me and
motherfucking
Briggs were
Sith.
just
I was
done.
covering my mouth. I was trying not to laugh.
He just
Yeah.
said, "Get up, motherfucker!" And it was crazy.
She's like, okay.
They're one f bomb.
Just like his name's General Pride.
General Pride.
So General Pride, yeah. I don't know. I was
Full
a little
pride.
indifferent with that character because I wasn't sure like his intentions as well because obviously like Kylo just kind of fucks him up in that boardroom meeting when he just like chokes him out. And
That
then
wasn't on Pride. That was a
Different
oh,
guy.
was it?
guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad then.
Just some
'Cause
other random.
I
phony.
thought he was salty about that, and then like later on when Kylo's kind of just
Do you think
telling
he-
him to
yeah.
do something, and then he just I don't know, he looked very like fuck you asshole, like sure we'll do that, but I'm
Yeah.
Do you
planning
think
something
Kylo
behind him.
killed that guy? Because the scene cuts
the guy?
away when he has him up on the.
Oh,
He-
the guy
he's
that
still
choked.
The way I took
When
it was,
exploded. Oh no!
I don't think General Pride really like he. I don't to me. I don't think he was
To
on
him,
board.
to me.
I don't think he was on board with working under Kylo Ren. I
Do you-
think he wanted to work under.
Oh,
Palpatine
yeah,
I agree with
more.
you. Yeah,
so
I,
think
I,
that's
I
what
agree with that.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes more
Genius.
sense. Because for some reason I thought it was the same character, so I just assumed that it was sort of like that Hux Kylo dynamic where he's like, I gotta overthrow this guy. Like he fucking he embarrassed me in front of all my coworkers in that boardroom. Obviously, he's a different character, so my bad.
Yeah, and I think probably your mind was messing with you because they introduced the spy, right? So you're like, who
Yeah.
could it be? I thought it was Donald Gleason the whole time, except for at one moment I did think it was Kylo Ren. I was like, oh, but then he kills like that alien guy. I was like, oh, right, he's just an asshole right now. So he's definitely not the spy. Giving him,
Yeah.
he's in a little room with his helmet. All right. And I'll give my score with the helmet on.
Do it.
We transition from anything on Palpatine that you wanted to throw out right now before we move on from him?
I really liked him. I thought he was awesome. I loved his return.
I'm glad it was him.
I'm glad it was
Yeah,
him.
glad
I
it was
just
him for
wish
sure.
that this was again a nod to him coming back in like episode 8. And I honestly feel like that maybe Disney should have just broke from tradition, just said, you know what, we're gonna do. we decide to do a fourth movie.
They should have done
and
Infinity
end
War
on
Endgame.
10,
They
you know.
they really should have, because Kathleen Kennedy has said, she's like, from now on we're probably not going to do trilogies, and that's a good idea. I get it, George won the trilogies, but it's just like from now on, even the next time we see Rey, Finn, and Poe, just even like we're just going to make a movie about them. It's not going to be a trilogy, not going to be this plan. It's just we want to make one movie. I think they should have separated this into part 1, part 2. Yeah, it would have broke tradition, but I think it would have helped them in the long run, and they would have made more money too. But
I agree.
it would have helped them
I
big
agree for
time
sure.
to make it a. I just
This
missed
movie
opportunities.
was too many things.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
it was
yeah.
trying to be too many things.
We'll talk about too many things. Let's talk about Finn and Poe. We haven't talked about them yet. I'm just gonna
Poe
start
and
off that
Finn.
I absolutely loved that they gave Finn Force sensitive powers, because I just think that's a good callback to Force Awakens. They set that up right away. In the first scene is Kylo Ren is walking around with his mask, and for some reason he stops and he looks at Finn. And then he just carries on. And it was always like, what is the deal with that? Ryan Johnson didn't give a fuck about that. But that's where I like that it was building upon that. We talked about earlier, I liked him feeling it a little bit. And I hope we get a new movie with them. I would love to see Rey training Finn. And I like that they tried to play it up that he wants to talk to her. And I think they were trying to play it like, oh, he wants to tell her that he loves her.
Yeah.
But really it's that, no, he has the Force or he's feeling this. So I really like that switch. And like I said in the maybe non-spoilers or whatnot, I was just back to loving Finn and Poe.
Yeah.
Poe,
100%.
Oscar Isaac's so charismatic. That guy,
so good, man. Oh.
he's so good. I love everything they did. Just, you were a spice runner, and some people are like, oh, it's like Han Solo. It's not. People can be a criminal, and I hate also people are just like, this is not like Luke, Leia, and Han at all. Yeah, it's not. They're different. They bicker. They have a different dynamic. I loved all three of them
that
together.
scene I love so much too, when he was like, used to be a spice runner. He's like, used to be a stormtrooper. And she's like, used to be a scavenger. We can do this all night. I just love that scene.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
good.
like that.
And I really liked the Janna. I thought was fine, but just combining with them, I'm a little biased. I love Kira Russell, but I love Zori Bliss, and I love the little backstory they gave with them, and I loved the we could run away together, because it just gave some just some shades on what Poe and his
Yeah.
backstory was, and I really liked that. I loved everything, and I really liked Zora Bliss. I want a Disney Plus series of her and Poe, even though Oscar Isaac, I'm not going anywhere near Disney Plus, but because I've seen a lot of people say they didn't like Zora Bliss, that all worked for me.
She was awesome. I
Yeah.
loved that, they set it up with he
The
wanted to kiss her,
kiss?
but at the end when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
looking at each other, he's like, yeah, and she's like, no. It's just
So
their
good.
dynamic was amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of them, so I loved everything they did with Finn and Poe, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna hard disagree on that character. Zoro Bliss is her name.
Zori Bliss.
Zori Bliss.
Zori.
Yeah, to me it was almost like Rose level of just how Rose says I love you to Finn right at the end is the same, where she's like, oh, you want to run away. It just seemed super weird. I don't know the last time these characters have seen each other, but it just seemed really tacked on and unneeded for me. I liked that scene at the end where they're doing the nod thing. I thought that was kind of funny, but to me that character, you could have had that character without tacking on this love story backstory thing.
Oh,
that's
that's
what
what
I
I liked about it.
I know you
Sexy.
did, but I did not. So I'm just sharing my
Yeah,
thoughts.
I think I'll partly agree with Dylan here, because I did like their interaction at the end, and I liked her her look. It looked really cool. Kind of just made me think that she was part Mandalorian, because she never took off her helmet. But that also just probably goes.
She opened up the visor.
we saw her
Okay,
eyes.
that-
I
that's
love when
nice.
she did that. Ooh.
Yeah, that was good.
Um,
yeah.
But that character, I feel like the fact that she had worked her whole life to get this coin to get her
Yep.
off the planet, and then she just gives it to this guy, and us the viewer, we really don't know what their backstory is. We have no idea if they hate each other, if they loved each other, if they were dating for 10 years or something. So it's just I think it was a little bit lacking the motivation why she would just
I
give it to
agree.
him in that moment. And maybe she's, I don't know, maybe she's secretly on the rebel side, and she's this is the one chance to stop the empire, but at least explain that at least a little bit. So for me, the motivation for her to give whatever the coin was called, it was a little bit lacking there, but I did really like her look, and I like the actress a lot. And the interactions between her and Oscar Isaac were good.
It was the credentials of I think in an admiral rank or a Navy
Yeah,
officer.
you can get
of
through
the First
any
Order.
blockade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no
it's something
questions
that
asked.
she had saved up money for. I agree. I like that character, but I didn't like that because I hate
Yeah.
coincidences, and that was just how else were they going to get Chewie? Maybe they'd find a way, but she just happens to have
Yeah.
this thing that'll help them. It's the same thing that I really didn't like. I liked their adventure on the sand planet, but when they found that place just going through the quicksand, again,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
that was
I didn't like
very
that at
poor
all.
writing. They were right there. All you need, just find. They literally say, "There's the ship." Make them smart and say it must be here, and they find a
Yeah.
passage. They had to do quicksand, so
I thought
agree.
she was gonna levitate them out with the Force or something.
Well, something, right? But yeah, the coin and that were the two big. I'm those were big coincidences.
Yeah.
They had no one. Disney is filled with so many people, and they had no ideas. They had no ideas how to like figure this out.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
quicksand. It's a coin. Okay.
Just like, and then tying back to Zori.
Zori
I
Bliss.
I almost said sorry.
We're getting a comic of her. You know it, right?
Oh, I want it.
I
I
want it
do.
too.
Zori Bliss, like the planet that they're on when they go and meet her is Kajimi. Is that what it's called?
Kajimi, yeah.
Kajimi. I
Kojima.
absolutely loved, like, Hideo. I absolutely loved just like the aesthetic of the planet. It
Mhm.
very much reminded me of like a Nazi Germany, like where like you have the spotlights going out, people are like raiding. It's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
it looked intense, and I really liked that planet. And there was a few other planets that there's sorry, what's the Sith one called?
Exegol.
Exegol. I love that planet. I love Kajimi. What was the other one? The sand one?
I can't remember.
I forget what it
at
was
the
called, but
beginning, yeah.
nevertheless, it just reminded me of like another Tatooine. And I feel like anytime we just see like a desert planet, I just think it's like Tatooine or Jakku. It's a little bit too like similar for me. So I don't know.
On that note, the party that they were having there that C-3PO said once every 42 years. It's a shout out to 42 years of Star Wars.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I like the little festival.
I
Yeah.
did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
C-3PO like really worked for me. Like his comedy in this
Oh,
one,
so
not gonna
good.
lie. I love it. He's just like, oh, just our luck. He's like, it is very lucky. Just I don't know. We never really like saw like so much comedy from him. I feel like throughout the other movies, like just not like definitely he has those little like one-liners that are so robotic and just like so not human, but. I feel like it was just cranked up in this one and it worked.
Oh
for me.
yeah, I liked everything they did with C-3PO. Good job. Just Baba Freak, my oldest friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think good because they didn't utilize a lot of the other like him and R2 in the other movies. So R2 is still kind of on the sidelines, but I think they knocked out of the part with C-3PO. And because lots of people have said that the beginning's just like they're chasing MacGuffins and they're just going place to place. I agree it is rushy, but I liked the like video gamey, like we're moving quick, we're on adventure. I liked all the action scenes, the speed chasers. I liked when that little girl, it's a little cheesy, but I like when she came up. You see all these kids listen to the story and like, what's your name? Like, I liked it. It gave a sense of what the world was, you know? So when I look at all those verses like Canto Bight and stuff we got, I go, this is so much better. So that's the stuff where it's not deep stuff them on this planet, but I just enjoy watching these ones more. And shout out to that ice planet that they never landed on, but just that one we saw in the trailers. And they had that like the race in there, not the race, but the chase. Really cool aesthetically. So
Agreed. I pretty much agree with all you guys said.
how'd you feel about Finn having the Force? Because I know you're a little like off on how he was
Oh, I
feeling
forgot
it,
to talk
but
about
just
that
the
too.
idea of it.
Oh yeah, I think that was kind of ridiculous that he's like, oh, he just like points exactly to this one point on this one Star Destroyer that exactly is the thing they need.
I got a feeling.
It felt very arbitrary too. It's like, oh yeah, with this particular panel we can open this and then we can turn the blaster and shoot the like command center and then we win. So that was kind of stupid, but I think what you're pitching there of like some movie in the future with Rey training him, I think that I really like that idea because even like we've seen him with the lightsaber in Force Awakens, obviously, and
holds
then
it
even
again in this one.
yeah, even in this one when they're down in that fucking sand pit, he's like carrying that as
The
well.
basilisk, basically.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's scary.
I'm not opposed to it, like other than that weird thing where he knew exactly where to go on the Star Destroyer. But
Yeah.
other than that, I think it was pretty good, and I just loved having Poe and Finn together again, right? Because that was one of those things. Obviously, JJ, a lot of this movie is like, okay, I'm going back to what I was doing in Force Awakens. I was having fun doing, and that relationship between those two is great, right? Like the chemistry between them, the back and forth, just like the buddy nature. It's so much fun. So I'm just really glad we got those two back again because I think it just shows even more that like, wow, Finn really took a backseat in Last Jedi, and obviously he was paired up with this other character that wasn't really given much reason for anyone to care about. That's like one of the only characters that like no one wants, right? Like just across the board. So it's awesome that they could team up again. And even just like kind of having the party, like, you know, they kind of had BB-8 with them. They had that other megaphone little
Dio.
yeah, Dio.
Voiced by J.J. Abrams.
Was
Oh,
that
really?
cool?
That's
I,
funny.
I like Dio. I thought Dio was kind of fun. C-3PO, I liked the comedy, as you mentioned. The thing I didn't like is that he has to take this big sacrifice and destroy his memory, but then R2 can kind of just regenerate for him. Once again, just no consequences for like
Yeah,
the
fair
character
enough.
choice there. Because they did that and for Chewie, I was just like, all right, well, I guess they're not getting rid of these characters.
They're taking the Loki route where they're killing him like 3 times. He's like, oh, he's still here. He's still
yeah, and, like,
Disney Plus.
and that one seems like even more of a cop-out because you can still have C-3PO.
It was still fun to
And like,
have him
and
there.
essentially, if we do another trilogy, or you're saying they don't do a trilogy, next time they do a movie, let's say it's like 10 years from now, like obviously he'd be great friends with them again.
Yeah,
and you can just have him back where he
exactly.
was, right? So
Yeah.
it just seems like really unnecessary. It's kind of like the Groot thing. Like, you can have Baby Groot for a movie, but the next one it's fine. He's already like teenage Groot again. He's kind of back in there with the rest of them.
No, that's
so.
a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot they gave him his memory back. It was so quick, and then when you remind me, like, right, they did do that, and they've already wiped his memory before, and he was around. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know why.
It just didn't really fit at all. But I love that Babu Freak thing
So
because
good.
at first it sounded like he was doing like a high pitched like Spanish kind of accent, and it was like just really weird and jarring to me. But I like that he was just like this mini little dude as well. So I thought that was a fun addition of a character because he's a little bit different, a little bit weird, and I mean the Kijimi in general. Like I got a lot of Lord of the Rings vibes in this movie. Whether it was Kylo as like kind of Aragorn, whether it's like the Palpatine's base is like very similar to the Mines of Moria.
100%.
Kijimi is just like when they go to like the Prancing Pony and Bree at the start of Lord of the Rings. Like it just definitely got that vibe.
It also looks similar to Helm's Deep, the way it was like blue and dark.
Yeah.
It looked like those like big walls and everything like that.
Yeah, just like the kind of brick, the kind of rock structures, which isn't really happening in Star Wars. You have a lot of just very futuristic tech.
Yeah.
So yeah, I genuinely liked that adventure that Poe and Finn had, with the exception of that like tacked on character that I didn't think was terribly necessary. But
maybe JJ's gonna remake Lord of the Rings. You know.
Yeah, maybe.
You two, Finn Force, or whatever you want to talk about with these people, these characters.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, so I really loved Finn being thrown into like the Force sensitive cesspool. I think that was awesome.
Cesspool.
Nice.
Quite the fucking
Kylo
word.
and Rey are swimming in it.
Shit.
Come on in. Which, before I forget, because I don't have it in my notes, they've established now with Yoda and Luke that they can like touch things and everything like that. There's a chance that like they could still be getting it on in the afterlife. You know that, right? With Kylo, like they introduced that Force Ghosts can do stuff now.
He meets her in the middle of the night.
Yeah. They come in. Rey, hang on a second, and then no one's in there with her. What?
It's like the scene from Scary Movie 2.
100%. Oh yeah.
Take my strong hand.
Not that one.
Not that one.
The one where she sleeps with a ghost. Yeah. Why is Kylo Ren saying "Take my strong hand"?
Speaking of that, I was at Triple O's the other night with Saris. We were getting some dinner, and they had this like Santa who's probably like 5 feet tall, and he was like sitting on their counter, but he had these little tiny hands, and I was just thinking of that scene. I couldn't get it out of my head. It was so weird. He had these tiny little hands.
That's hilarious.
So the cesspool while Kylo and Rey are getting on the afterlife.
I'm
sorry.
I'm very happy to see Finn actually have that kind of development as a Force sensitive, and I was thinking, okay, like he's gonna say like "I love you" to Rey, and
I'm
now
so happy they
Kylo
didn't do
Ren,
He was working on it.
Ben kissed Rey, they kissed each other, and I was thinking, oh, now Finn's not gonna be able to get in on that, but I thought, oh no, it's okay because it was really because he was Force sensitive and he was trying to reach out, and I like that, and I like that he didn't want to say it in front of Poe because Poe. To me, throughout this movie, he didn't understand why Rey was training and doing her things with the Force. She needed to be out there fighting.
He doesn't think it's fake, but he doesn't think it's as important as everything else.
So I like
and
that.
I like that dynamic. They bickered so much at the beginning.
Yeah.
I like that. It's something different.
I really like that. And a little side note actually before I go further on, I like how at the beginning when Poe was actually doing it was like jumping blindly through hyperspace, or I can't remember the term they called it, but
Hyperleap or something.
Yeah,
hyperspeed, something like that. I liked how it showed the hyperspace tracking.
No, that was something else.
I like how it showed the hyperspace tracking that the TIE fighters were doing in behind. I like how that was branched over again, but very, very cool scene. But with Finn, I really enjoyed his development. He really got fleshed out. I loved how we got to see more stormtroopers that went rogue, and it just his character I really just loved in this movie so much more than Last Jedi. And with Poe, I absolutely just loved his character in this movie. He was fantastic. I loved his relationship with Zori Bliss. I thought it was so cool when it was like, oh, you were running spice or whatever, and like that was just so funny. And I love how
she went toe to toe with Rey. Like Rey won, but she tried.
Oh yeah,
Rey put away her saber. She could have shot her right in the face.
She could. That was a bold play.
Oh yeah, I really really like though how we went to Kijimi and it was just a very brief. It was a sense of adventure and it was a very brief. We're here to do this thing, this event, and that's what it was. We didn't need that full like half an hour Canto Bite sequence, which I mean, this was just this short series of events on Kijimi. It felt Star Wars. It felt to the point, exactly what we needed. And shout outs to the bartender in that bar. That was
John Williams.
Yeah, John Williams there. That was super cool. But I love that whole sequence. I love Babu Frick. He was hilarious. I love when he pops up in Zori Bliss's fighter. He's like, "Hey!" Like it's just so good. You know,
fixed the droid.
it was
He's
just
yeah.
that kind of steam. Like just when you have an awesome rebellion moment and that score kicks in, and then you drop a humorous
love
moment
that,
like that,
yeah.
it just hits me so deep.
You
and
loved
just
Lando
so
showing up
good.
with the ships, didn't you?
Oh
You're
yeah, and
like,
you know
Star
that's
Wars
something.
theme.
Who better to send than the fucking smooth talking Lando Calrissian? And as soon as I heard his voice on that sand planet, I was like, oh, that's so good. He's so smooth talking. He's like, send Leia my love. You know,
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
oh,
I was like, you
Lando is
bastard,
so
you know Han's
good.
dead.
he's just so. I love Lando in this
Yeah.
movie.
I
I
he
could've
didn't
used
seem
a-
like Lando to me. I don't know.
Really?
It felt weird. Didn't work for me.
I could have
Really?
used more of him. I like the introduction. I like the
coulda
scenes
used
he
more
was
of him
in, but I
too,
wish
yeah.
he was in a few more scenes. But he is older. He walks with a cane.
I thought it
now,
was
so.
strange that he just like showed up at their resistance base because like no one told him where that is, and I assume it's hidden.
I think Leia probably told him because he was in communication with Leia.
He
right?
was, yeah.
So
So more off the screen.
and they
stuff.
offered him, you know, like come
We
out
need
to
pilots.
us, and he said no or whatever. But that changed.
I wonder what
Um,
happened to Bespin in Cloud City. You know,
Hmm?
I
We
wonder
saw
what
it.
happened to Cloud City.
We saw
We
Close
saw
Enough.
it though
when they went through it.
in the movie. They
when,
didn't.
when they were
No,
hyper.
the Star Destroyers are like falling down. We see one fall in Jakku. We see one fall
behind
like
Cloud
behind
City.
Cloud City.
Yeah.
Oh man, I missed that. I just wonder, is he still running it though and stuff?
I
feel
don't
like you
know,
passed
but yeah,
it
they
down.
they went through like all the iconic locations. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
'cause
I
you
can't
see
believe I
like
missed that.
the
Wow.
whole Cloud City.
I-
You're probably still like, oh Ray, Kylo.
It was tough for me. It was
What was
tough
that
for me.
hand
To
gesture?
it was tough for me to recover. I saw the Ewoks though, so that was
Oh,
nice.
okay.
I
The
liked
Ewoks.
that. But
Um,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'll just quickly touch upon the Finn stuff.
Finn.
I liked him being force sensitive. I kind of hope that there's more characters that are introduced that are force sensitive, but not necessarily like make the full leap into becoming a Jedi. Like they maybe just use
Broom
like their
Kid.
Broom Kid. Oh, he's gonna be the next Anakin. Come on,
No,
he's gonna kill some young.
My name is Broom Kid, and I'm a person.
But just like I don't know, like just instances of like
now this is
characters-
sweeping.
Of having like characters that are force sensitive but not necessarily make like the full leap into becoming a Jedi, where they're not
I feel like Leia's kind of like that.
like maybe they're like I don't know, gambling, and they're just like a notorious like winner, and he's just like I don't know, his trick is he's just like a little bit force sensitive. Like he's not necessarily like choking people out. He's not necessarily like force pushing or anything, but he's just like I kind of have this feeling or like this trick up my sleeve that I just always know when I'm gonna
Yeah,
win.
that could be Finn. Yeah.
that would be very cool.
And-
They've sorry. I'll
No,
save
no,
it
you
for
go.
after.
Wow.
I was just gonna
Fucking-
piggyback because you said what you said was very, very unique because like even in like some Darth Maul comics, they've got like people in like the underworld of Coruscant who were force sensitive, and they used that to like
Yeah.
get ahead, and Maul would hunt them because they were force sensitive.
Oh, okay.
So I like how you
yeah,
were pointing that out.
I first heard that I think in like one of the novels, one of the legends, and I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
Holdo's force sensitive.
But we don't ever see that like in a like full film. It's just like, oh, you're force sensitive. Well, you're gonna be the new chosen one because there's just I don't know. It's these movies are so like we just have to introduce a character and that's gonna be our Rey. That's gonna be our Anakin. That's gonna be like whoever's the I don't know the main
Protagonist.
Yeah, the protagonist. Thank you. And I don't know. I just think it'd be cool to introduce like a different side of the Force that we haven't really seen before. And I don't know. Just unique, but and I'm not necessarily saying that I want Finn to be that. I just want to see more versions of that. I could totally see Finn and Rey like the pitch
Getting
you
it
made
on.
of
no,
not getting it on.
No, she's a taken woman.
just I don't know,
She-
training and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
That'd
that
be cool.
Force ghost. She
She's
has a
been claimed.
Kylo's
I'll
hand
say.
is
you
once
think-
again just
so-
fucking
Take my straw
massive.
If she actually trains Finn, do you think he would have a purple lightsaber?
I think so. I really
better.
do.
Oh, I love it so much.
I really do.
Purple
it.
versus yellow lightsaber.
Yeah.
Hey,
Cool.
let's go. That'd be cool. Yeah. I kind of jumped in.
I don't have it in my notes, but just so I never forget.
Never forget.
I'm gonna do a hashtag Travis told you so. For 2 years ago, me and Taylor did a predictions cast right after Last Jedi. I said Rey would get a new lightsaber. It would be yellow. Fuck yeah! And I'm
That's
so happy
awesome.
they did that.
I am-
I'm
That's
mad.
so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
so
mad
hyped.
they do it at the end of the film, but still, I get the idea of Luke and Leia.
her
but-
hilt too, like it just looks so sick the way that she turned it on.
Oh,
it's like a little
yeah.
twist. Oh,
Yeah, well, I think it's
I want to see
built
more
from
of
her
that.
staff, right? People have been saying.
Yeah.
And they did.
That's what I
Apparently,
heard.
didn't see it, but they set up. Apparently, when she's looking through the books on the side, there was a kyber crystal and the hilt there. So they had set up
Oh.
that she was working on one of that. So that's why
Interesting.
I'm excited to watch this again to see that. But I think if we get another film, which I really hope we do, that's what I hope. Seeing that color is the full on. We did a lot of kind of remaking, a lot of look at the old trilogy and the new stuff. To me, that new lightsaber is at least hope, and that's where I was talking about Justice League. That the next film could be something completely new. It's not a rehash of New Hope or the prequels. It is just like it's new, it's yellow. We've never seen that in the movie. So next time you see Rey, maybe it's by Kevin Feige. It'll be a completely new story on their own with Finn. So I hope that is the hope I'm looking for.
Well, them adding. The fact alone that they threw in a yellow kyber crystal and lightsaber.
First time ever in the movies.
First time ever in the movies. And
So
that's
awesome.
just like I feel like they've taken a huge dive again into like the Old Republic, the KOTOR stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
that was Bastila right there.
that was
gonna
Bastila, 100%.
I was gonna say though, why didn't throughout all these movies she's used a staff? Why not just give her like the dual lightsaber?
I think they could save that for a reveal, but because I think
Okay.
it might be a bit more. Well, I guess it wasn't. It was still
just-
awkward for her turning it on.
I
but,
just
you know.
like I'll give you that.
It
But
was like Darth Maul.
I
Solo.
want her to see her with like the full on Bastila lightsaber because we see Dark Ray have that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's basically
Maybe you will though, right? That
Yeah.
that could be a big reveal. They say
Then I'll be
for
happy and
episode
I'll
10 or
I'll say I
whatever.
was wrong on
Yeah.
this past episode. And then since you're giving yourself a told you so, totally saw the Emperor in the first 30 minutes. Not
Oh
like an hour
yeah,
and
you
a half,
guys
like
were
you said.
totally right. Yeah.
Shouts out Taylor and I.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Fucking crawl. the dead
Crawl.
speak.
Yeah.
Dead
Oh,
speak.
I
In the
was
first paragraph.
the first, I wasn't the
dead
biggest fan of the
speak.
crawl. I don't know. I thought
I
it was a
speak
little
for the
weak.
dead.
I know that was Jigsaw. Yeah.
Shout out to Jigsaw. Great film. I
Yeah.
have another jumping off point.
Jump right off.
We could talk about that final battle a bit. What a final battle. First, obviously, we talked about the Finn kind of having, like, knowing exactly where to go. Whatever, that's fine. Did you guys not find it incredibly stupid that there was they used fucking horses to raid this Star Destroyer? Is that not the dumbest thing of all time?
No,
I don't think
think
it's the dumbest
so,
thing,
no.
but I'm not. I'm not gonna like the midichlorians exist, so that's for me the dumbest thing. But I'm not gonna say it was a great call. But I think it
We
was.
can't detect them because they have fucking horses. Okay, let's just not use our lasers for whatever reason. Like, oh man, that was so dumb.
I think it was,
That was
for
so
me. It
dumb.
was just trying to do the Ewoks thing again, showing like they can overcome them, thinking not using technology
Yeah.
and life and everything. I don't know if it's the greatest, but yeah,
I liked it, and I saw it in the trailer, so it's not like I was like, "What the fuck is this?" I was
Oh,
expecting
I
that
didn't
scene.
watch that
Okay.
trailer. so-
Yeah.
It was a big debated. People were like horses in Star Wars. So
Yeah,
you're
that
not
was-
alone.
Another one of
Dylan's
those
not
Star
alone.
Wars
I
moments.
saw it on the trailer as well. I don't know. I thought it was cool. Them like
thought it was-
scaling
yeah.
this top of a Star Destroyer going in.
Very
for it.
Yeah, maybe it's
Avatar-like.
cool, but it makes no sense whatsoever.
I don't know.
Like,
Like
what
they,
did they accomplish with those horses? They accomplished nothing. So what was the
They got
purpose
to
of
their
it?
destination.
Oh, I
That
think
was- yeah,
it
they got
gave
across.
them
I
a
don't
way
think
to
they
get
needed those
across.
fucking horses to do
It
that.
So what
let
would
them
they
get
have
to
used?
their.
Huh?
What would they have used other than the horses?
Well, maybe they
Because
could
clearly,
just-
if they used speeders, they would have just
How about they just like
deactivated them.
land closer to where they need to be?
Maybe they
But
couldn't.
sometimes you can't. It's who knows? Maybe they couldn't get as close as they needed to be because there was too many guns up ahead. I don't know the full story on that exactly, but like
You didn't get
It's
the book.
just-
The book would have told you.
maybe
Yeah, it was
I,
that
in
book.
this case, I think it's just they don't have access to a ton of like resources and ships or whatever, so they had to do with what they could, and they had access to this, and it's
Really?
the next best thing.
Because I swear I saw 1 million ships in the sky.
That was after.
Yeah, but
though, remember
that
later
was
on.
that was after they thought they
Yeah.
were going in just with what they had, and they took whatever assets that they could, and so I give them that. It's not the end of the world for me, but
That's fair. I just thought it was really stupid. And even just like, I don't know, it's pretty clear that they're just running out of ideas. Like, obviously, they did a Death Star originally. It was like, that's pretty sweet. Then they followed up with like a Star Killer, which is pretty much like the same thing, but just like bigger.
Yeah.
And then this time, JJ's sitting in the writer's room. He's like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's just do 1,000 Star Destroyers.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. And then, like, what is the solution for the good guys? Oh, let's just do 1 million ships. Like, it was just the laziest possible, like, way to frame that battle in the entire world to me. Like, it shows that they're just running out of ideas. Like, the way they have, like, as I mentioned earlier on the villains, how they just, like, do the same thing for these generals. They're all the exact same. They're just in their little control tower doing the same old thing. Like, they really need to come up with some new ideas of how to frame, like, big battles or bad guys in general to me, because
Yeah.
I'm just getting so bored of them doing the exact same thing with a slightly different paint job, and this time they just made it like absurd to the point where I thought it was comedic. When I first saw all those ships, I just like died laughing at how stupid this was. That was the best thing they could come up with.
No,
to,
yeah,
to-
I agree.
I mean, you do make some good points with that. I mean, my only counter is that they were pulling from like the Legends kind of source where they wrote out like the Sith fleets and stuff, which
Doesn't
is
make
again
it
like
good,
a
though,
diehard thing.
you know.
Yeah, it doesn't warrant how they just Shanghai it up onto the big screen the way that they did.
Yeah.
And they tried to make it work. Like, to me, it worked, but I totally understand how.
Well, you
just,
love
like,
your Star Destroyers. Though.
I do love my Star Destroyers.
Same thing as
but-
like Darth Maul's in a movie, and you're like, oh, this is a 10 out of 10 movie.
But like, I get what you mean in that sense. Like, you go to see this movie, and then all of a sudden, they just throw in 1,000 Star Destroyers that all have Death Star capabilities. And it's like, well, that is like a completely stupid.
Yeah.
let's do something new here. Like if you do something different, if you take like a more creative approach, then maybe we wouldn't be talking about how there's so many pacing issues, right? Like, why did you need that big final battle? I know you gotta like sell the movie, that's what you gotta do, but like, I don't know, just get like more creative with it. You can do so many cooler things than that. Like, you can still have that sequence with Palpatine, still have like stakes to it without having like all these ships in the sky like right there.
To be fair, yeah, I totally agree, and I would love to see something different and something newer in that sense. I would have been very open to that.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed or like angry with what they did because I it's an element that I like from like the other
Yeah.
stories that they took. But I definitely agree. I would have liked to see them kind of branch out and maybe try something different. Or again, if this was episode 8, lead it into something else and do a different kind of story.
Yeah.
There's a few things I wanted to just agree and disagree with Dylan on. That is not even necessarily disagree. It's just like, for me personally, I like
He's walking it back.
I liked seeing like
He's a coward.
the 1,000 of Star Destroyers. Just for me visually, I just thought it looked so sick, and it's so dark and like ominous. I thought that would look sick. And but like the fact that they're just trying to like one up each other, it's like, oh, how can we one up like Starkiller Base, because we made our Death Star an entire planet. Let's just make millions of ships with each one of them can destroy it. It's just like, I don't know, because
it was cringy to me.
I thought it was cringy.
It is just another Death Star. That's what it is. They destroyed another planet into this, and
they destroyed Kijimi.
Yeah, and that's what sucks. That's a fun place. We just met it, and it's
Yeah.
gone. And I think, like Dylan says, it's just incredibly lazy. That this is they don't even make a big weapon. Just make that for some reason these people are protecting Palpatine, and we need to help Rey down there. So let's like distract these people. Don't make it. There has to be. It's like when superhero movies kept doing. There's a big portal in the sky we have to close. That's what this is, and it's like now we've done it 4 times. New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens, and now this. It's just like enough. When that happened, I rolled my eyes. Like, this is the best we have.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that with the people that run, and that's why I wonder sometimes if it's just them being like, do the thing people really love.
Yeah.
You know, the big Death Star planet blow up, but there's no stakes now seeing a planet blown up anymore.
No, totally. And like, I'm not sure if that's just because it's the big screen movie, whereas like if you have a TV series, it's not so much like, oh, like at the end of the season, there's going to be 1,000 ships that can destroy 1,000 planets.
Mandalorian versus a Death
No,
Star.
exactly. It's not that, but like maybe from their camp, they're like, well, this is the big screen. People need to see big things going on, like a Death Star, like something like that. But I don't know. That was definitely cringy, like you had mentioned. And then just like how they keep like pulling back the exact same like situations, like when. Like throwing back to episode 8 when Snoke like basically has Rey. It's like, oh look, and then he opens up the screen and he's like, look at all your enemies dying to my ships or whatever, which is the exact same thing that the Emperor did to Luke in episode 6. And then he did the exact same thing in this one when he opens up the roof.
It's the same thing, just in a different coat of paint. And I have that in my cons, like quickfires. I hate when he's like, look at your new family, and they're done. It's like, no, this is the same thing. This is the same fucking movie. Like, I don't understand it. And that's why even my predictions, I predicted things that I was not agreeing with, but I'm like, they can't do this. Like, they're gonna find a way. And it was just that was cringy too, that Palpatine thing. Like, oh, look at them all. Like, no, don't look at them.
No,
like,
totally.
And it's just like, even then, like, that's what sucks. It's the same company where we talk about like these big stakes, but I always say like Civil War, my favorite movies, when it's just Cap and Iron Man going at it, that's all the stakes you need right there. That feels so much more important than them fighting a bunch of aliens. The same thing that I think Ben and Rey versus Palpatine done right could be big enough. I think it was to an extent, other than it being really similar to a past movie, but that's the personal conflict, you know? Like, make that the big thing. I know it is kind of, but it's interspliced with, we need a big space battle.
I'm not sure if it's like from their point of view, like of Disney.
Jedi are evil?
But like from their camp, maybe they're like, the Star Wars fans are expecting, like, from episode 4, from the very first Star Wars, there was something that could destroy a planet. Okay, so we kind of have to be either par or just one up it. And I feel like that's kind of like diluting the series in a way.
It is.
Just like, you're always going to be going there and be like, oh, I wonder what new Death Star it is. Instead of like, oh, it's just again, this is I didn't think it was kind of tied to the prequels, but it kind of is. But like some sort of like diplomatic event or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, just
Yeah.
something lesser
And-
scale
and
than
the thing-
1,000 planet
The
killers.
thing that takes it down a bit for me as well is, like, obviously they're like at the end of the movie they're all cheering because they're won, but like
yeah,
tons and tons of people died and they're still cheering. Like they don't frame it like there was consequences to
Yeah.
that battle either, and like we saw
Yeah.
tons of ships getting destroyed there. So
there's
I don't know. I think that's kind of. I don't like that they just kind of undermine all that as well. Like you guys shouldn't be cheering. You should be like grieving at all the
Yeah.
lives you just lost in this battle.
that's definitely a good
Because like,
good take.
well, even largely on Poe, because Poe made an awful commander decision to go into there. Like even if they had waited 20 minutes, then 1 million ships would have showed up to help them. Like obviously they couldn't have known that, but still, like Poe, it just shows that Poe is like a really awful commander, and he had like a line about that. I can't remember what the line was.
But they were under time
yeah,
a time
that's
limit, right?
yeah. They
So
did
had
do
to
the
make a
ticking.
decision.
Yeah, they did the ticking clock of they're about to attack. We got to hit them.
I don't know,
now.
but even Poe has like some line of like, "Oh, we shouldn't have done that." I don't know what the line is.
He
but
said because they start to die, and he's like, "Oh, I thought this was gonna work. I'm sorry, guys. No one's coming."
yeah,
to
but then
save
it doesn't
us."
matter at the end, and then he's just like back at home base, and he's cheering, he's hugging Finn. They're like, "Oh,
Well,
everything's
that's the
good,
same as like
guys."
Return of the Jedi. Everyone
Well,
was
it's stupid then
cheering
too.
and
I'm not
partying,
defending
right?
that. I'm just saying it's like stupid that like they're. I think it's. I've mentioned this a few times, but it's just I don't feel like there's any consequences in this movie. Like even Leia, like yes, you could maybe spindle some reasons onto her giving away her life, but really she gives away her life so that like it saves Rey. But then like in the process, like Kylo dies because of that. But then like she kind of just revives him. Maybe you guys don't think he died, but I think Rey killed him quickly. So I just don't feel like there's any consequences. Nothing bad happens to the good guys in this movie. And that's a big problem for me because then it just feels like kind of what's the point of anything at all?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the cheering just because it's one they had their lives, and I didn't mind that the Poe's little arc there because to me it was he led them in the battle because he had hope that people would show up, and he was losing it, but then they showed up, so it showed he was right to attack right now because it held them back, and then they got the people there to win. So that's how I took it for Poe, is that
Yeah.
it was his brashness and his kind of everyone was scared, but he was the one to lead them through. It's kind of to me like.
But didn't we get that in The Last Jedi?
No, he didn't. That was he was in it. That's a whole nother thing. That was, you got to make the right decisions, and you got to, I think that he got those steps, but this was him imploring it. It's the same way to me as like talking about like sequels. It's like Two Towers when.
Oh, doesn't that happen at the start of The Last Jedi where he leads that bait, like they go to attack some Star Destroyers?
Yeah,
and
but
then a
the thing
bunch
is
of people
they
die,
didn't
and
have
then they
to
get mad
take.
at him for that?
Yeah, but they didn't have to take out that ship. That was the thing. He just thought, oh, it's powerful. It's here. We could take it out now. Where Leia's like, let's regroup first. He said, no, let's do it now. Where this was, hey, have nobody. They can't regroup. To me, I took it the same way Aragorn
Yeah.
and Legolas had that fight in Two Towers of the, oh, you're going to die with them. And here, like, I'll die
I-
with every one of them. And
I
they
guess,
go.
but like what, you're going to use like 10 horses and take out these Star Destroyers?
yeah,
like
you
that
just really
wasn't
hit the
going to work.
horses. But it's,
I know maybe they didn't
You-
know what
you
they're
s-
going into. You can come up with all these reasons, but to me, it was just an awful finale.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Like, obviously, there's some other good stuff because you get, like, some Rey and whatnot happening there, but overall, I was just... I mean, at that point in the movie, I was honestly pretty checked out because I didn't feel like the movie was taking itself seriously, and
Mhm.
I felt like neither should I at that point. But, yeah, it was a very anticlimactic finale for yours truly.
yeah, fair enough.
Just when you mentioned like Poe was seeing people die, it just totally reminded me. There's totally like a Porkins like shout out. I swear to God, there was this guy, a little heavier gentleman. He was in his ship, and it's like the exact same death scene that like Porkins had in episode 4. I was laughing,
Porkins.
honestly.
He's been around since Force Awakens.
Greg
I can't remember his-
Gunberg is his real name. I
You
can't
know
remember.
exactly
He's
what I'm
friends
talking
with
about.
Oh,
J.J.
that guy?
Abrams.
Yeah, that guy was in Heroes.
Yeah.
No, it was just hilarious because I just thought it was like the exact same thing. He's like, I have a little problem here.
That was a
There's
good
just
one.
like guys behind him.
And then
But,
Wedge came back. in the
Yeah,
fight.
that's who I was
Oh,
gonna
I
ask about.
love seeing
Like,
Wedge. Oh,
that was the guy that
Wedge.
Lando was
It was
talking about.
Is that the guy that has, like, a spider on his head?
He's an older dude.
No, he was old
What do you
dude,
guys
and he
think
just
of
says,
that
"Good
fucker?
He was
flying, Lando."
operating. Yeah, he was operating
Spider
the
on his
gun
head.
on the.
Yeah, he pretty much just had like 6 legs coming out of his head. Yeah, they're like
Is he an
hair.
alien?
Yeah, he
Okay.
was for
Yeah,
sure
Wedge
an
was
alien.
on the gun on the Falcon. I was just when I saw that, like, there were rumors, and I think they nodded to it in one of the recent novels. But when
Oh
that
yeah,
popped,
he's
when
in
he,
them. Yeah.
yeah, when he
That's
popped
not a
in like
nod.
the actual like on this big screen, I was just like, oh, this is so good. I'm
Yeah.
so happy.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was right away, but a buddy of mine told me about it because he was in Luke's like.
He was part of like Red Squadron.
Red Squad. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like you kind of remind me of something. It's at like the start of the movie when Poe is driving the Millennium Falcon, and he's kind of like making some mistakes. He's hitting into stuff. It's like fine, they make it out, but I really like that Finn is back on the gun because at this point he's used it like quite a bit, and obviously he was pretty useless with it at the start of Force Awakens. But I like that we've kind of seen that progression now. Another kind of like fun callback to Force Awakens, but now he's like pretty damn good with that gun. He was taking out dudes on command pretty much. So that was pretty sweet.
Totally.
That scene where I don't even know if I should call them like rebels. Just when the galaxy came and all their ships arrived, I just when I saw all the ships, I thought how is this possible? Like they don't have like a big enough fleet. But then I thought no, this isn't that case. This is the galaxy.
They say that line in the movie too.
Yeah,
it's like, what fleet is this?
I
It's
know.
just people.
I know, and
that was Taylor. What fleet is this?
And honestly,
take my strong ship.
I really I loved it so much because it wasn't it wasn't political, it wasn't a rebellion, it wasn't factions aligning themselves with the rebellion or anything like that. It was literally all these ships from every corner of the galaxy coming to fight, and I loved it. There were Mandalorian ships in space. I saw Mandalorian gauntlet fighters from the
cool.
Clone Wars that were in there, which was sick. Obviously we got to see the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels pop back in there.
Since you're firing off all these ship facts, when all the rebels were basically yeah, we're gonna go fucking take out the Emperor, and before they left, when everyone was getting in their X-wings, Y-wings, and all these different ships, I'm Taylor's probably just just juicing in his pants right now after all all these I'm you probably know each fucking model.
I was
what
juicing
year
before
they're
Travis was. I can tell you
If we were in the
that.
same theater,
As soon as
people
I-
would be slipping on their way out.
made when they're leaving to the door.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was just so good, and I loved it too when they just popped right out of hyperspace above Exegol, and they're just getting fucking annihilated. I was
right away.
oh, this is brutal. But yeah, when that
You loved it. You loved the innocent people dying.
well, I love
You
just the
sick
It's a
I love
movie. It's
The
a
I
women
love
and
the-
children too.
I love the panic scene of them just sporadically going, and they were all in different directions. Some of them almost were colliding with each other because it was just so sporadic. And when I play my space battle Star Wars games, I love. I love creating crazy scenarios, and I love
Geek
just.
is coming out right now.
Oh, I know. I this is just such a good space battle.
Love
It's so juicy, and I just when that score kicked in and Lando just flew in, and you see all the ships. I had this big smile on my face. I was like, "Whoa, giddy up!" And I was just
Giddy up. Giddy up.
I was just this is at least 5 points on my rating right here.
Giddy up,
this
cowboy.
is so good.
At
This is
least a
everything.
5 out of 10.
Solid, yeah. No matter what, it was gonna pass.
Points on. Speaking of points on the rating, my first note is if Chewie died, I would have given this movie a 10 out of 10.
Oh
Wow. So
That's
it was
heartless.
it was a 10 out of 10 for a few minutes.
It was until Chewie lived.
Dylan's like, this is the best Star Wars movie ever.
I was actually pretty emotional when that happened because I thought he was dead. I was a little well, it kind of sucks that they just killed him off without actually seeing him like that. It kind of ruined it when I could hear Dylan and Tyler just fucking cheering to the left of me. I'm oh, I should have sat someone else.
Heartless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I ruined your experience at all. I was laughing quite a bit. in this
Yeah,
movie.
that's okay.
I don't know. What am I gonna do, right?
What are you gonna do?
What am I gonna do?
It's
Hold
your natural
It's
reaction.
my natural. I mean,
Exactly.
we were all in there
No, it
together
was-
for
it wa-
Hayden Christensen.
It was a good
so
time. Yeah, exactly.
That was probably my moment in the movie. What else made me laugh? When after they I think it's right when they kind of win that final battle and they cut to the Falcon. Billy D just does this really weird screech. He's like, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's very weird.
It's he does a Return of the Jedi.
Does
as
he?
well,
Okay,
yeah.
I don't remember
Of course
that.
he does. Yeah.
Also, I
That's
also
him.
for some reason just couldn't unsee that Luke looked exactly like the dude in this movie to me. So I just kept picturing Jeff Bridges just chilling in his robe. He's got the beard. He's got the long hair.
He had some wig action going on. Big
Oh yeah,
time.
big dude action.
Yeah.
Just flopping in the wind.
I'm looking through my notes to see what else.
How did we
Another-
feel about the? Oh,
I was just gonna quickly say at the very end, Jana, is that her name?
Jana.
She sits down and Lando asks her a very, very creepy question, a very creepy way.
no, his
And I-
response
No,
was
it was
creepy.
creepy.
It was because she says, "I don't know who I am," and he's like, "Well, let's find out."
I was so ugh.
I think I think it went wrong. I think they're trying to play off that there is a connection between them, maybe father daughter.
Well, yeah.
That's what I
but
was hoping, but
but it didn't come.
Didn't
it-
come
it
up.
was
picking
that.
her up. That was his pickup line.
Next movie, we pick.
Why
seen
does everyone
Cloud
have to be a
City?
fucking son or daughter or
I agree.
relative of everyone in
I
this
agree.
That's
goddamn
fair.
universe?
Yeah, I
It's an infinitive, endless, massive universe where people travel and all these aliens and shit, and then this always happens. How does it always happen?
Before, because we
Force.
were
So
talking
dumb.
about
So dumb.
what did we feel about Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost? Because that's obviously a big controversial thing. He catches a lightsaber, says you never throw disrespected Jedi's weapon, and then he talks about how wrong he was in the Last Jedi. I honestly take it as 50% that scene does feel like a little bit of a fuck you, this is how I think Luke Skywalker is, but I think JJ worked enough to make it work that in Last Jedi, Luke even says he was wrong to do this, so it's him just redoing that. I think it's done very heavy-handedly, and I was surprised. I thought Mark Hamill was going to be in this a lot more, to be honest. I had said that, and so I was a little disappointed. I liked the scene with Rey, but it wasn't... it didn't stick with me how I thought it was going to be for this last time seeing Luke Skywalker. So I liked it, but I think it could have been done better. I don't know what I would have changed, just some bit more substance. I also think they missed a huge opportunity. We didn't get that Luke and Kylo scene. I think, again, why couldn't you have done Kylo sees Chewie and then Luke also Force goes to him? You could have multiple things of just people laying it on thick. Like he sees Chewie, he sees his dad, he sees Luke, he hears his mom, he sees Rey. It's just like he'd be like, I can't fight this anymore. So I think they missed a big shot with the see around kid. They didn't follow up with it. So I liked it, but missed opportunity.
I definitely expected it. I definitely expected a lot more of them, like you said, especially too after just watching the original trilogy. I haven't watched them probably since we did our
commentary tracks.
Our commentary tracks, which was 3 or 4 years ago at this point. So I kind of forgot how much Force Obi-Wan is in those movies, but he's in it a fuck ton. He
appears a few times in movies, and he's talking all the time.
He's got a ton of screen time. Yep. So yeah, I was definitely surprised that Luke wasn't in it more. The other thing, I thought it was fine. I didn't really like the ending of Luke in Last Jedi, so I kind of felt neutral on him here. But the one thing that kind of made me curious is she was about to throw the lightsaber into that burning ship. I feel like a lightsaber could withstand fire. Yeah. Burning.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's just a random logistical question. It's not a plot hole.
It was just for him to catch.
I'm just kind of curious.
She could have threw it off the cliff.
I know it's more of a symbolic thing, but I still feel like, all right, well, I don't know if that would have destroyed the lightsaber.
The FU I feel Last Jedi was him lifting up the X-Wing, because Rian Johnson and me put the X-Wing in there and be like, oh, you bet he's going to do it, but he won't do it in my movie. And then JJ was like,
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna make him fucking do it. So that was one where I felt like a slap in the face to be like, oh look,
I didn't really take it as that.
I didn't take it as that either.
And I thought that fan service was a little too much. They're playing Yoda's theme. He's doing the same thing as Yoda.
Oh god,
I do like it because it's he couldn't do.
Taylor's about to vomit.
I do. It's fun because he couldn't do that in Empire, but I just thought it was okay, I get it. And I felt like the direction for Mark Hamill in that scene was JJ was smile a lot, you're really happy, Luke Skywalker. You're not you love being dead. So I think it was just there's just some stuff being off, but yeah.
For me, that scene I love Yoda's theme. It's one of my top favorite scores of all time, and. In Last Jedi, that whole Yoda moment.
Top 5.
But that's where we got it. We got the Yoda. Good. We got the Yoda score already. They didn't need to fan service it again.
I know they didn't, but they didn't. I think this was just an awesome thing for me, the fan service worked. I loved how it showed, Luke was the one lifting the X-Wing out. I think that just comes full circle with how,
it is.
Yoda did it obviously in Empire, and now he's I don't believe it. But now you see here Luke is lifting it up himself, and just the expression on Rey's face is I don't believe it. And I loved how that kind of just was reminiscent to that. And for me, it wasn't one of those things where it was just, the same table painted a different color. I felt like it was... It felt like it was very cohesive with the story, and maybe the smiling was a little too much. I'm fucking ecstatic
really
right now.
He was so happy. His sister just died, and he's very happy.
Yeah.
Well, she's with him now.
She's with him now.
They gotta hang out.
They get to kiss again.
Yeah. But that scene was just amazing, and I just could feel the tears riling up again, and it was just. It's so good. I've listened to that. The track is called "Destiny of the Jedi" on the soundtrack.
I definitely did not notice the Yoda theme, but I'm pretty bad with scores in movies.
So good.
My favorite is the farewell. That's the when they kiss, and the one before it, something like the Power of the Jedi or something like that. Those two tracks are killer.
Jedi.
There's
Approaching the Throne is good too.
I can't remember what it's called. It's the Sith anthem or Dark anthem or whatever. That is fucking eerie. It's
I think
so
you started
good.
sounding like a Sith when you.
The dark amp.
Just Force lightning, Kirklin Patzer.
Unlimited podcasting.
No.
So one thing I want to talk about, because we talked about Finn and the whole final battle.
We sure did.
Here's another big FU. Man, JJ for sure was a lot like the rest of us that did not care about Rose, because Rose has a total of maybe 5 minutes.
I laughed out loud, especially like their explanation. It's like, oh, where's Rose? Oh, she had to stay back.
Have to stay back and study the specs on old Star Destroyers.
Even Finn, yeah.
I had to organize the ancient texts.
Yeah, he's like, you want to come with us? No, I can't. Like, I'm so busy. And then at the end,
I thought they gave her a couple fine scenes.
I guess, but even to me, the ending was an FU of like, Finn is in danger and she's gonna go save him again, and Finn's just like, no, Rose, and it was just like,
Force pushes
to
her.
me, it was that thing. Well,
off the Star Destroyer.
What happened to Rose? I don't know. She tripped and she lost her. But
sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I just felt that it was exactly like Jar Jar in the prequels, where Jar Jar was in law in the first one, and the second one he's just a chancellor in 2 scenes. Again, I feel bad for the actress because she got a lot of backlash that she didn't deserve. I think the writing that character was poor. But for me, as someone that really disliked that character, I was happy she was not there. But it's not a personal thing against her. If you do that, you're just a complete prick. It's character actor.
Yeah, because it gives a little bit of life back to the home base as well. Because I thought she was well used in this movie.
With Mary, yeah.
I was kind of
what a waste. He was an exposition machine.
I know. I was hoping for more from my boy. You know.
Oh, the Sith. They've done Sith cloning. That must be how Emperor Palpatine's back. And then he walks off the screen, and you're like, wow,
like, who the fuck was that guy?
Yeah. Never explained, and just like that was good. He's in a Star Wars movie. Cool.
The Rose thing. Definitely feel bad for the actress. Kind of sucks what happened to her, but I thought they used her in like a healthy amount. But again, I just thought it was hilarious when they like explained of like, oh, where's Rose? It's just like, oh no, she can't come for whatever reason. It's like, okay,
she's busy that day.
And then like when she's like, I'll come help you. He's like, no, it's like he'd rather like basically like jump off.
He's got his side chick.
Yeah.
And they
no.
And they just straight up just ignore them kissing or anything like that at the end of Last Jedi. Just not talked about, not even acknowledged. So, yeah.
Take that, Ryan Johnson.
One thing I want to shout out. It's not in my main notes. I just remembered it though. But
it's in your secondary notes.
This is my
primary
notes.
The first notes didn't
remember notes. So I absolutely loved at the beginning when Kylo Ren is walking. He approaches like Palpatine, and just full shout outs to Revenge of the Sith when it's like, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. I was like, oh,
they gave
baby.
such fan service. He said they even paused on the unnatural, and he said, "Do it" in the movie. I was like, man, they really laid it on thick in this.
So I can't wait for the new memes, the new gifs.
There will be a lot.
This is like there's a lot of like prequel level memes in this movie.
This is close to prequel territory at times. If it wasn't
dangerously close.
Yeah,
danger close.
The only note that I have left that was kind of a con that maybe they'll pick it up in the next movie with Finn actually talking to Rey, but this came back. I didn't bring out when we were talking about Rey and Kylo and how the others wouldn't know. I would have loved if she would have confided in Finn about Kylo, and especially I would have liked to see his reaction to be, he's this bad guy, but clearly he cares for Rey. So I think Poe would be someone that like, you can't, like, that guy's a bad guy, but I think Finn would be like, talk to me, and that would have been a good moment of, I would, in the scene I imagine in the future, or what I want in this is he talks to her about the Force powers he's having, and she talks to him about that she's feeling very uneasy about what the situation, or even after the battle, like what went down with Kylo. I hope that's in the future, because like I said, I'll be very disappointed if no one ever finds out about Kylo and it was just like a weekend away, and I was like,
I would really like that. It would have been like, honestly, if they added like an extra 10 minutes to the movie, I would have been totally okay if that was like a scene that they added,
good character moment, because they both, like, especially it ties back to Force Awakens again when they had that fight with them and everything like that, and it would just be and we've all had that conversation too of people, like, someone's dating a bad person or something you don't agree with, and you're trying to like, well, yeah, but you know, there's other fish in the sea. And I do get that, because some people, that's been a big contention of Rey kissing him, he is a bad guy. For me and Taylor were talking about this, I think that just depends on your life. This is a strange thing to say. I've never killed anybody or been in the Kylo situations, but I've been in the situation a few times in my life where there's somebody I should not be with, but all the logic tells you no, but something's telling you yes. And that's where people are. I hate it just being like, oh my God, they killed Rey, she's not a strong woman anymore. That's what I liked, because she
has anyone said that?
A lot of people have a problem with have you seen a lot of people having a problem with the kiss of like,
I saw someone on Twitter was like, they were talking about this in relation to the other ones in the trilogy, and they're like, well, Force Awakens is objectively good, and Last Jedi is objectively bad. And I was like, oh God, I just want to
guys objectively idiotic.
Turn off Twitter.
That I can agree with.
There's been a lot of pushback because he's a murderer and he's a terrorist, which are all true facts, but that to me is just shows that like not everyone's perfect, and she fell for this guy that clearly would not have been right for her. But that's why I like that. I was telling Taylor, how many people in the world are in abusive relationships, toxic relationships, you know? And that's
he followed her to Agonazorg, whatever that planet's called.
And that's the thing where it showed like, this guy would would have been a terrible match for her, but for some reason they loved each other, and I can relate to that big time. So I think that's just a life thing, but I want to mention that before the review is over because it's just like that's what I like. They humanized her a bit. She's not just the perfect. No, you will not touch me. It's like she has flaws. Like
It's not the Jedi way.
yeah. They didn't care about those. She saw that page in the books and she was like, shh, and she like threw it away.
Oops.
Yeah, they can't touch. Yeah.
What would Padme do if she was in your position?
Show us the
Kylo, you're
Padme.
breaking my heart.
Just again, I didn't really have notes, but just like one thing I didn't want to forget is I liked how Chewie finally got his medal because I didn't know about it at the time, but like someone told me that like it's kind of like a throwback to like the original movie when Han and Luke got their medals, but Chewie didn't. So I don't know. When they explained it to me, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then it's not necessarily like he had his like farewell to Leia, but it was just like I don't know, something for him. So I liked it.
Something for him to do.
I liked it. I think it was a little heavy-handed because everyone's always talked about like, oh, he never got a medal. So I thought it was like a little bit much, but it's a keepsake to remember Han and Leia.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's
That's the
like
way
a
I took it.
participation prize.
Yeah, I
pretty
can
much.
make it work.
But like it's something to remember them by, right?
yeah.
So Knights of Ren.
Oh, I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just been a super disappointment. The whole trilogy, their
Yep.
comic book fucking sucks right now too. Taylor's a fan of it. The fact
We
that
haven't
they,
even read
the
it yet.
fact
We
that
just
I
think it
haven't, but
sucks.
the fact that Ren means lightsaber, so Kylo's
think
name is
that's-
Kylo Lightsaber.
Yeah, but hear
that's
me
some
out, hear me out.
bullshit.
No,
I don't want to hear
no.
you out. It's terrible.
No,
It's
no,
terrible.
no, no,
You
no,
can
no,
say
no,
you
no,
can
no,
say
no,
I'm gonna
no,
shoot you in the
no,
knee.
no, 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 no.
You can say I'm gonna shoot you in the dick, but hear me out. No, it's just a no. I don't like it. No matter what you pause it for.
I'm
it's
not-
that-
no
I'm
from
not
me,
trying
dog.
to
We're doing that
convert you.
We're doing
I'm
that
not trying to
podcast
convert
next
you.
week. We're doing that podcast
We are.
next week.
I'm
But
not going to convert you.
The
though.
Knights of Ren before you continued, the Knights of Ren were just cannon fodder, cool guards. Very disappointing, and that's just kind of a black mark on the series. Nothing big, but another thing that lots of potential there, but they threw to the side. So
For me now, Knights of Ren. Yeah, Ren is just another word of what they call lightsaber, and they worship that. It's a title. It's not
it's
literally
so
their
cheesy.
name.
Like we
It's
live
not
by this,
like-
we eat the fear, and it's like this comic book sucks. And the way they write
Comic book
Kylo Ren in it sucks big time too.
I haven't read the comic book all the way through, so I can't actually say.
Oh.
Travis
I'm not
hasn't
a
read all the
fan.
way
The
through
comic
either.
book
I've
junkie over here.
Yeah. I'm getting.
You haven't even read it all either.
But I read
Oh,
the
you
read the
haven't
same
read it
amount
either?
that I
read the
have.
panel.
Kirklin read it.
I've
You
read-
guys didn't even read it.
I read the panel. Oh,
Ask
I
me about
forgot
it.
you. I forgot you were off planet. Like the people writing this dialogue is awful, and that's not how Kylo Ren would have acted after Luke Skywalker.
That being
Who
said, you know they're them giving themselves a title. You know, the Knights of Ren. I just think that's awesome for them to worship. You know, a weapon that is, you know, it's a very powerful weapon. Is something that has a lot of meaning in the universe, and I think that's cool that they have a cult almost
not in this movie.
that
though.
worships, you know, a lightsaber. Worships, you know, that's, you know, what does
We
Obi-Wan
as
say?
a society worship lightsabers.
Yeah, we do.
that's
What
true.
what does Obi-Wan
We
say?
live in
This
a-
weapon is your life. You know, it makes sense to have a group of individuals
Democracy.
that worship something like
Yeah.
that, I would say. So
Don't make me
I
kill
really
you.
enjoy that, and I like, you know, because it's the equivalent to, you know, a Knight of Ren. It's just a title, just like how Sith is. You know, like Anakin's real name isn't Darth Vader.
I know, but that's just a
So-
nice title. I didn't need to know like Darth is the slang for their toothbrush. You know, like that's just I don't like it. It's lame.
I don't really care.
That's
to
the
be
problem
honest.
with canon.
I thought it was pretty funny when like Kylo comes in. I think it was when he had like the head and then like the Knights of Ren behind him, and then was it just like a stormtrooper? He's like, "Those are Knights of Ren." Oh my god! It's like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like viewers, those are the Knights of Ren. You
Yeah.
forgot about
I know
since
they had to
episode
tell
7.
you, hey, with
Yeah.
some cheesy exposition.
Yeah.
Like the way I see it is this, right? I went on a little rant earlier about how I thought the villains were so weak in this movie. I forgot about the Knights of Ren. That's how non-existent they are in this movie. Very disappointing. Because they were so cool in concept.
They were they're very cool in concept. I definitely thought that they lacked it like in this movie, but I did like how Kylo Ren kind of like fought them at the end. That was
He
pretty
fucked
cool.
them up.
He
Yeah,
definitely fucked them up.
But it would have had so much more weight.
It
if
would've
they
had a lot more weight.
backstory,
Yeah.
But,
But then
Nope.
like maybe they would have been fleshed out in an episode 8 that we didn't
Yep.
even they literally didn't even talk about them in episode 8.
No.
Yeah,
They
he was
just said they were
busy.
off.
He was busy fucking going to Ponto Bite or whatever. it is.
Cleaning pipes.
Yeah,
Cleaning
cleaning pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I wish that there was more, you know, storyline on them. They didn't even mention a word. It would be like, okay, the main heroes are doing something, and then all of a sudden the Knights of Ren are walking around a corner.
There's always shot of them on the
And-
cliff, or they're just walking around.
They're
and
a
Yeah.
clan of mutes.
And
They look
At
each
least
other.
give them. They should have gave them like the Kylo fight scene was cool, but maybe one more fight scene as well with Rey or something. But no, they just did a lot of walking.
yeah,
and
I feel like
they were Phasma.
these characters
Yeah.
are
They're worse than Phasma. I would say.
Phasma came back.
That's tough for me to say. I guess because I like.
Phasma had like at least an inch of story.
She did. I guess the only reason I like Knights Run better is just because I got the cool fight scene at the end with him and Kylo, where Phasma got taken out like a bitch each time.
I feel like anyone could have been there.
100%.
I mean, you could say
You're not wrong.
Phasmanius. But
I just feel like the
Tasmanian
Knights of
devil.
Ren had a lot of potential, and it was
Sure did.
unfortunately
Yep,
wasted.
absolutely.
'Cause,
once
like,
upon a time,
there was
4 years ago.
there's a interesting story, as to where they came from. Why did
No, it's not.
That's
Palpatine
not
bring
true.
them out?
Yeah,
like,
there's not an interesting story. They didn't introduce it, and the story is not that interesting.
well, it's not interesting because they didn't introduce us to it. They didn't cover it on any
yeah.
basis.
Then it's not
so that's
interesting yet. You're saying
Well,
it's an interesting story.
no. It could have been an interesting story, but
Yeah.
We won't ever know because
Could've
they're
been.
Plus,
not going to
baby.
revisit it.
Yeah, true.
And
Disney Plus show.
to me, I just think again that is a missed opportunity because I want to know more about them. I think there's potential there with where they came from. Why did Palpatine want to have them out there as like a contingency plan? Where did they come from? What was their origin? I think that just have this band of I don't even know if they're dark side worshippers
Suicide
or
Squad.
just Suicide
Yeah,
Squad.
just
Sure, whatever they
assassins, just
are.
a Death Squad. Just
Yeah,
like
I
they're-
think
yeah.
I think that's just very cool, like the concept of it, and I think that was something that should have been explored more. And again, it just goes hand in hand with how they should have just done another movie after this. So
Yeah, I wonder. What do you guys like? Quick theories, because this could be an hour-long conversation. Quick theories. What do you think JJ originally wanted to do with them? Like, do you think maybe because he probably always planned for this to happen to Kylo, right?
I think so, because Adam Driver says on Force Awakens, JJ went to him and said, "This is what I envisioned for your character," and he had that from day one. So I knew that quote was like, "Oh, he's turned good." I think, I don't know, because JJ didn't really.
Or
do
were they supposed to be just kind of like the Black Order in like Infinity War, where
Yeah.
they're like slightly cooler than like a stormtrooper, a
That-
little bit more unique?
That's what I was gonna say, because we saw what JJ did with Captain Phasma in Force Awakens. So like, I love JJ, but he did nothing with her. So I think they would have been more screen time. But I don't even know if we would have got this like they were Luke's former students or this that. But
Yeah.
maybe if you have more time. But that's the only thing. I think they would have gotten a bit more into why are they like a culty thing. But clearly there was no time there. So that's my theory. But your
Yeah.
Black Order call's good.
It's too bad, really, because you do have like your head honcho bad guys, like your Kylos, your Snokes, your Palpatines, and then you have like your lower tier of like your just kind of generic Empire homies, loyalists, and then I feel like there is room in that like secondary tier where it's like these people aren't going to be taking over the galaxy, but
Yeah.
they can still like have a cool story. But I don't know where they fit in, right?
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, maybe there's enough time in one movie or in one trilogy to flesh these characters out too, where it'd be
Yeah.
satisfactory.
I definitely feel like
I think
it-
one line of dialogue would help.
I feel like
but-
it's definitely just some wasted potential in there because like their name is awesome.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they're just kind of like a death squad,
You got it.
Suicide Squad type characters in there, but like we don't hear them speak
Yeah.
once. We
I
really
guess
have
this
no
way you
idea
don't
where they
have to
came
you don't
from.
have to cast them. They can be extras.
Oh yeah, they're
so.
just stunt guys in suits and cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig is
Cheap.
one of them.
cheap stunt
Yeah.
guys.
Matt Smith too. Yeah.
Just buying stunt guys and
Who was Matt Smith anyway?
Both.
Either he was probably a stormtrooper cameo or he wasn't in it. So
Okay.
thank goodness. So or those rumors were just completely.
he was just
wrong.
in there to throw Travis Snell.
Oh, I was worried for the whole year. Even
He's
though
one
I
of the
didn't
Sith
love
acolytes.
Palpatine,
He's
I
like,
would
"Yeah."
have hated it even more. So, what else notes you got there, Taylor? Because you have a phone out.
You got a phone out.
I do.
Because
his
I'm at
third-
a note.
his
So whenever
third
you
notes.
guys are ready to.
yeah, we've hit all mine. My last one was Knights of Ren, so we covered it.
I have a big shout out for Admiral Akbar's son in this movie.
Yeah.
After Akbar, I think
I-
that was
After
awesome.
Akbar?
I was-
After.
I literally
After?
just kept thinking, I'm
After.
like, didn't that guy die like last
What is
episode?
Admiral Akbar's name? Because his name's not Admiral.
Gil, I think it's Gil
His
Akbar.
name's Admiral.
His name's Gil.
He was
Gil,
born to
I
be an
think it
admiral.
is, yeah.
I
Would
didn't-
you
I
like to be a
didn't-
Well, for
promoted?
certain
No.
alien races, that could be a regular name.
I didn't catch his son in there, so that's a good call. I have to check it. I just,
He's
I
like,
didn't know it was his son. I just saw it was another fish person. But
I thought it was too.
there's
yeah.
another
Whoa,
not a
whoa.
retcon.
An
but like,
Aquaman,
oh, they
come on.
died.
Well, I
His
saw.
son-
I
Grouping them
noticed
together.
the name in the credits because like he was the only Mon Calamarian that was really that you could see, and then in the
Calamarians.
credits where it
I
was like
actually
after
called Calamarian.
Mon Calamarians.
Calamari.
That's hilarious.
But like when it showed like his name in the credits, it's like okay, I really like that. I like how they brought in his son, and I felt like it did really good justice for Admiral Akbar's character after he got shafted.
Just makes me think about those things having to get it on. That's quite the image.
Yeah, they probably got various devices to use.
Lots of holes.
Lots of
All
holes.
devices.
What else? Kirkland, you have any
Shouts
more
to
notes?
movie of the week, Force
Okay.
Awakens.
Yeah. That started all really.
Other than that, I think
I
yeah.
have one
I
last
got
question when you're done before we give our overall.
You were gonna say the names of all the Jedis who.
I was. I'm just going through all my other notes before I hit that. I think I pretty much talked about everything.
about in the
Almost at the
archives?
3-hour marks.
Yeah.
Hell
So
yeah.
Long in the movie.
the Jedi voices that helped right. You guys ready for
Yes, there we go. Let's go.
Heltera?
this?
Don't pump this
Did
up
you say-
too much. They know the important
so
ones. They're not
fucking
going to
hyped.
know
Did you say
fucking little
Heltera?
guy.
Did you say Heltera?
Helped Ray.
Oh, I thought you said Heltera. It's like a
Heltera.
planet name. I was like, I thought we
And
were.
I'm gonna pump this up, pumping up for the fans
Okay,
too.
fair enough.
I wanna hear it
It's
all.
pretty
Pump
exciting.
the
I want to hear it all.
So we got Anakin Skywalker, voiced by Hayden Christensen.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard that.
Obviously Mace Windu, Samuel Jackson,
Obviously.
Obi-Wan Kenobi with Ewan
He was
and
the
Alec
first. He
Guinness.
was the first one, right?
He was, because
Yeah.
he said these are your final steps.
Yeah.
Wait, and Alex?
And Alec Guinness as well.
Like
They
two
had
separate lines?
they had some of his voiceover in there. I'm not
Isn't
sure
that
at
not
what
weird
point.
to have two separate Obi-Wans from different ages speaking?
If you
to
layer
her?
They,
them.
Yeah,
they
but
could
it's
have meshed it
fans.
together a little bit
Yeah.
into one voice, saying this.
I think that's what they did. They did in Force Awakens. It was a combo of Ewan's and Alec's voice. So
Yeah.
I think just
Huh.
give him some shout out,
Yeah.
even though he hated Star Wars.
Yes, we got Frank Oz with Yoda, Liam
Yep.
Neeson's Qui-Gon,
Yep.
Liam
Freddie
Neeson.
Freddie
hell yeah.
Prinze Jr. who played Kanan Jarrus, who's a Jedi in Star Wars Rebels, and then Ashley
was really
Eckstein
fast.
from the Clone Wars, who voiced Ahsoka Tano. Then we have
Oh.
These ones were some
Jennifer
deep
Hale,
holes.
who voices this Jedi from the Clone Wars, who voiced Ayla Sakura,
Oh,
or the Blue
shit.
Twi'lek.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, yeah,
like
from
it, like
in the prequels?
She's in the prequels to
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith. She got gunned back on that fancy,
I
colorful
remember
planet.
that's a
Oh,
classic
yeah.
scene.
She's sick. She had two like different
She
colored
had the
lightsabers.
two. Yeah, you can play
Until
as
she
her
got
in the
shot
original
down.
Battlefront.
Yeah.
And then we had Olivia
Prequel.
Dabo who voices this Jedi in the Clone Wars, who played Luminara Unduli.
Ooh.
So
like
she
that
was the
name.
green skin with like the
Luminara
black
Unduli.
kind of like headpiece. She was in Attack of the Clones. She had a green lightsaber. She has like a green face with
okay.
kind of like some small little
Yeah,
facial
yeah,
decals.
Yeah.
Facial decals.
And then we have Angelique Perrin from the Clone Wars, who voices Adi Gallia, which is another Jedi Master from. She was in on the Jedi Council in the Phantom Menace, and
God.
I think we saw her again in the Clone Wars. I can't remember exactly, in Attack of the Clones. Sorry, but she is in the Clone Wars as well, obviously. So
What about
Damn.
Kiadi Mundi?
Plo
no,
Koon?
that
Plo
was
Koon?
the
No
thing.
Plo Koon,
Me and
no
Travis
Kit
were talking
Fisto.
about that. Like, out of all the Jedi, they didn't go with Kiadi, Kit Fisto, or Plo Koon. Kit Fisto survived, longer than the other two guys against Palpatine.
Don't
You
even
think
bring
they
that
would have
up.
thrown
Kiadi
him
Mundi
in
should
there.
have been in there. Like,
Kiadi
come on.
Mundi should have.
Yeah, that guy's like
What about
the egghead? Yeah.
you hear all the voices? You hear what about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Yeah. That would have been the best.
I
They
failed
100%
this
should have done
movie.
it.
He like asks a question to the rest of the.
Do we know
Wait
what
a minute.
happened to the Wookiees? He still doesn't know.
Did you pick up on all those, or is this a Google assisted?
I
list?
picked up on. I got the Ahsoka. I got. I didn't get the Ayla Sakura, the Luminar, or the
Yeah.
Adi Gallia ones. Those ones I
Those
wasn't
are more
expecting.
obscure.
But
yeah.
those ones I saw all of them in the credits when I first
Right.
when I heard Ahsoka and when I saw her in the credits, like, okay, that's super cool. And then I saw all the other names. I was like, holy shit! I pointed at the screen
So are those all like the same voice actresses that played those characters in the animated show?
in the animated show. Yes,
Cool. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
No Ezra.
no Ezra, which makes me wonder maybe he's still alive. Which he would be
I hope
probably
not.
Luke's age, I would think, around this point in
Yeah,
time.
I hope he's not alive.
So it'll be
Wow.
interesting
Or aren't
to
they
see.
all aren't all of the Jedi dead except for Rey? Like,
Well, we don't know what happened with.
isn't that kind of the point of the Last Jedi?
well-
Is that she's the last Jedi?
Yeah, there's this character Ezra who was training to be a Jedi, and basically all we know is that he is missing. We don't know in
Yeah.
what point or where exactly, but he's with Thrawn and he's missing somewhere, and
Just some
he's
canon
unable to come
malarkey,
back.
mumbo jumbo.
Except that we know that Ahsoka went off to go find him, and then
she's
we
dead.
don't know how she dies either. So
Yeah.
it'll be
She
interesting
probably
to
got
see.
gunned down like that other one. I can't remember the name of.
But I that just blew my mind when they were dropping all those voices in there, and all the Jedi just kind of reaching out and connecting
The
with
Force is all
Rey,
around
and
you, Rey.
Qui-Gon too, especially when he was just popping in there.
I was surprised
know,
because he's had a little
That
controversy
was
last year, so I
so
was surprised.
Shmi
good.
should
I
have
think
popped in.
there
for
is a
the
good
line.
chance that he does pop in again for the Obi-Wan series. If he popped in for this, I think there's a chance.
They fucking drop that. This is pod racing line. Just Anakin,
And now-
young
now
Annie
this
drops
is
it.
a pod
this is
racing.
and she's. But yeah, I think there's chance him, and then I think there's chance Hayden's gonna appear in that Obi-Wan series as well. So I think those two are in play.
Let's go.
Hey, in what sense? Sorry, like as Darth Vader?
I think he could play Darth Vader. I think there could be some Force visions, like weird stuff. Him
yeah,
playing
yeah.
him.
When's
so.
that supposed to like take place? roughly?
It's
The Dark
in
Ages.
between. Yeah, it is the Dark
Okay,
Age.
the
It's
Dark
in
Ages.
between
3 and 4.
Disney
yeah.
loves
Give me
the
some more
Dark
Hayden
Ages.
Christensen without Vader, pre-Vader.
Well,
please.
I do hope now that this trilogy's over, we can get more shows like The Mandalorian that is in the time of the old trilogy and the sequel trilogy. Like when we talk, even like I know you didn't love it, but even stuff like Azor Bliss, like characters we've been introduced to, like sprinkle them in, whether they're prequels. Stuff like
flesh
that.
them out.
I really hope that does happen down the line. So.
That's some pretty awesome fan service though, that they snuck all those and like the original voices in. That's cool.
Very, very cool. One other thing that I
Don't
found.
Trust this guy's smile whatsoever.
I know. This just had me super like goosebumps. And I know, Travis, you're gonna be like, "Oh, it's not in the movies, not canon." But I just
that is a perfect Travis.
Spot on.
Exactly what I sound like.
I was wagging his head around. Yeah.
Thanks, Taylor. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
Snakes?
Getting
I don't know no
elevator.
snakes.
Show us the Home Alone movie. The
Mo with
Life.
the
Greatest
Gibby
movie
leg.
Life.
Cliff.
So this is obviously from the visual
alive.
dictionary. I'm always all about my
From the
visual
dictionary?
dictionaries. The visual
The
dictionary.
okay.
So it's kind of like these novels are basically they're made literally based on each movie that comes out, and they focus on literally all the weapons and the pieces from the movie. So like
That's cool.
the Sith Wayfinder, basically it would have like images of that. It would show like the specs on it and like more in-depth explanations about the actual pieces and how its origin is and all that kind of stuff. Just fun little things. And I like reading it because I like reading about like the weapons and like the specs on like ships and all that
Canon.
stuff. But like
we love canon.
yeah, canon stuff, and it's just a fun read just to see that expansion. But with the Sith stormtroopers, basically they
what a
detailed the
waste.
name that Palpatine had of the different legions. And again, I know it's on the movies, and take this with a grain of salt, however you want. But I just think it's cool how in the book that Palpatine labeled it as like he had a 3rd division, a 5th, 17th, 26th, 39th, and 44th, and one of them was called the Revan Legion, like the Tenebris Legion, and Tenebris was the Sith name for Plagueis' master. And then you had the Adendu Legion, the Tanis, the Phobos
That's a
Legion,
throwback
the
right there.
Desolus Legion, and these are all like
Ancient
main
Sith,
Sith
yeah.
lords. I
That's
just thought it
sick.
was a very cool
That's
thing.
fucking hype.
I'm not saying to the diehard fans like, "Oh, Revan confirmed." It's nothing like that. It's just a fun thing that I think, who knows, maybe it's something that Disney is looking towards that era, because I feel like them embracing the yellow lightsaber. I feel like them having like a nod to that Crusader lightsaber and Luke's hut kind of thing. I feel like it's something that is on their minds, and I hope that down the road we get to go into that era and explore
Fuck yeah,
the Old
dude.
Republic. I think
Let's
that's
go.
just
Let's go to Sith
awesome.
era. When
Yeah.
Sith were just fucking taking everyone out.
yeah.
I don't want no
Names.
rule 2. I want like 50 Sith.
I want it all. Yeah, just
I want it all.
I was telling Travis that
Fuck
for
that song, dude. Just,
I was telling Travis for this movie, like, I just wanted JJ just to like splooge the fan service all
he
over
did
it.
that. He splooged.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah,
did. And like,
splurted and
if
splooged.
What's for
Disney
better
wants
or worse?
if Disney wants to keep my money, which they probably will, like just throw
They can
Throw-
do no evil. You'll be
Yeah.
buying all this shit, all the
Throw-
CDs, all
throw,
those T-shirts.
oh, I will be. Throw me an Old Republic trilogy with like 10,000 Sith, 10,000 Jedi.
10,000.
And-
I think it's more likely we're gonna get that as a Disney Plus show now. I don't think it's
Plus
gonna be
show.
a movie. Yeah,
I
but who
wouldn't
knows
be
what Feige's
opposed to
cooking
that.
up?
Yeah, I don't know what Feige's cooking
Feige's
up.
been known to cook things
Maybe
up.
Feige's a huge Old Republic
Oh
fan.
man, I just picture him
Mhm.
like a lab somewhere, just like crafting
His
this
petri
perfect
dishes.
Star
He's
Wars
watching
movie.
He's got
this
the
and he's like,
Snokes
"What
in
is
the
this?"
background.
He's
movie?
making his next puppet who's going to control the MCU.
Yeah.
his Snoke.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys have any more points?
Without points. Only edges.
I just all I can say is like I've seen it the first time to review it. I'm gonna see it a second time to catch on everything that I missed, and a third time to enjoy it. That's my.
You did enjoy it the first
It takes
time,
you
Well,
two
the
full
the-
watches to enjoy it.
Well, no, the first time
It's
I
all
watched
business first,
completely just to pick up as much as I can, absorb it, and know what I need to see for review. The second time
Right.
is to basically look for everything that I know I missed, because when I'm looking at parts
is
of
a
the
sick
screen, I'm
game plan.
missing
I
other
like it.
parts on the other screen.
I just picture
And
you like
then,
Willem Dafoe in front of the movie screen,
Just
just
like-
like trying to absorb it all.
I am 100%.
just naked in front of the screen. Oh,
The screen is mine.
oh God! I just had that
My
visual.
lobster. Fond of my lobster.
Fond of my Star Wars.
Taylor's just up in the room up there, just getting the projector just right on his body. He's just.
Oh.
Go check out our latest review.
Yeah.
What I was
Aye.
gonna ask you, so you guys can give your
Sorry for
overalls,
cutting you off.
but then what I was also gonna say in the overalls is what is just your feeling now? Because obviously, Force Awakens was our first solo movie review. What is just your feeling now on the trilogy as it's closed out and we're kind of done with this. So your overalls on the movie and just kind of the journey we've been on.
I'll start out here.
Mhm.
So I know pretty much I spent this entire review just shitting on this movie. I think the reason for that is because these guys were bringing up all the things that I liked as well, and I didn't really. There's no reason to like repeat exactly what they're saying, but there is a lot of stuff that I liked about this movie, and I did have fun with it in the theater. I just think there's like a ton of problems that I wanted to point out because I think it's worthy to point out.
Absolutely.
Now that the trilogy is wrapped up, oh man, it's kind of crazy. I think that the through line for me is Rey and Kylo, right? Because that was really fun to get the Force Awakens really setting everything up, getting introduced to all these characters. It's just like the beginning of it all. But even through Last Jedi, as much as that movie has its problems, I love that Rey and Kylo stuff. Through and through, I love that in that movie. Honestly, it didn't have quite the landing that I was hoping for. I liked them in this movie, but I think it's just some of the writing, some of the pacing stuff that takes me a little bit out of it. But overall, I think there's a lot of great characters that have been established with this trilogy. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I like what Travis was saying of doing just more solo movies, a spin-off with these characters. Not a spin-off in the way that Solo is a spin-off, but yeah, do a movie where, Rey and Finn are having some training sessions or something. I don't know what you want to do, but I think there's been enough established that you could do some fun stuff with these characters. And yes, it doesn't really feel like it's complete to me, which is kind of weird. It just kind of ended on a little bit of a sour note, but to me, I can still move on and be okay with that. So overall, I'd say is fun. Just in the 3 years, it's kind of crazy that we've had the entirety of this Star Wars trilogy within our podcast lifespan. It's kind of fun to look back on it that way as this documented thing that we were all super hyped on Force Awakens, and even I went to that same theater. Might have been even the same seat, honestly. So it was kind of fun to see the 7th and 9th in the same kind of spot as well. And yeah, it's kind of bittersweet, I guess. I don't think it's fully sunk in yet. It's trilogy's over, and we're not going to get maybe not another movie next year. Who knows when the next one's going to happen?
The next one's 2022.
4 years.
That's not 4 years.
That's 3.
5 weeks, 2 days.
It's all the same. Yeah, that's I think how I would close it out. I don't really want to give this a number. I guess in relation to other movies, I feel like in the grand scheme of things, all of Star Wars, because of the memes, the prequels are kind of my favorite from that perspective. But if I'm to take that out of it, realistically, I think Force Awakens is probably my favorite because even though, everyone I like the originals, they're fine. But to me, Force Awakens, yes, it is A New Hope, but it's better acted, it's better written, it looks better, it sounds better. So it's just a remastered version almost, a soft reboot, if you will. I don't know where I'd put this one in the grand scheme of things. I'd probably put it on par with the originals for me, maybe even above them, just because I'm not in love with those. I think it was a fun movie, even though it has a bunch of problems in a traditional sense. But yeah, I do feel I don't have a big final point to end on because I don't feel like this was an end point to me, which is kind of unfortunate. But it's the way it is.
Yeah. Just thinking of the trilogy as a whole, it's definitely wild just to think that from the very first episode, I guess you could call it, we were obviously on this podcast, so we were able to talk about it, get hyped for each of these movies. So that's really cool thinking about it. I totally agree with you. I don't think it's set in yet that this is the end of the saga. Also, I feel the fact that Disney just owns it, there's always gonna be Star Wars now for basically the rest of my life. I'm just anticipating.
Like Dr. Mahan says, nothing ever ends.
Yeah, no, nothing ever truly ends. No one's ever truly gone.
Dude, I actually just based on the locations of this movie, I can't wait for the Skywalker Saga Lego Star Wars game that's coming out next year.
It's gonna be so
that game's gonna be spicy.
New preview dropped today, so that means they're gonna yeah.
Gameplay footage or something?
No, just another cinematic.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out.
That
I'm really excited for that game actually.
Yeah,
that means we're gonna get some Raylo and Lego kissing.
What are they gonna do?
They have to do it. That's canon.
Yeah, I guess is that game when it comes out gonna have this episode?
They said it's the whole saga, so yeah.
Do you think they add that later though, or is it I guess we don't know when it comes out yet. They just said 2020.
No, I think
right?
it would be the whole bundle.
Yeah,
I think
so
it's
too.
further end of spring 2020.
It doesn't have a release date.
No, just like I said,
officially,
it's
It's gonna be so
Yeah.
good.
So
Are we
good.
gonna do some 4-player? I don't know, because you can't do 4-player in all the Lego games. Or
You'd swap in and swap out.
Yeah.
Was it
Two
always
twos?
4-player?
Well,
I
the
guess that
ones
was
are
just two.
two.
I guess
I thought it
primarily
was
2-player.
Yeah, we can swap in, swap out, do some commentary.
That'll be fun.
Let's
do it. Sorry to go ahead.
I'll share all my Raylo art.
No, that's hype.
for sure.
Yeah, so just think of the trilogy as a whole. I mean, Force Awakens is probably one of my most anticipated movies I've ever seen, probably not including I guess Endgame would probably be up there, and like Infinity War and stuff like that. But like just the fact that like I grew up on Star Wars, like my dad watched like the original back in the day, so he got me hyped when I was growing up, and then like he introduced me to those films, and then you watch. I mean, I don't really remember going to the theaters for the prequels, but it definitely happened. And just all the memes that have come from it, and just like Star Wars, like as a whole, of just like I don't know, people relate it to just like the hope that it gives people, just like all the different parallelisms to like everyday life. It's such an important part of my life, and just like the cult or like the fan, whatever you'd call it, the fan family love, just like
fandom.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. It's just it's so awesome, and like there are like in aspects of everything, there's always toxic people, and like that, like there's always gonna be, I don't know, people just bitching about hating about everything. But then there's also the people that just love Star Wars as a whole, and it's so awesome like interacting with those people. And like I don't know, you see someone wearing a Star Wars shirt, and you can just like totally like
people come to the theater with helmets on.
Yeah, no, it's fucking hype. Like it just gets you excited, and so just like having, like you said, like a modern day. Like, cause the prequels, the CGI is so overused on it, and like it's so unpolished and like
colorful.
very dated. Yeah, very colorful. It's very awkward. So like seeing just remastered version of what I feel is like a remaster of the originals, where the originals, yeah, they're definitely dated because they came out so many years ago, but like the story that it has and the characters that introduced, I felt like this was like a remastered version of that. I think like the originals trilogy is just forever gonna have like the top spot in my heart, just because that was like the introductory to Star Wars for everyone. And I don't know, it's just so, I don't know what it is about it, but I think nothing will ever beat the original trilogy.
It's got
but
the special sauce.
yeah, I think this is definitely like the trilogy underneath of it, and then the prequels. But like you said, the prequels just are so like meme worthy in a weird way that like I fucking love watching them, but. Quality
There's
wise,
nothing better than just like typing Anakin into the GIF keyboard on Facebook and just seeing like him do the like the waltz when he's looking really angry.
Oh fuck yeah!
So
No, it's quality,
so good.
and like the characters it's introduced. Never thought of like seeing like a saber like the one that Kylo has. Just so many like new things that is introduced. I don't know. I really like it, and yeah, I don't really know where I was gonna end with that, but like,
Are you gonna give a rating? to
Yeah,
this
what's
movie?
rating for the Rise of Skywalker?
a rating
movie.
for the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's interesting because I definitely have to see it again and like sit with it, because like I said, when I left the theater, I didn't even know where the fuck where I was sitting on the movie. Like I didn't know if I loved
You were
it, if I
sitting next to
hated it.
me.
Yes, I was. That's true. But like I don't know, rating wise, I had no idea. And then I slept on it. And then when I woke up, I was just like, man, that movie was pretty wild, actually. Like thinking about the positive and negative of it. And so I think I'm gonna have to give it. I think like where I was sitting was a 7. But honestly, I've never seen so much like Sith like stuff introduced into a movie, and I'm such a fan of that stuff because we never really see it, and like the only time I see that stuff is in like books and stuff. So I'm gonna have to give this an 8, honestly, like a whole point of like up,
Clean 8.
because they talked about just like when they found the dagger, and they have like this broken down, like it's like a Sith loyalist like vehicle, something that they've never even talked about like in any other movies, probably Clone Wars or Rebels. I've never really dove into that, so I don't know too much about that stuff.
This was a new thing, I would say, altogether with this.
Okay.
This is where they invented like that Sith logo for
yeah,
the first time. So
Sick
really
logo.
sick, and just seeing like what's the planet again? Exegol. Exegol. Yeah, I just fucking
It's like
love that
hexagon.
planet. I love seeing like the Sith acolytes, the Sith statues, all of this like ancient stuff. It just got me hoping that we get like a Sith series or something for Disney Plus. I know it's a little bit darker, but they could do it. I trust Disney. Come on now. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give it an 8 out of 10.
Clean.
I think it's similar to what I gave Last Jedi, because I was kind of feeling similar when I left it. But like I said, I have to see it again.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch the movie again. I'm not going to go to the theater tomorrow like
No, yeah.
Mr. Field, but when it
Do you have your
hits
ticket already?
when it hits Disney when do you think it'll hit
no,
Disney Plus?
Madison.
3 months after DVD release, so sometime in the summer.
That's a long time away.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah.
movie will be in the theaters.
It'll be on Plex before that.
Shane's working.
Yeah,
watch
yeah.
it early.
It'll be in the theaters for quite a while. So.
Yeah.
Taylor, what did you feel about this trilogy and this movie?
This trilogy. So right off the bat, I'm gonna say it is unfortunately visible the inconsistency of having different directors throughout this project
And writers.
And
I think
writers.
that's a big thing. I think that's the biggest
And-
thing, because George Lucas at least was the through line for the prequels and the originals.
Yeah.
It went from JJ
Yeah.
to Lawrence Kasdan to Ryan
That's
Johnson
something
to
I forgot
Chris
to mention
Terrio.
on my overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as unfortunate as that is, again, I feel like they did the best with what they could, and I'm okay with that. Again, I'm happy with this movie. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of stuff in it that, it tickled my itch and just made me feel very, very...
It wasn't dirty until you did that menacing laugh, and then it became dirty.
I love democracy.
Do it. Yeah, it's just... As a movie, it unfortunately it did have elements that were rushed, but that being said, I still can get on board with. Do you watch that before bed?
Is that
Every night.
Raylo?
Oh yeah, some kissing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw Taylor off.
Screensaver.
That's so good.
It will be eventually.
But yeah, he sends that to me like every 5 seconds in the chat.
I've sent that to him all day. When we were talking about what the thumbnail was, I was like, boom. I haven't sent in the GV one because I know
in like a month you can change it to that, but it's too big of a spoiler.
that's
for
why I
me.
haven't dropped it.
Yeah.
Wow, Kirklin doesn't care about Taylor or my final thoughts.
Oh, wow.
That was not directed at the fans. That was directed at
No.
us. We will take the middle finger to ourselves personally.
Pee on his coat.
I've got a full bladder. I'm ready to go.
So yeah, this movie though, like, yeah, as I said, I enjoyed it. For me as a Star Wars fan, this is ending and closing out this whole Skywalker series. And the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters was Revenge of the Sith. I remember it. I remember walking through those doors. I remember seeing people dressed up as Twi'leks, as Jedi. It was a great time.
Those were actual Twi'leks.
Real, yeah.
What were those?
It was awesome. I remember getting a Star Wars Revenge of the Sith clone Lego set that same day. It was just it was one of my earliest
Shout out to
memories.
Lego sets, man.
Oh, just shout
That was
us
the
all the
dream.
way. Like, this is one of my earliest memories as a Star Wars fan that I can vividly remember in my mind, and it brings such happiness to me. And that's where it really swung me in, because I remember like I had seen every year like the originals would come on like cable TV. I remember like. I didn't own them on VHS as a little kid, but I remember like they would always come on in the summertime, and I always make sure like, oh, they're on TV, I'm gonna watch them. Like, I love these movies so much, and that was the only time I got to really watch the original movies. And then finally, like, yeah, Revenge of the Sith came out, got to watch that, and it was such a great time to be a fan. And I never thought that we would get more Star Wars movies. I would always Google it every few years to see if like, is George Lucas gonna do a 7, 8, and 9? Like, when is it coming out?
I don't think I will.
It never seemed like it was going to be a possibility. The closest was maybe a Boba Fett movie. Who knows? But like, even then, just it seemed like it was dead in the water. But, just when they sold the movie rights and everything to Disney, and it seemed like, okay, there is hope. We're going to get new movies. They announced it. Working at Target, I remember Travis was like, did you watch like that footage for, The Force
American
Awakens?
Thanksgiving is when the very first teaser dropped, and yeah, that's when we probably bonded a bit.
Yeah, that was our first Bond session. I remember I watched it. I was like, wow, this is like, I can't believe this is happening. And just it was such a crazy thing. And to be, us as a group being able to watch The Force Awakens and review it, that was just so legendary and so magical. And it blew my mind. And just knowing that, okay, we're on a full steam ahead, and it followed up with Rogue One, which for me, it blew my mind.
Oh no, we got to Rogue One.
It carried on this this journey, and then we got the next year Last Jedi, and the next year Solo, and they were just continue going on, and I can definitely understand the rift in the community, and it definitely saddens me as a fan, because I felt like the Star Wars community was always one force that was just unified as a fandom, and it was awesome. And now it's just been very much divided, and it really saddens my heart to see a community just separated.
To make you to feel better about that, I bet it was always divided. Social media just didn't exist.
Yeah, that's a
Hey,
very
there you
fair
go.
point. I will agree with that.
So is social media just destroying everything.
Just fucking annihilating.
Society as we
Follow us
know
on
it.
Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
We'll destroy you.
But then coming, full circle to this movie, like I can't believe where it just seems like yesterday we were reviewing Force Awakens, and now we are here, with the conclusion to this. And it just, this movie, I really enjoyed it. I think, so many elements that just made me happy, made me sad, and just to really not even, like you guys said, be aware and take in the fact that this is the end of the Skywalker movies to this point, and this whole kind of like saga. It is very overwhelming. Like last night, after I saw the film, I went home and I played the soundtrack on Spotify, and I just sat for about like 2-3 hours just on my phone, like looking at a few theories, just kind of taking it in quiet, like
just sitting there.
I was
listening
gonna
to
say,
it.
like,
2-3
lights are
hours.
all off,
Yeah.
eyes wide open.
like it was a very exhausting in a good way feeling, just kind of to take in everything that happened. And I won't feel like this is properly like the ending until I rewatch it a couple more times to really like take in that fact. But for me, this movie, I'm gonna give it a very, to me, I've thought about what I want to give it. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. And my biggest,
It's respectable. I thought the 10 was coming.
I'm actually shocked. Right now.
Yeah, I respect you a lot.
My only con is that I do wish that I don't like that it was rushed, and I wish that this was our episode 8, or that they just bit the bullet and said, you know what, we're not gonna just stick with the trilogy, but we're gonna do a 9, and then we're going to follow up with a 10. We're going to take the time necessary for this franchise that we want to have respect for, and we want you guys to see that we have respect and have respect for this franchise as well, and we're going to take the time to continue this story and end it properly. And I feel
and
like
I don't even think that just comes across as like a money grab anymore. After Infinity War Endgame, after Harry Potter doing that with their final movie as well, like it's worth doing in the end. Then you flesh out that ending, right?
Yeah, I'm not overly like a big fan of like the part 1, part 2 thing, but I feel like in this case, like your Infinity War and your Endgame, when you explain it with with reason, and it's not like it's following a book where like the one book needs to be divided into 2 parts, like a Twilight thing. But in this sense, where you guys are writing the story, you can do whatever you want. And I feel like Kathleen Kennedy coming out and saying, we're gonna drift or break free from the trilogy thing. I feel like you don't have to break free from anything. You guys have this franchise, and you can do whatever you want with it. So I feel like what you're saying is unjustified, and it's kind of it doesn't have enough weight behind it.
I get what she's saying though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens with Star Wars after this point. Now
Very
give it like
interesting.
a few more weeks in the box office to see what's gonna happen. It's just like it's not doing good in China. It's very much Donnie Yen's IP Man 4 is just fucking annihilating it.
I always thought it was It Man. I'm probably wrong.
I don't
It's
know.
just that's what I thought in my mind.
I will say, just because you guys have brought up the end of the Skywalker, something we completely forgot. Well, just very quickly, what do you guys feel about Rey taking the Skywalker name and that little Tatooine ending there? We didn't even talk about that. I really liked it. I like the symbolism, them bearing the lightsabers.
Yeah,
even
good
though
old Force dig, a new power as well.
I just thought she was pushing
Force
it down.
dig.
So dumb.
I thought it was a fun closure.
dumb.
Obviously,
Go
we
on
talked
now.
about the lightsaber. She saw the Force Ghost. That was a little too much for Return of the Jedi. But I like it. I know some people are like, I think it works a few ways that they kind of adopted it in. And really, you can kind of say, hey, that's Ben Solo's, that's his girlfriend by family, so she can take the name. I know it'd be like Rey Solo, but I'm fine with it. And that's why the Skywalker legacy continues. That's why I still don't buy that this is the final for me. I guess that's in my overalls.
I at first I wasn't sure about it, but doing some thinking, I do like it because I feel like Palpatine just is such a negative name to it.
You're
It's
not
like,
gonna go
it's
around and
like-
be like, my name's Kirklin Hitler.
Yeah, I was literally just gonna say
Oh,
that. It's like
100%.
you definitely change your name at
Right
that
off the
point.
H
So
card.
and like I don't know the moment between like Leia and Luke and this and like I don't know a little mirage I guess you could call it. Or I
Yeah.
guess they're actually Force ghosts at that point.
Yeah.
But I really liked it, so it was cool. But at
Mhm.
first I was a little unsure, and then
And
Dylan-
I was hoping that was Shmi.
I was
the
gonna
old
say
lady.
Dylan ran that by me, and I love it.
Yeah, the old
that
lady is
was.
just somehow Shmi
She's
survived.
so like delirious.
Still on
Just, like-
Tatooine.
It reminded me of Solo. Like, who are your people?
was that the only thing I was wrong? Was that I thought it wasn't that the same old lady she saw in Force Awakens, the cleaner? Remember in Force Awakens, there's this moment where she's cleaning and she sees the old lady and she's worried that's
I'd
going
have
to
to
be 30 years.
revisit it. I don't.
I bet that's her.
It
But wasn't
could
that on
be.
Jakku?
That was on Jakku.
It's not her.
Yeah, no, that's a different planet.
But and she also has Ben Solo's essence in her as well. So
Essence.
she is kind of a
Oh,
Skywalker.
definitely got the essence.
Oh yeah.
How do I? I don't know. I'm pretty neutral on it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think the funny part is like, imagine it from that lady's point of view. She's like, "What's your name?" She's like, "Ray." Turns her head to the right for like 20 seconds. Skywalker. Like, think about how weird of a
She
comment.
just like walks
Yeah, like
away.
that lady's crazy. Like, no one trusts her. Like, she's really weird.
You liked it too? I just thought we should mention this before we
Yeah, no,
close
that's
out.
definitely worth mentioning for sure. I really enjoyed it. I like the idea of her taking the name. I think it's definitely validated. You don't go around telling people like, "Hey, my name's Ray Palpatine." They're gonna look at you like you're fucking psycho.
Especially if you say it like that.
Waving around your yellow lightsaber.
Yeah. There's still part of me that maybe wishes it was Solo, though, to be honest. She
Ray
spent
Solo.
more time with Han, and Leia.
she did,
opposed
and
to Luke.
like
and,
Need to be like an Imperial general.
Like-
Say that to her.
yeah.
a part of me always wanted Ben Solo to be Ben Skywalker because they focused on his Skywalker lineage
Yeah.
so much more than the fact like his Solo.
You know why I'm okay with it?
so-
Because of the origin of where the name Solo comes from. Some
That's
fucking
true.
random ass border guard because he was alone.
But no, I really do appreciate her taking on that name, and I like how it does set up the future of what could happen, and I think it just does wonders for the fan base. It doesn't have to.
For some people don't
for
like it,
some.
but
some people don't like it.
Oh, yeah,
boy.
Some people aren't
all
gonna like
gonna
it.
be
There's
different.
absolutely
Oh,
any
boy.
detail someone doesn't like. Right?
I think everyone
That's
loves
the thing.
Baba Freak.
Oh
Really?
yeah.
I think everyone's-
Ah!
It definitely reminded me of like Men in Black, like one of those
Yeah,
characters.
for sure.
The
The
new
new one.
one,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, this has been a great journey. This trilogy is just like life. It had its high highs, it has low lows. I think this movie had a lot of those low lows, and I think the trilogy overall, it did suffer from not having a cohesive vision. Yeah, George changed some things in the prequels and more the OG ones, but it was always George's vision, right? And I think they need to get back to that. I think talk about Feige all the time. I think the next time, whoever it is, you need a clear vision, and I hope that would kind of detour from all these kind of plot holes and mistakes and just carelessness that we did end up getting, unfortunately, and maybe even like retconning. But
Mm-hmm.
to me, the trilogy overall, it wasn't a home run if you look at the whole thing, but to me, I think we got great moments. We got some really cool to great characters. We also got it in a time where I would rather get these films than never got to see Harrison Ford be back as Han Solo or Carrie Fisher or Mark Hamill or all these people. And especially to me, Harrison Ford, that's a great performance. He really came to play in Force Awakens, and there's some really good moments, some things that I love. There's some things that, just like the prequel, I really wish they didn't do it. And there's some things, this is definitely, I like this movie, but it's definitely the most disappointing out of the three, even though I'd still rank it above Last Jedi. I think Force Awakens was a great kickoff. Last Jedi was a mixed bag, and this was a very wobbly finale. But the thing for me that I'll always have, there's lots of great stuff, but is the Reylo stuff. And that, obviously we joke a lot, and lots of art and memes and stuff like that. But really, I think it is a unique, and that's why I was so passionate when they did kill him, because I think it was a very unique. You look at so many franchises, and it's this weird lover's quarrel between the antagonist and the protagonist. We talked about this before with maybe Anakin, but really we've never seen Star Wars, the villain's perspective of his journey throughout, whether it's Force Awakens, Last Jedi, or this. I agree with Dylan that I think Last Jedi, those Kylo and Rey scenes are some of the top tier, arguably the best Star Wars ever been. And that's what I mean.
Agree.
And that's where if we didn't get those moments, I'd be very much down. So that's why, we had maybe a disappointing finale, but we still had some good stuff along the way. This movie, I will score because that's what I do. I think I'm going to give it.
Get the mask. You said you were gonna get the mask.
Oh yeah, put the mask on.
Get a lump in.
Hopefully y'all can hear me. I got to see, can you even pick me up? Very barely.
I don't have headphones on.
You know what? The mask is going to go away. just like Adam Driver should have ditched it. I am in, like I said, I've been in situations where I think this movie could be a fail. I'm in a situation where this movie could be a 7. I'm going to give you a range of being a 6.5 to 7. And I know it sounds low, but that's because they made a lot of mistakes, and it was just a carbon copy of Return of the Jedi, unfortunately. That really hurt it. So that's why I'm in this range. And even though, like I said, some days to me, I woke up, I was like, I'm going to fail this movie today because it was so lazy and poorly written. It just depends how it hits you at the time. So ask me in a year. Same thing, Last Jedi was an 8, and as I sit with it, it kind of dropped down to 7, lower. So that's what happens. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot of movie. I got to see it again. But it's like a 6.57. It's like a C+. That's what I'd give it. It's like a C+. I'll always have the Reylo. I always have that fucking Reylo kiss. I can't believe that happened. And I do think Adam Driver, Kylo Ren is, I think next to the Joker, just ruining my send-off. I think next to the Joker, for me, Kylo Ren has become my favorite villain of all time. I think he's the greatest Star Wars character of all time. There was maybe some tough rushing in this movie, but they just really leveled them out. And I hope we get more. And that's exactly what I said earlier. Seeing that new lightsaber, I hope that means whether it is the Disney Plus shows, the movies, we're just on to greater and better things. We remade kind of the original trilogy just to get people re-familiar with Star Wars. So I hope the future is bright, and I'm hopeful because
I'm
you know
all
what
the
they gave us some good stuff. There's also other stuff like a Solo and a Rogue One for myself, but
Right.
that's life. And I hope Kevin Feige does do a Star Wars. I hope lots of things happen, and I hope in a few years we are talking about stars and we get that excitement. And we see
Yeah.
that trailer. So
It's kind of crazy that Force Awakens is like 4 Star Wars movies ago.
yeah, it's crazy.
Wow,
So.
eh?
Yeah,
Wow.
overall, really like Trilogy. Love it more than the prequels. Definitely go that route. But yeah, it was a fun ride. It was a good ride. I'm glad we went on it. Yeah, I got some problems, but I got a lot of good stuff too. So.
Well said. Well said.
Mhm.
What's that,
Taylor,
what's that?
where can they find us?
Now this is pod racing.
Oh.
It's not on.
Well, there's just a button on the side.
It doesn't really like amplify your voice. It just
Oh, it's pretty
No,
bad.
it doesn't.
kind of gurgles.
Black Series.
Black Series. Before I shut that out, I just want one more thing I gotta drop here.
Okay.
I love that I can. Ooh. I love that I can pick a movie from each different basically like era that are my like top 5. I got my Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, and my Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens, all in like my top tier
Nice.
up there. It makes me happy that I have like a favorite from each different.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of
cool.
It
point.
makes me happy.
Yeah, it's cool.
It
It's
personally
cool.
makes me happy. And what's happening next week for Star Wars action?
Next week we got the Mandalorian finale. That's gonna be wild. I
Kinda
can't wait to
crazy.
see. Yeah,
More
it's
Clone Wars
amazing.
retro. Me and Taylor have a bunch of cantinas
Beautiful.
planned.
Oh,
Me and
yeah.
Taylor, we're gonna do an in-depth on Kylo Ren, his whole journey, but then also with the comic book coming out, we're gonna do a future Star Wars cast. We're gonna do a rankings episode, so we got lots of cantina
Sweet.
stuff. You got lots of Star Wars still on the way, even though it's ended.
Oh
Me
yeah.
and Taylor are pushing that force out.
Like look
Pushing.
forward. Like the Clone Wars season 7's coming around, just around the corner. It's gonna be good stuff.
We'll be reviewing the whole thing. Where can they find all that?
They can find all that with your internet connection in the search bar, ladies and gentlemen. Geek for Space podcast. Lots of juicy stuff. Lots of Star Wars stuff. Just lots of prequel memes.
True.
It's just we got a little bit of everything. Just a lot of Star Wars stuff right now because Star Wars is just popping.
It's that time of the
Mhm.
year.
True.
It's that time.
Would you call Star Wars a Christmas movie because it comes out at Christmas?
100%.
100%.
What do you think?
There's
And we
always a
got
snow planet or
100%?
ice.
No, I would say no as well.
I'd say 300% actually.
Okay, 300%.
So you didn't agree? He didn't agree, but I cover
So
all you.
50-50?
Yeah.
All right. 300. Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
exactly.
Taylor's talking about the things we have, and we have great things like that situation just happened right there.
Oh,
but
Wait, what?
I gotta shout out Jessica and Tyler because they've been on some Star Wars review. But I'll shout you guys because
Yep.
we're at 3.5, but I think this was a great review. It was
5
good,
movies
you know.
down,
Let's put
all
some
4 of
plus-
us?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I'm
We
sad
did
that
too.
I put
Briggs,
2 hands in
I'm
for some
sad that
reason.
Briggs wasn't here because his
ran
first
out.
cast with us was Force Awakens.
And he
was it
fucking
not?
hated this
He
movie.
ran out of the
didn't-
movie.
He disliked it more than I.
He got rose ticoed though, you know. He got ridden off in the 5 minutes.
I'd say he
but-
got huxed more like it.
maybe.
He was
But,
expecting
yeah.
more rose.
He's a
and then when-
traitor. Yeah, he's a traitor.
And the other person I want to thank is obviously it's at the end of the year. We'll do this too, but it's just you fans because you guys have
Yeah.
been with us. Whether it was the very beginning, whether it was Endgame you jumped on, but Force Awakens was our first official, just straight up movie review. So it's like a nice
Damn.
closing loop.
That's true.
And thank you to everyone that tuned in this. If you're still with us right now, long podcast, but I think that's what you guys like. And let
Mhm.
us know whether it is Facebook or Twitter or the YouTube comments, what you
Yeah.
thought, you thought we're totally wrong on, what we're right on, what your opinions are. We love interacting with the fans.
Shouts
Check
to
out-
Clay.
yeah, shout outs to Clay, shout outs to everybody. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Just go to the description below. The video and audio feeds are there. So whenever you hear from us next time, it will not be boring. And may the force be with you.
Always.
Raylo kissed. They kissed.
They smooched.